On his 16th birthday, the hero kicked off his life as an adventurer. Now 4 wild years have already crashed by. The gates are cracking open, and everything's about to explode. The tall warrior whips around to start crafting. He blurts out to the Cyrillic letter 4D9 CKED hero that he's been kicked out as a temporary mage. The warrior can't stop wondering, was that craft real magic all along? 3 adventurers jump the hero mid-stride and start yelling that he's totally useless for the job. They'll even swallow the idea that his magical crest is a fake, because Kraft can only pull off basic magic, so he just clamps down on his staff even harder. One of the adventurers hammers out a conclusion about Kraft's true profession. He blurts out that he's got zero talent for adventuring, and the hero can only swallow that truth. So yeah, Kraft gets booted from the group again, and you can practically hear him asking, how many more times is he gonna get dragged back into this mess? When Kraft shows up in front of the guild's secretary, he already knows the whole story, because the hero's confirmation comes through sobbing tears. Then the secretary leans in and politely tells Kraft exactly what he's thinking. She's absolutely sure that this Kraft just isn't built for an adventurer, and it's not even the first time he's been kicked out of the team. Kraft busts his tail trying to become a real strong mage, but every time he lands in a team, he leaves before it even clicks. He has nothing to tell the secretary. His magic is so weak that even the tiniest monsters keep getting him into trouble, and he's constantly the one everyone has to rescue. Kraft could only scrape together the basics of magic, like summoning water, but beyond that, he hit a wall. He's stuck panicking as endless rejections hammer through his mind like flashbacks he can't escape. Suddenly, the secretary rushes in with shocking news. The Builders Guild has just filed a request. This request hits different. Our hero is locked in and actually wants to know. Construction of a brand new village on a hidden road near the border is about to kick off any day now. They're hunting for someone who can hold the line long enough to make it through. The hero realizes he can only do it by walking out of the Adventurers Guild for good. He's fully aware that quitting the guild won't change a thing, and he refuses to take the offer, while the secretary keeps insisting this place is perfect for him, since it barely demands any real fighting skills. Because Kraft is a terrible mage with zero gift for adventuring, he has no choice, he can only agree. He tells the secretary he'll accept the request, then leans in and demands a full breakdown of every last detail. The secretary's jaw drops at how easily they comply, so she scrambles to lay out every detail, and just like that, Kraft gets cut out of the Adventurers Guild. Kraft gets absolutely inspired. He's convinced this moment is about to flip his whole life onto a new track. He's got one burning dream in his chest, becoming a professional builder one day. He's ready to break out and run this new business on his own, then the noise hits and ruins his focus. Loaders sprint by, hauling a crushing bundle on their shoulders. Kraft clocks it immediately. Life is already roaring around him at full blast. He froze in the middle of the square, surrounded by a swarm of people rushing around him. A voice cuts through the chaos, calling out to him. He strides in, baffled by what this Kraft is doing here, and he can only work up the nerve to ask, "Where's the registrar?" Rage still boils in the man's chest as he snaps, asking who Kraft is trying to register, as then the second he hears the hero came from the Adventurers Guild, his whole attitude flips instantly. The stranger tightens his arms around Kraft, blurts out thanks, and then tells his coworkers he'll be gone for a while, before stepping out to personally see the guy off. At the Builders Guild, the stranger shows up and tells our hero, "I've been waiting for you." Turns out this guy is the guild leader. When the hero drops his full name, walking in like a pro, the guild leader goes wild, screaming that it's an amazing name for a builder. He's grinning because even the Kraft can't resist the fun anymore. While the guild leader fills out paperwork for Kraft, he spots that Kraft is a mage. Then Kraft laughs it off, insisting he's just a talentless nobody who, after 4 long years of training, still can't do a single thing. The leader doesn't buy it for a second. He grills the hero, asking if he's tested his crest's powers, and the hero admits he hasn't. Kraft was born in a village that overflowed with magic, so they handed him a coat of arms as proof, and that's basically all he can say, because the leader wants him to take it to a priest and get its powers tested. The hero refuses because this price tag is brutal, but the leader flashes confidence and swears they've got everything under control. Kraft can't help but wonder why they're being so kind to him, and the leader answers, "If you're really a craftsman under all that talent, this will explode into something huge." Kraft gets it, but he's absolutely convinced his coat of arms won't work for magic. He says he'll think over the offer, then right on cue, the leader snaps to a nearby man in a tall cap perched at the counter. It's a priest serving as the herald's right-hand man, who steps up politely and asks if Kraft wants to see what his coat of arms can truly do. Kraft nods and the priest slams into the ritual right away. The system is checking the code behind arms powers, like it's hunting for the exact reason they're working, or not. Suddenly, the attendant goes still. Shock hits like lightning. Kraft can't wrap his head around it. He's completely baffled, like there's no way this can be real. The priest leans in and admits he's never seen anything more mismatched than his craft and the coat of arms he's forced to use. The incompatibility is so brutal that even wearing the coat of arms could wreck the guy's health, and Kraft can't believe what she's just learned. The folks around him are just as stunned as he is. Kraft looks like it's about to drop straight into fainting. The minister demands they switch the coat of arms right now, and honestly, an incompatible coat of arms shouldn't even function at all, unless you're talking about those ultra-rare exceptions. Kraft still can't believe his eyes. Right in front of stunned spectators, the priest declares he'll rewrite the coat of arms right now, and Kraft just goes along. The hero leans in and asks, "So which coat of arms fits me best?" The attendant swears the crest with the rarest power is the perfect one for the craft. Twilight Alchemist's craft is so strange, it doesn't even know what it's doing. Every single person gasps in awe as the guild leader snatches the craft with unstoppable excitement. He'd never even heard of the Twilight Alchemist. Turns out that crest marks a tiny twist from the normal alchemist. So yeah, this alchemist crest is a big deal, but the Twilight Alchemist has never shown up, and up in here, there are crests that boost your rank even higher, building on the basic ones. Twilight Alchemist keeps the basic alchemist rules, so right now, the main character is sitting at the top, the strongest alchemist of them all. That name feels so weird because it's just a placeholder. Nobody's ever had a coat of arms like this before. The minister cooked up this idea to drill one truth into the protagonist. If he masters alchemy, he'll be able to forge gold with his own hands. When someone asks if he'll agree to change the coat of arms, Kraft freezes up for a second, then he bids farewell to the old one. Finally, he grabs the priest and demands he swap the coat of arms so the old one can be freed from its suffering. The minister leans in, tells him not to worry, and kicks off the conversion ritual right away. At last, the minister barks out the name, Twilight Alchemist ***, and the whole ritual snaps shut, leaving a fresh mark blazing on the hero's hand. The hero's hand starts glowing, and a tidal wave of mind-blowing magic rushes through his entire body, filling him up completely. He can't wrap his mind around it. His magic is really happening. That hand carries a golden coat of arms, and the priest insists it's the top-ranked one among all the colored symbols. He's never heard anything like this, and you bet he's gonna tell everyone he knows about the pattern. The hero clocks the servant's face and asks him why he did it, and the servant just shrugs, saying he was only doing his job. A strange girl blurts out, way too loud as if she can't hold it in. This is Letha Hemon's very first time laying eyes on an alchemist, and not just any alchemist, a terrifyingly high-level one, while the guild leader steps in and formally introduces them. Lifa, a member of the team racing toward the border, crashes into Kraft. While Lifa gushes about how amazing it'd be to have an alchemist in the party, Kraft cuts in and demands how a tiny girl like her even made it to the border. Then the guild leader lets out a warm, indulgent chuckle. He says Lifa isn't just showing up, she's taking charge of the whole group, and Kraft is stunned. Then the leader snaps that sending an alchemist that good to the border is pure madness, but Lifa barrels in and loudly objects. She snatches the hero into her arms and presses in close, holding on tight like she has zero plans to let him go. Kraft is completely baffled. Lifa and their leader are still going at it, and they're fighting over where they should send him. The leader clocks Kraft's confusion and drops the truth. Lifa isn't just human, she's part dwarf, and she's way older than she lets on. Rage hits Lifa like a thunderclap, and she swings a huge hammer at the leader with a brutal threat. The leader bows and apologizes to Lifa, and Kraft can't help but think, yeah, he's actually way too weak. Kraft pleads with Lifa to let him go, and yeah, he's still painfully awkward. Then the leader cracks another joke about Lifa's age. She slams down like a sledgehammer, smashing the floor with terrifying force. The entire building screams as the beams snap and come crashing down. Lifa says the repair money will be pulled straight from the Builders Guild, and everyone nods along, while Kraft seethes, convinced the leader himself is the one to blame. The Builders Guild head brags with pride about just how strong Lifa is, then his smile fades, because he can't shake his worries about the village manager. The border count's direct lineage is right at the center of this case. Kraft can't wrap his head around how some nobleman could possibly rule just one border village, and then the chapter spills the details on how he negotiates to make it work. But he can't shake it. If they've got a half-dwarf and a twilight alchemist backing them up, maybe they can pull it off. Still, Kraft's gut is screaming that something's wrong. But this is his very first job as an alchemist, so he clenches his teeth and goes all in, trying harder than ever. Next morning hits, and everyone's itching to escape right now, while Lifa promises, as soon as the wagons are fully loaded, we're gone. Rows of carts piled up with luggage, like the whole guild was packing up to roll out together. But it only looks that way because they roll in and pack up every last thing the settlers will need in their new home. The hero stands there, watching the carts get loaded. The hero's luggage vanishes into a spatial storage, and Kraft somehow masters the skill overnight, right the moment he becomes an alchemist. When Kraft finally spills this to the headmaster and Lifa, their faces light up with pure shock, because Kraft never saw that kind of reaction coming. The leader has no clue this skill even exists, and Lifa swears it's so rare it might as well be legend. They demand Kraft use it right now, and the leader scrambles to find someone, or something, to try it on. It's a mountain of bricks strapped in like a nightmare. Kraft tries to sweet-talk his way out, but the boss won't back down and keeps pushing him to agree. Lifa steps up to back the leader. Then he admits the bricks are brutally heavy and super compact, so you can instantly judge just how much Kraft storage can really hold, and he swears this is the smartest way to test the skill. Sure, he couldn't possibly survive this. The hero channeled his power, launched a spell, and slammed it straight onto the cart. To his shock, it all goes flawlessly. Then the cart vanishes straight into the vault, and the whole crew freezes in stunned silence. It barely took effort, though it's wild that this move actually holds up under that huge load, so the hero hustles to put the cart back in place, and boom, he makes it happen. Kraft can't hide his excitement. He's never felt magic this powerful in his life. The hero tells himself that if alchemy fails, he'll at least switch to loading jobs, while the leader demands everyone stack all the cards together, because he's about to fire up Kraft. The power hits every card all at once, and the whole crowd explodes with happiness. Kraft and Lifa are being surrounded by an eager crowd, staring at them like they just witnessed greatness. Their joyful smiles yank the hero's nerves to the surface, and even with all those doubts from the guild's craft experts, the guild's head still hands him money to cover the transport of the goods. Seriously, if word spreads that an alchemist this powerful is doing it for free, Kraft is going to be in deep trouble. With grateful faces all around him, the hero leans back and thinks, I finally made enough to coast for 2 months in pure comfort, just from one skill alone. Then he can't stop admiring his brand new coat of arms. Lifa strides up to Kraft and barks, from now on, don't use those formalities with me, just call me Lifa. Now every guildmate has his back like family, and he finally gets to call her by that cute short name. Everyone's buzzing with excitement, because this team is stacked with powerhouse teammates. Lifa shoots the hero a good luck, and he flashes back his thanks. So the hero turned into a twilight alchemist and stepped into a brand new life with fearless confidence. So Kraft Walken is a cursed mage. Every time he tries to join a team, they shut him out again and again. Still, he doesn't stop. He finds his true calling, and once he gets the strongest magical crest, Twilight Alchemist, he heads to Kaitaku village to work as a full-time alchemist. Kraft and Lifa head to the ceremony where they send off the Pioneer Corps, and though Kraft has zero idea what's going on, Lifa assures him it's nothing, just a tradition. He prays the ceremony won't drag on and pushes Lifa to wrap it up fast. But before they could even breathe, the square exploded with marching soldiers and gleaming armor. The guild master is furious. He begged to simplify the ceremony. Then the warrior leader fires back, saying the guest has traveled a long way and he has to be greeted with full dignity. A towering nobleman bursts out from behind the soldiers and faces the commander with a sharp greeting. His name is Zaid Gassadal Vale. Everyone drops to one knee. Lifa leans in close and whispers the whole situation to the kneeling Kraft. Don't kneel, this isn't some official royal visit. It's just a regular meetup. Zid starts to snap, saying his younger brother is the one running the village of Kaitak. Kyle Gassadal Wade steps forward too, small as can be, and the crowd erupts into puzzled whispers. The leader slams down his worry. His boss is a tiny kid, and Kraft and Lifa glare ahead in disgust, while the hero's gut screams that something's seriously wrong. Turns out Kyle isn't alone. There's a tiny girl with him, and it's his younger sister, Mina Vale, but Kyle says there's more going on than he can just explain. Because of them, the boy hauled his sister with him, and when the leader tried to stop him, the boy snapped at Zaid to remember the children's safety. This village is a death trap, but Zaid already knew that. Zaid leans in and asks the boy, "You ready for the hike?" And the boy nods, "Yeah," so Zaid shrugs it off and says there's nothing to worry about. And the aristocrat hammers the point down. If anything goes wrong, the expedition leader gets the blame, and he'll make sure everyone pays. Kraft knows Zaid's real move is to hand his younger brother a chance to prove himself with words, only it's a trap of an impossible test that'll wreck Kyle's reputation. The boy clamps his fists tight with unwavering resolve as the aristocrat keeps screaming, and right when it peaks, Kraft cuts in, interrupting Zaid. Right in front of a terrified Lifa and Glava, he thunders that he's certain their plan will succeed. The girl's nerves are on fire, Zaid can't take his eyes off her, and Kraft clocks the boy and snaps. He reminds me of my own childhood, so I'm helping Kyle, because unlike Kraft, this kid isn't doing it solo. Kraft is going to show everyone that the boy isn't useless, because he's certain that they'll crack every problem soon and come back standing tall as victors. Zaid froze in pure disbelief, while the guild members ripped their hands to their heads in shock. Out of nowhere, the aristocrat erupted into wild laughter. He admits the Kraft is brave, but still calls out his own rudeness, yet he's convinced the settlers are about to have a really bad time. He snaps around, heads out, calls the guys out with a quick good luck, and reminds them, above everything else, the result is what matters most. The hero can't believe it. This is the worst send-off ceremony of his life. The head and Lifa crowd in and demand how he had the nerve to pull something like this. Kraft snaps and just can't hold back anymore. Kyle suddenly cuts in mid-showdown and demands to know what drove Kraft to step in. The leader and Lifa crash to the ground at once, yanking the hero down with them, and they beg the aristocrats not to get angry, yet the boy just shrugs and says there's no need to bow. Kraft leans in and tells the kid, "I've been right where you are." He spills his whole life story as a total loser of an adventurer, and after all the stuff Kraft has been through, the hero finally feels close to him and decides he wants to help Kyle. Kyle admits he's a weakling, but this time he's going to fight like it matters, and he's praying he can actually make a difference. At last, he blurts out, loud and clear, that he needs Kraft's support, and his sister immediately backs up everything his brother just said. Kraft shoots the boy a confident promise that they'll handle it for sure, and his words spark a wave of pure, unstoppable celebration. The guild members still remember Kyle's kindness, and they burst into cheers, shouting that they're proud to be on the same team as him. So yeah, this kid's reputation skyrocketed. The whole team stormed out of the construction guild, and they took a nasty detour. Charging straight ahead would have been suicide. They burned through 2 whole days just to reach the forest. Kraft and Leafy are sprinting ahead so hard the others can barely chase them, stumbling along while exhaustion hits like a brick. People keep asking, how much farther and how long do we keep baking for, while Leafa tells them to stop for 1 whole day, only for the road to drag on anyway. Night drops and Lether is fed up, grumbling that sticking to a schedule is brutal, so Kraft jumps in, saying they should craft a stamina potion to keep people awake for way longer. The endurance potion is a medicine that blasts the whole team with raw strength. Good news, it's not complicated, and crafting it is something anyone can do. Leafer explains every potion needs a full bucket of herbs, and they're nowhere close, but Kraft clocks it instantly. With a crest as lethal as his, he can squeeze out the right potion using just a spoonful. He's itching to prove his theory, so the boys grab a glass of water and drop in a spoonful of herbs they pull straight from the Kraft storage. With the potion of stamina, the Kraft dips the mix straight into the bowl, his very first creation after finally becoming an alchemist. That potion glows in the dark as he thrusts the bowl into her hands, and she leans in, concentrating hard to judge its quality with magic. Kraft sits on the edge of his seat, waiting for the verdict. Then Leafa erupts in shock, screaming, "No way," because she can't wrap her head around how Kraft brewed a potion this special. Turns out the potion we brewed is legendary, straight-up top-tier magic. Both of them freeze in shock. Herb practically beams and tells the hero the potion he made is magnificent. It keeps working for half a day, and it can be sealed away to last for 1,000 years. Leafa can't stop smiling, so the next morning they hand that potion to everyone, and when the settlers sip the soup, they're blown away, wondering how the taste ever changed. Everyone crowds around the bowl, raving that the soup tastes unreal, and then they pester Kraft for the secret seasoning he used, because that potion turns the whole dish into something way more delicious. Last night everyone sprawled out, drained and exhausted, but this morning the fatigue vanished, like it never happened, because even the horse gulped down a potion and perked right back up. Kraft hands Kyle and his sister the potion they haven't dared to try yet. Then the moment the hero goes for it, he gets slammed with an interruption. Alfred and Persia, the kids' bodyguards, can't stop worrying about their health. They're convinced the potion works way too well, and that makes it feel suspicious as hell. The other settlers are thriving, and the boy has full trust in Kraft too. His grit floors even the knights. Alfred grabs the potion and drinks it himself, then suddenly clutches his chest after emptying the bottle. Energy surges through him, and Persia's even freaking out, like, is everything okay? but Kraft steps in fast, swearing the potion has zero side effects. That potion hits like a meteor, yet the backlash can smash just as hard. Then blam, the alarm screams as goblins storm the camp, and Persia scrambles to judge the defenders' strength only to find the numbers look grim. One lone fighter barrels out to meet the goblins head-on, yelling that he'll take them all on himself. The goblins are charging forward, right toward us. Alfred barrels into the goblins, swarm, and smashes through them with savage, bone-crunching attacks. No matter how brutal the technique gets, the knight never runs out of steam, and Kraft can't help but feel grateful for every second of his help. With fresh grit in their hearts, the settlers blasted past their schedule, already racing toward their destination, an entire month ahead of plan, and that's when they realized they'd arrived even faster than expected. In just 1 week, the team storms right into its goal, but the moment the picture clears, it's bleak, because they stare at the wreckage of overgrown houses with pure, skeptical disbelief. Turns out Leafy grew up right in this village. Kraft kneels and traces the rubble, and suddenly her childhood hits like a wave, then someone shouts, "Leafy." They spot the perfect spot and tell everyone, "Right here, we rebuild the village piece by piece." Kraft braced himself for building everything from the ground up in the wasteland, and that made him grin, but Leafy isn't sold yet. She swears this village once belonged to the dwarves. Kyle swings by, and as the manager, he has to corner everyone for a quick talk before work even starts. Leafy tells her that the settlers adore Kyle and begs him to give a speech. Then she darts off to rally everyone, while Kraft hangs back, lost in thoughts of Leafy's hometown. Kraft wants to lift the girl's spirits, so at that moment Kyle steps up and politely talks to the hero, only for the hero to completely miss that Kyle's an aristocrat at first, until Kraft quickly apologizes for the rude answer. The boy grins and declares he wants to get even closer to Kraft. He demands that Kraft call him with no formalities, but Kraft shuts it down fast, refusing to cross that line of status. But the boy won't back down. With charm and raw skill, he's poised to go all in. They lock eyes, then, after a tense beat, the hero finally nods and gives in. Kyle is grinning like something amazing just happened, but the security team looks like they're ready to explode. Kyle jumps into his speech to the settlers, pressing hard on how to draw and mark the border. They've got to turn that land into a real development site ASAP. He rallies his people and demands they pull out every stop to make it happen. The crowd explodes into applause, and even Kyle's bodyguards wipe away tears, while the boy soaks up all that praise with unshakable confidence. The hero spots Kyle's sister way off in the distance, quietly cowering as she stands by her brother, then he whips around to face her. He tells her she can stand right beside him, if she wants to. Then the girl bolts to his side, clutches the Kraft close, and cuddles up to him, while Kyle, right in the middle of it, orders the settlers to watch over the alchemist. Kraft's jaw drops. Kraft's asking, and the boy quickly explains. The hero has already done so much for everyone, and he'll be even more valuable ahead. The settlers want to honor the Kraft, so he forces the words out, "You all need to work your hearts out," and then, right on cue, the people come closing in. The builders cheer and snatch the boy up, then hurl him into the air, while Leafa watches from safety, muttering that now, Kraft is on the hook for protecting these people too. Even with everyone shouting and protesting, it carried on for nearly a full hour. The second he's finally out, Leafa is already buried in organizing everything. Leafa decides to reward the bodyguards who rode with them, only they cut straight to the point. They want a bottle of stamina potion. Kraft tosses them a bottle, but Leafa cuts him off, saying only a special bottle can lock in the potion's quality and let Kraft finally craft it. But Kraft snaps it out right away. This potion's got a shelf life of 1,000 years, and the entire room just freezes in shock. Locked inside a special bottle, that potion can survive for a mind-blowing 1,000,000 years. After downing the potion, the adventurers sprint out, while the builders are already hammering away, building houses as we speak. Lethia gets shown a house she can actually live in, and she can't stop wondering why they're sending her to Kraft, especially when he spots how this place towers over the others and asks, "So you really don't want to live together?" The girl stammers a reply under her breath, cheeks burning with embarrassment. Kraft blurts out an awkward joke, and it only makes the embarrassment hit harder. She can barely breathe. He shrugs and says living together feels weird, but they're both in the guild, so they're comrades. And that's exactly why the girl flips out at the young man's total naivety. Leafy straight up says sharing the same room can feel downright confusing. But the builder swears this place has separate rooms, so you'll sleep in one and they'll take the other. So she's totally safe, but the girl's face is burning with embarrassment. Kyle steps up because he's got business with both of them, but Leafy is swamped. she's furious, and she slams Craft's head into the dirt just to shut down his embarrassment. The boy's terrified, but he whips his head to Leafy and blurts out his nightmare. This village has no well, and every single time they need water, it's a miserable trek to the river. Craft admits they'd be way better off, with at least one solid well right in the village. Leafy doubts they'll snag the water vein that easily, but Craft grins and swears he can forge water, only for Leafy to snap back that this is mage territory, not alchemist magic. Craft just laughs, because he still remembers the spell he learned earlier for creating water. With that fresh coat of arms in his hands, magic surges through him, and he's raring to go, ready to unleash everything he knows. Leafy and Kyle are thrilled, but Craft's already got an even bigger, way crazier plan cooking. He pitches dowsing as the solution. The guys are totally lost, like, who even knows what this is? Leafy suspects it's a trick to hunt water or buried ore, and yep, she's right. Craft's trying to use alchemy to forge a magical pendulum out of plain stone. This pendulum swings just above the underground veins. So they can hunt for water on foot, no craft needed, but there's one nasty problem waiting for them. You can't craft any magic stones, there's nothing to make them with, and that's the brutal truth. These stones get kicked out by monsters. Stronger, rarer monsters drop the good stuff, and that's why alchemists rely on them for serious crafting. Craft needs the orc's magic stone, but getting it is brutal. If Persia and Alfred go for it, who's left behind to watch the kids? You can snag stones in the city, but they're always in massive demand, so good luck. Getting enough is going to be a nightmare. Craft says he's itching to start hunting for stones, and just then a settler comes sprinting in like something's gone horribly wrong. He tells everyone that reconnaissance has spotted an orc village just up ahead, and Craft practically can't believe his luck. At least 20 orcs swarm this village, and the settlers are shaking in their boots. These folks are just ordinary villagers, and they know exactly how lethal orcs can be. But Lafayette, he doesn't even blink at 20 orcs. She tells him that even in retirement, she can still take down a few orcs, but Craft cuts in and says he's going alone. He's also a former adventurer, and he won't let that girl charge into something this dangerous, especially when she pushes back and snaps that she was an adventurer too. Craft steps up and demands the recon mission be handed to him. Nobody saw it coming. Craft insists that the reason he gets shoved into reconnaissance is simple. His mage skills are so awful they somehow land him the perfect job. So he threw himself into everything else, cooking meals, fixing broken things, and hunting herbs to bring home. He even kept slipping out on reconnaissance missions on his own, so let the work fall to him. Kyle and Lifia just admit that the ship's taken a beating. He says goodbye to his comrades and tells them, with total confidence, that he's trained enough to stand on his own and protect himself. So Craft steps into the wild to explore, and man, this forest fights back. Every step feels brutal. If he didn't have that stamina potion, he'd be done for. He moves like he's expecting an ambush, because the forest is crawling with traps, and he's taking every precaution so he won't get lost. Soon he feels danger stalking right behind him. Leaning on his gut feeling, he barrels straight into an orc camp. Orcs are roasting the game over raging fires and devouring it, while the Craft rules swear it's not 20 of them, but roughly 30. Turns out Craft wasn't just messing around. He jumped on a recomboscence mission to put the brand new, high-level magic he'd unlocked as an alchemist through its paces. He was still shaken and refused to bring her up to his comrades. He'll at least give it a shot, and even if it ends up useless, it's not something to fear. Crouched in the bushes, he weighs his next move, because that coat of arms feels like power in his hands, but if trouble hits, he'll bail without hesitation. He's good at running. Craft finally pushes himself to his feet and unleashes a brand new move, Ice Prison. With a thunderous crash, ice comes flooding into the orc clearing. The hero couldn't believe what he was seeing. Those orcs are straight up trapped in ice flows that just erupted out of nowhere. Craft erupts in excited cries. He finally unleashed a killer offensive spell. The best spell he'd ever managed. It was just strong enough to shove things around. Now his full potential finally ignites. He's ecstatic he gets to pull off magic this dangerous, and the snowstorm his spell unleashed still swirls around like it has a mind of its own. Craft feels it instantly. Freezing chills hit him like a truck. He poured everything he had into that spell, and now he was stuck in the middle of a brutal snowstorm, one wrong breath away from freezing to death by his own power, so he snatched up every stone he could and sprinted back to the village. Craft rides back into the village, loot clutched tight, ready to cash in on everything he fought for. Everyone gapes at him, eyes popping wide, and he shocks the builders when he admits he almost froze to death, then blows their minds again by saying it wasn't 20 orcs at all, it was 33. The hero leans in and says, I tore them apart with my strongest attack magic. Lifea snaps back because Kraft was thrown out of the guild as a useless mage, sure, but somehow, after he changed his crest, he started pulling off magic anyway. With all those orc magic stones in hand, Kraft could have charged back into the life of an adventurer, but the moment he looks at Kyle, that dream dies. The hero is dying to prove to Kyle's brother just what they can do. With a little help from those stones, they forge a magical pendulum, then set out to hunt down the perfect spot for the well. You've got to shift, picturing a water vein, and that artifact lights up as it slides toward the target. So they move, and just like that, the crafting halts midair. Right where it finally comes to a halt, the artifact flares with its brightest, most intense shine. They start digging, and Leafa blocks the craft from getting in their way so he can finally rest. Then they dig like mad, and suddenly they stop dead, freezing in shock. Everyone bursts into celebration because they finally found water. They can't believe their luck. Finding the vein on the very first try is basically unheard of, because it's usually way harder than this. Leafa rips into everyone, praising Kirito's craft because it wipes out monsters and even uncovers a well. Then the builders snap back. If that's true, we're building the best well for him. The morning breaks and the hero gets hit with the bombshell. Someone built a brand new well overnight. Right when Kraft digs into his breakfast, he locks eyes on a bunch of aristocratic kids closing in on him. Mina, Kyle's sister, pops in and tells him good morning, and Kyle can't hide his shock as he blurts that this is an exceptional case, because it means she's officially latched onto craft. But she's too shy to step into crafting. She's got manners, and that keeps her back. When the boy asks what he plans to do today, Kraft grins and says he's free, and he'll probably be lost in potion research, and that answer hits Mina so hard she's genuinely touched. Kraft sighs. The girl reaches for his cloak, and he's totally lost on what that aristocrat is after. She's eerily silent, and even Belcia, her bodyguard, keeps a sharp eye on every move. She claims that the girl is pushing hard to get closer to the hero. Kraft clocks it instantly. Belcia is nothing like Lithia. The bodyguard's jaw drops as Kraft pulls open that insane spatial storage, and he yanks out several magic stones in one go. The young man smashes the stones, brews a healing potion, and hauls together a barrel, and after a little grinding time, the potion is finally ready. Since it won't ruin the potion, they'll carry it straight to the warehouse, while the girls watch it go. Minos locks eyes with the young man, and Belcia snaps that they shouldn't keep distracting the hero anymore. They need to get back to work, but he just shrugs and says it's an absolute honor to hang out with beauties like them. He tells the girls they can stay as long as they want, then he turns around and bam, he clocks the shift in Belcia's face because she's glaring at him with pure anger. The girl's face burns with pure embarrassment, so she lashes out at Kraft, hurling nonstop complaints at him like it's the only way to let it all out. Then Mena grips the boy's cloak again, clutching it tight as she shoots Belcia a sharp look. She shakes her head, rises to her full height, and marches after Persia, clearly daring him to stop letting those compliments go straight to his head. Time dragged on, and this young man churned out barrel after barrel of his potion by himself until he filled an entire cellar. He stops and weighs his options, ready to test the potion's power without risking his own skin, then a scream rips his focus away. He bursts out of the house and spots a wounded hunter named Gitaro hauled out from the forest, and as they lay the young man carefully on the ground, they all lean in and start demanding to know what happened. Turns out a skirmish with goblins just went down. Hunters charged in and wiped them all out, but the second the dust settled, they realized they weren't ready for what that battle would cost them. Alfred snapped into action. He barked orders for the village defenders to split into patrols and shove the rest of the residents back into their houses. With his assistants in tow, he hauls Gitaro to the shelter and fires off a question to Kraft. Do you have any healing potions? Kraft answers, yeah. The kid's wounds are so deep it looks unreal. Belcia fires a question at Gitaro. Why didn't he bolt the moment the goblins showed up? He answers that they were way too close to the village, and the hunters agreed it was too risky to leave everything as it was. Then he leans in and calls Belcia his big sister. Belcia flushes with embarrassment and dodges the conversation, while Kraft kneels down, scrubs the boy's wounds clean and stares, because they're still deep. Things look grim, they're losing Gitaro. Belcia's got no potions that can save him, and terror grips the group because those wounds might be fatal once the blood keeps draining. Kraft freezes, lost in thought. Should he risk those untested potions on him, or hold back and gamble with the unknown? But since their village has zero doctor who can treat it, they're out of options, so the guy decides to hand the potion to the hunter, and Letha is already shouldering the finished barrel. Kraft grabs the potion with a ladle, hurls it onto the patient, and bam, he vanishes in a burst of steam for a few heart-stopping moments. Everyone's stunned by what's unfolding right in front of them. Kraft had never, ever witnessed a reaction like this. Steam and fury were pouring off him. He's already bracing for the worst, convinced it'll all fall apart. Then, out of nowhere, the boy snaps his eyes open and shoots upright. He swears it doesn't hurt a bit, like the wounds never even happened, because they've already healed. But yeah, that checks out. Healing potions don't work that fast, yet somehow Gitaro's not really hurt at all. The young man gratefully bows to the hero, and you can see it. He's completely healed, fully back to normal. This is his first time getting hit with a potion, and he's grinning because it actually works, scarily well, and Kraft tells him it's an exceptional case. They can't believe the potion can pull his missing blood right back, but the boy feels totally fine. Kraft told him to lock in and watch his every move, right up until tomorrow. But Jotaro storms into the field like he never even heard a word anyone said to him. He bolts away shouting Belzia big sister at the end, and that sets her off furious. Still, the young man looks like he's completely back to normal. Belsia says those crazy strong potions have to be reported to the military, and Kraft shrugs like, come on, then the village might actually get orders from them, but Belsia doesn't buy it for a second. She leans in and asks, are you ready to keep what I tell you next a secret? Belsia hustles the hero to a hidden spot and drags Lefia in for a quick, secret meeting. Then Lefia wastes no time, blurting out that she's about to drop something huge. Even though she doesn't want to scare her Kraft, the nobles on the border keep clashing nonstop or plotting their next brutal attack. If a potion this powerful lands in the wrong hands, one side could spark a brand new war overnight. They know the army will shove out a fortune for that potion, but for the sake of peace, they keep it locked down as a secret, because they also want to dig deeper into just how powerful it really is. The hero nods in agreement, but he still wants that potion sold sooner or later, right? Belsia cuts in and says she'll keep quiet and hold off on reporting for now. Alright, here's the game plan. Belsia goes right to defending the aristocrats, Lifia starts building a fence, and Kraft is going to try talking Gitaro into coming around again. Look, this kid's no rookie, he's an experienced hunter, and there's no way a goblin was just gonna claw him up like that. Belsia even thinks it through. Goblins aren't that dangerous once you actually know how to fight, and she finally admits Kraft's right. So the hero charges into the battlefield to hunt down Jotaro. He asks the working youth how he's really feeling, and the kid's so healthy he might as well be a tank. Then he even says he'll go hunting himself, but the hero steps in fast and talks him out of it. When someone asks how a goblin managed to hurt him, Gitaro grins and says, my blade's ancient, it's always getting dull. The hero realizes the metal is truly rotting with rust, and right away, Kraft rockets to the barn to snatch back the blade the young man left behind. Jotaro's pumped to train and swing his sword, but Kraft shuts him down again, coldly forbidding him to lift a finger that day. Kraft spots the blade in the barn, and the moment he does, it all clicks. That busted machete is trash quality. No matter how many times they patch it up, it's just going to snap again. Kraft hunts for the perfect alchemical practice, grins because he's got plenty of stones, and dives straight into testing. While back with the other hunters, Jidaru's busy bragging about how his wounds got healed. He rips off his shirt and blows them away. There's not a single scar left. Everyone's thrilled. Kraft is amazing. They cheer, because now they can take hits without fear, and Kraft, he's dead set on making sure they don't get the wrong idea. Kraft swings by Lafayette at the forge, catching her right where she sits, hammer in hand, forging something with total focus. He begs her to fire up his brand new invention, on the very old ammo she's painstakingly fixing right now. He presses a bottle of special hardening oil into her hands. Liffy reels back in total shock. She swears she's heard the rumor, every blacksmith in town uses it. But even then, it's ridiculously rare, only alchemists can craft it, and that's exactly why the girl can't stop smiling with delight. Now if you use it for forging, the power shoots up and gets insanely stronger. With Leafy's skills on the table, this outcome is going to be legendary, and Kraft even admits he's got mad respect for blacksmiths. But forging is Liffy's real job, and yet she's determined to set everything straight here. The girl kicks off her first forge. She grinds her focus into the blade, blade by blade, until it shines. Once the blade's ready, they hand Jotaro the new weapon to test, and his face lights up at the quality. He whips it around, starts slicing through targets, and the boys immediately yell for him to be careful. Lifa leans in and studies the machete blade like it's hiding a secret. The blade is left untouched, yet the power it unleashes is absolutely massive. Tempered the simplest way, that blade would have snapped like glass, but the oil supercharged it and made it way stronger. Kraft decided it was time for a totally different potion. They smear the blade with this potion, and Kraft drops a cryptic hint: Jotaro should test that machete on a tree. He rockets upward and smashes into a jutting branch. With zero struggle, he snaps the branch right off. Jotaro follows the branch, and the tree heaves into a tilt the moment the blade brushes it. He grins, because from here on out, every cut slides through like butter. Right here, everyone spots the tree starting to crash, and the kids go wide-eyed in total shock. They're stuck there, staring at the fallen tree trunk like time just stopped. Jotaro yelps at full volume, and Kraft grins like, yes, because now that blade's not a machete anymore, it's working at full power. The fresh potion is basically turning into sharpening oil, and the hero can't help but mock Leafa, because she's the first one to blurt it out. Leafa is fully freaked out, she's dead serious, and Kraft immediately drops to apologize. She begs Kraft to blast the warning to everyone next time, no more injuries, and then the boys finally let Jadorov go, ordering him to use the oil with restraint and handle every weapon like his life depends on it. The young man bolts with pure joy, yelling that now he's finally going to prove it to everyone. Leifia slaps her hands over her face, because she already warned them how deadly this thing was, while they stare in horror as the machete chops through everything like it's a magic sword. As a blacksmith, Leafy studies that blade's true potential. Kraft insists the sharpening oil will hold its edge for a full day with normal use, but only half a day when you're chopping down trees. If you use it on every tool, that bottle can stretch all the way for a whole week. Sure, they've got magic stones to make more, but right now, that's not the real issue. Leafa yells that they've got to stop Alfred, right now, and Kraft snaps back that it's impossible. Night falls and Kraft slips out for a walk because sleep just won't come. He figures he's wrapped up everything for the day, then tops off his potion stash. Kyle's room is buzzing with groans, like something S about to snap. The hero leans in and spots the guy jerking in his sleep, breathing like he's trapped in a nightmare. He's doubled over, writhing in pure agony. Kraft yells for the boy. The hero shakes the boy hard, desperate to wake him up. Persia suddenly steps in, begging him to keep quiet so he won't wake the prince, insisting nothing strange is going on, yet Kraft is left reeling in shock. She says things are finally better than they've been. He can sleep like a normal kid again, but only if she gives him restorative potions, because once the medicine fades, the attacks hit all over again. Kraft can't believe how terrible Kyle's condition is. Kyle's hiding it most of the time, so the girl admits it's hard to spot that anything's wrong. Turns out the boy's got a serious heart problem, and that's exactly why Kraft finally understands why the bodyguard won't let a hair out of place around the aristocrat. Persia can only throw her strength behind the boy, but when she tries to ask for a favor, he already knows what she's after, so he jumps straight to yes without even hesitating. The alchemist is absolutely sure he can whip up a cure for this disease. The hero straight up tells Kyle, "You're like my little brother," and vows he'll do absolutely everything for him. The girl's fired up, and she pushes him to start right now. Kraft agrees. He storms into the library, hunting down the exact info he needs. He digs up the exact plant records he needs, but snatching them won't be a walk in the park. They only grow where conditions are brutal and unforgiving. You've got to head into the swamps. Dangerous monsters lurk in every shadow. Kraft finally gets why those special medicinal potions don't hit the market often. Gathering the ingredients is brutal, and getting them alive is even worse. A swamp sits nearby, and Kraft wastes no time. He decides to head straight into it. The swamp roils with colossal, vicious hydras just waiting to tear someone apart. Kraft clocks them from a distance, and magic does the rest. With a snap of tracking magic, he can spot things miles away, and he realizes the swamp is crawling with hydras. Because hydras built like tanks and stacked with heads own the swamp and command the whole area, Kraft knows he can't grab those herbs without being spotted. When he finally comes back, Leafy snaps, "Where have you been?" And the boy admits he dashed out to grab herbs for a brand new potion, only to track some down but still couldn't collect them. Kraft admits the hydras wrecked his momentum. He can't drop them in one shot because his huge field of view keeps messing up the kill. Lefia's face goes pale when she hears about the hydras. Kraft wastes no time, demanding why. She tells him straight up that he has no clue about the gnome village that used to be right there before everything changed. Crying her eyes out, the girl insists it was the hydras who tore their village apart. Usually they stay put and only turn hostile if you come charging at them, yet this time they suddenly swarmed in, attacked the gnomes, and no one had a clue why. Lifir admits that even today, they still show up sometimes, and those brutal, difficult memories twist the girl up inside. After Lifia finishes her story, Kraft just sits there in silence beside her, totally blank on what to say. The girl demands to know what he's planning, and he snaps back that he's after herbs. he'll gather them solo to stay hidden from the hydras, because he's not here to fight. Those beasts won't attack unless someone stirs them up. But then Lifia shoots back, resolute as steel that she's going with him, no debate. She tells Kraft to ease up and leans on his hard-earned experience. She nods and agrees to follow his lead, and right then, they decide it's time to build the team, no more hesitation. He rounds up the right people inside the house, then spills his plan. He's heading into the swamp for herbs, and warns them just what horrors are waiting for him out there. He won't even mention Kyle's illness, he just needs some teammates, and he needs them now. After a quick pause, Persia steps forward to volunteer, and then she turns to the stunned Alfred, begging him to watch over the kids. Alfred clicks in that Persia is probably chasing her own reasons, and he nods, fully agreeing with her choice. Jotaro's all in on joining too. Even though the backlash to his candidacy stings a bit, he's still sure he's going to make it. Jotaro's going to pick up the bow, stay back, and unleash support from long range, because if Leafy and Persia charge up front, they'll team up to guard the craft. Now there are 4 of them. Kraft clocks that Leafy's clearly locked onto something else, but the moment won't wait, he can't afford to ask. At last, everyone's set. He asks them to give him a little hand luggage, because the hero's gonna stash everything he needs in his storage. He pushes the team to get razor fast, and Persia never bothers changing. Her light armor fits her perfectly. Lifia bursts in front of her companions in full metal armor, gripping a giant hammer like it's about to smash the world. Kraft fumed because he wanted the companions to relieve themselves as much as possible, but the girl cut in and told him to just watch. She springs up high and darts forward like lightning, proving she's insanely agile in that outfit, and Kraft's jaw drops because he never saw this coming. So now it's just Jotaro, gearing up with upgrades that make him look straight up like a bandit or pirate. Turns out he's dressed in all his best clothes. Kraft just can't bring himself to tell the boy that he honestly doesn't look so great. Kraft flashes a grin at Jotaro and orders him to smear the oil onto the arrows. No panic if it doesn't hit right away, because they'll retreat, regroup, and come back swinging. Then he urges the entire team to stop holding back and just grab any potions they want. Persia remembers how the army told them to lean on potions only as a final escape. Then she grits her teeth, because this isn't the army and the settlers, lives matter more than anything, and trust me, there's more coming. Persia shoots back with total confidence, saying she has zero intention of getting herself wounded. So the whole team trudges through the swamp, and Kraft carefully picks the route with the fewest hydras, anything to dodge a nasty fight. Once it kicks off, every hydra lurking nearby will come crawling in. Kraft starts laying out his plan. Leafy will charge the hydra head-on, Persia will swing in from the right, and Jotaro will back them up from a distance. Then Kraft will step in as the final backup, and once they hit the right spot, Kraft will grab the herbs while they all bolt together, and Leafy even snaps, "Everyone, be quiet." They spot the hydra clamped onto the crocodile, and slowly crushing it for every last breath. The hydra lunges and gulps the crocodile whole, devouring it in a single, unstoppable bite. The monster looms over the swamp, absolutely enormous. This is what the hydra feels like. Lifia snaps orders, and everyone braces, ready for anything. Lifia charges straight at the hydra without flinching, and the thing is an absolute titan. Because the hydra's way bigger than they expected, Kraft yells for a retreat, but Leafa barrels in, claiming they can handle it, and the moment they hesitate, it's already too late to run. A hulking monster looms over the tiny girl, towering above her like a nightmare. She slams her hammer up and stops the monster's brutal headbutt dead in its tracks. Kraft and Jotaro stare in awe because she doesn't even flinch, like nothing can rattle her. He can't stop wondering what kind of insane technique she's using. Leafa's crest is built for crafting, but she still fights with combat techniques, meaning she's been grinding for a long time. Finally, a bodyguard lunges in from the side and swipes. Her sword glistens, dripping with sharpening oil. Kraft is still not sure this will actually hold up against that massive monster, but the girl snaps into a move called the Phoenix Whirlwind. She slashes straight across the monster's neck, then rockets past him like a blade in motion. All 4 freeze in shock, as the hydra literally shatters into pieces. The bodyguard slams into the water, and as she sinks, the wrecked chunks of her neck tumble into the swamp behind her. Then Jotaro blares, gushing praise for the girl like it's music. The girl swears the potion works like a dream, while Jotaro pulls the monster's magic stone from the wreckage, and Kraft grumbles that the boy looks totally like a bandit again. Suddenly, Lifia bursts into laughter. She keeps laughing louder and louder, until her friends start to panic and fear the worst. The girl bursts up and sprints off like her life depends on it. Everyone is stunned, and the night practically roars that they have to catch up to her fast, so she tears off in pursuit, chasing her own path like it's burning. She sprints after him like it's an emergency, faster than anyone expects, then Kraft and Jataro barrel after her. But the second they finally catch up with the girls, they're hit with a horrifying sight, carnage everywhere. Both of them lunged at another Hydra and tore it apart right in front of those horrified young men. Even when they unleash their deadliest moves, that stamina potion keeps their energy from crashing, and then the monster backs away, desperate to retreat. But Lifea is convinced this monster can't slip away anymore. Kraft and Gitaro stare in shock as the carnage explodes around them. They've got to dodge it on their own, and the moment they do, they're cursing the girl for her total lack of care. Right when the noise dies down, the mutilated hydras rot in the swamp. The whole team stares at the screen, completely frozen in shock. Right here, Lifa snaps back to her senses and whirls toward the guys, only to find them frozen with pure fear. She beams at the news, then admits she regrets how she changed the plan, and Kraft rushes in terrified, swearing it's all fine, there's no problem at all. The girl planted her hammer proudly, and at last, she could finally strike back and get revenge for the gnome village. Kraft snaps the agreement into place with her. Lifea, thank you, seriously, I'm grateful for this opportunity. The night cuts in two. She insists she had no choice but to join the fight, but the excuse lands with a thud. But for her, it's enough that Kraft isn't mad about the plan collapsing, because they still got the grass. Kraft wonders if Lifea's wild rampage is why she was sent here, but the truth hits fast. Everyone makes it back to the village. The young man finally clenched his hands around the legendary medicine and got it ready. Kyle can't get it without tests, but there's no one left to test because every villager is healthy, and then the bodyguard who's been waiting for the potion finally bursts in. She hears what's going wrong, and then she storms ahead like, fine, I'll stand under the waterfall myself and get sick. Kraft starts to weigh this information, and the implications hit him hard. He asks the girl if she's ever been this sick before, but training has toughened her. No waterfall is going to knock her down, because her dedication is already at full strength. All of it proves useless, and then Kyle shows up barking demands for everyone to calm down. Everyone stares in shock at where he suddenly shows up, and the whole room fires off a good morning as Kyle slips in straight to the table, reaching for the test tubes. Somehow he just knows those potions are brewed for him alone. Yeah, Kyle is already sizing up that young guy. The boy snatches the bottle and downs it in one go. Nobody even manages to stop him. Everyone's blown away like, wait, did you see that? Lifea scrambles to warn them the potions haven't been tested, but it's already too late to stop the boy. Then it's smooth sailing, because the boy trusts in his own craft, 100%. He says he feels way better, and the whole crowd lights up with relief. Then the boy turns to Kraft and thanks him. Still, the guy leans in and speaks to the aristocrat with absolute, no-joke seriousness. He demands that he stops lying. The boy pleads with him, insisting that the potion truly worked and that it really did make him feel better. But Kraft digs in and won't budge. He orders Kyle to spill the real truth, no lies allowed. Spreading lies about what that potion actually does will spark a whole mess, because Kraft's words already have the bodyguards spooked and holding back. Kraft couldn't even promise the potion would save the boy. He was only running on half a gut feeling. Potions like that one didn't just help. They smashed illnesses like colds and the flu before they could wreck you. These weren't illnesses that just showed up out of nowhere. They were brought on by outside forces, and Kyle was born with it, already cursed from day one. Kraft had no idea if that potion could even stand a chance against his congenital disease. The bodyguard snaps at Kraft, screaming that Kyle can't possibly stay like this forever. But the second the hero blurts out yet another plan that's supposed to work, the whole room freezes. Everyone goes dead silent. Kraft whips around to Kyle and tells him to hang in there with the stamina potions. Kyle shrugs, saying he's already used to it and he won't pretend anymore. The bodyguard twists toward his crafting station. She blurts out an apology for snapping, and he waves it off like, it's fine, because yelling happens when emotions hit. The girl tells everyone she's ditching the village's safety to craft a potion, and she runs off with the boy. Lifea is stunned because the legendary potion didn't work at all. Kraft snaps back that it's probably some rare disease, because the doctors just couldn't do a thing. He knows healing magic can't touch congenital diseases, but he still dared to hope they'd get lucky. Then he realizes there's another way, and it's going to be a headache. For now, Kyle can down recovery potions to choke the disease back, and the settlers need to push outward and expand the village. He's planning to build his own adventurers' guild right here. This matters in every way, because this village will stand or fall on whether it has strong people willing to defend it. There's a potion that can save Kyle, but the swamp herbs won't cut it, and the ingredients are so rare they might as well be a myth. That grass only grows in a spot so dangerous it could get you killed in seconds. Inside the dwellings of dragons. The guy grips his own resolve and vows, with iron conviction, that he's going to cure Kyle. After grinding through a monster-filled journey, this band of travelers finally trudges toward a border village, scared that the settlement waiting at the end is barely standing, and then one of them leans in and whispers, "I'm trying to find someone." Travelers swear they're ready for the brutalist conditions the world can throw at them. But when they finally arrived, they stared in shock, because right in front of them was a booming, flourishing city they never saw coming. Everywhere you look, huge houses rise, the streets stay spotless, and even a brand new well has appeared. Lifia spots the travelers, and one of them blurts out, stunned, "Wait, are you serious? This village is only 6 months old." She naively nods and says, "Yep, that's true," then admits she's expecting a ton from the new arrivals, because the moment they show up, they're completely blown away. During this time, the whole village bursts with life. Settlers are pulling in eager pioneers to kick off a local adventurers guild, and then, out of nowhere, someone yells Kraft's name. This is his pal Reddick, the kind of adventurer who lives for danger. Kraft stares at him, blown away. The hero once teamed up with him in the same crew, so when the young man asks Reddick how he ended up here, he pushes for the truth. Is it really just to guard the new arrivals? Reddick answers, yes, but that's not the whole story. Reddick shows up ready to work, and Kraft's caught completely off guard. Reddick's a C-rank adventurer, but his whole party is stacked with battle-hardened fighters, so Kraft can't wrap his head around why they'd show up in a remote spot like this, until Reddick grins and says, "There are monsters everywhere here, and now the village has finally appeared, we can hunt them down without stressing over supplies." Reddick can't stop himself from admitting he still aches over Kraft leaving the band. Meanwhile, Kraft's stuck, mortified, and totally at a loss for words. The hero's got a message for Reddick, and it's burning to get out. He still remembers how he teamed up with his group when he was barely starting out, back when everyone was fresh-faced. Every day felt like pure adventure magic. But once his friends got even more skilled, he stayed stuck, and the gap crushed him inside, until Kraft finally snapped and left the group, feeling like dead weight for not keeping up. After that, he jumped from team to team, but the exact same fate hunted him down every single time. Kraft leans in and tells Reddick that this kind of imbalance never ends well. Then he fires a question. Does the hero know what they call him in the guild? Kraft smirks, already knowing the nickname, the self-proclaimed mage. Turns out, just a tiny handful of people ever used it for real. Even then, they were basically nobody worth remembering, but there was one more nickname waiting in the shadows. Kraft was tagged as the mentor of aspiring adventurers. The new adventurers in his crew clammed up about it, mortified to the bone, and Kraft had never once heard of anything like that before. Even after Kraft helped them climb so high, they still had to throw him out of the band eventually, and now so many fans carry crushing guilt for it. Kraft goes back and tries to see those early days again, the ones where he trained brand new adventurers and teamed up with his comrades for their next missions. He remembers how everyone started backing away from him until it finally happened and they broke up. Even while he felt totally useless, he couldn't believe it. Inside the guild, people still cared about him. Reddick says he and his friends are done taking Kraft's kindness for granted. They're stepping up to help develop his village and give back in the best way they can. The guys slap their hands together in a solid handshake. So yeah, this village is blowing up with rapid growth, and the biggest reason is the Adventurers Guild finally getting founded. These lands have always been crawling with monsters, like they're alive and hunting. Now this place pulls in adventurers hungry for the hunt. Because of that, the village just keeps growing, and jobs start popping up everywhere. More and more people kept pouring in, so fast they straight up ran out of houses. So the whole village has their sights set on expanding the hotel, and they're getting it done. But that's not even the best part. An entire shop packed with potions and weapons has shown up, and it's jammed wall to wall. The whole shop is packed with adventurers, shoulder to shoulder, and the shop owner just stares from behind the counter, blown away by how many customers showed up, totally at a loss for what to do next. The crowd clings to her every word, and Kraft just watches, realizing most people don't care about her. They're here for Silura. The whole place is buzzing like crazy, and right then, Kraft gets called out. This is Kyle, tiny but fearless, grabbing the hero and hauling him straight into the negotiating room. Kraft pours tea and asks if anything's wrong, and the boy quickly says he has to talk about something important, because his sister and even their bodyguard, Belzia, are right there too. The council's last decree says the village needs a name, and Kraft can't believe it. He didn't realize it yet, there was still no name for this place, because every past attempt to set it up had crashed and burned. Kraft finally throws out a plan, call it Kyle's Village, the manager's name. Alfred and Belcia already pitched the same plan, but Kraft's still stuck. He claims Kyle's accomplishments are public and nobody's going to argue, and Belcia jumps at it, only for Kyle to insist they built that village together. As the crowd swells, it starts growing on its own, step by step, more and more with every new arrival. He's convinced his name doesn't fit this village, but Kraft insists it's perfect and tells them to hash it out together. Then he whips around to Belcia, begging for ideas. But she digs her heels in and snaps that there's no other option, only the village of Kayla and nothing else. Then the hero whirls back to Mina and drops an even uglier option, Croft of Village. Kyle likes the name, but Kraft cuts in and insists they call it Lifia Village. But they argue that the lion's share of the credit is his, and even Belcia is willing to admit it. Then, bam, someone knocks on the door. Lethia steps in and immediately clocks Kraft and Belcia squaring off like they're fighting for control of the village. Then she decides to slip in later, but Kraft yanks her inside right then. She finally wrapped her head around the problem and jumped into the creative process with both hands. She proposes the name Twilight Village, but everyone balks, saying it sounds like the town's already dying, until they remember the main character's coat of arms makes it the only name that truly fits. After all, he's the Dark Alchemist, and it's that power that hauled this village up from survival to serious prosperity. Kyle thinks the name is perfect, but Kraft shuts it down, and Belcia drops the real bombshell, that setting sun is a bad omen. Kyle blurts out a brand new idea, Dawn Village. Lifia thinks it's the perfect sign of a brand new journey, and the perfect name for a border village. Belcia nods in full agreement, since Kyle just suggested it. After talking it through with Mina, the boy steps up and declares the new name, Golden Dawn Village. The second Kyle's name hits the room, everyone starts praising him nonstop, while Kraft gets completely ignored, like his words don't even exist. The hero only catches this. After the boy dashes off to fetch the documents, he tells Lifa he wants to name the village to honor Kraft. A little more time slips by, and Kraft locks in. He knows the moment is finally right. He storms up to Lifa and locks eyes with her as he speaks. The hero leans in and tells her he's been craving an ore run for ages, and now's the perfect moment. He'll dig up iron, copper, mithril, and adamantite, so he grabs Lifia's hand and points her to the exact spot on the map where he planned to go. The Artisans Guild swears the odds of striking rare minerals are highest out there, and when Lifia studies the map, she tightens her jaw and frowns like it's all riding on that spot. Kraft admits it's brutal to reach this place because the forest teems with monsters, and right here, Lafayette finally gets why the village is begging for adventurers. You can march right into the Adventurers Guild, toss in an escort request, and let the village budget foot the bill. And yeah, mining those ores is going to drag on for ages. But you can forge the pick from top-tier steel, dust it with sharpening potion to make it bite through rock faster, and with Lifia, a dwarf on the hunt, you'll track down ores like it's destiny. The hero blurts that he wants to try something else, and Lifia stares him down like she's hunting answers, because he's hiding something again, and she's furious. The Kraft won't spill the secret. Finally, the moment lands. Everyone's ready to go. Now that Radak finally joins the crew, he grabs Kraft's attention and thanks him for setting up this brand new quest. Kraft just smirks and says he handpicked the best people in the village, and somehow, Gitero is already there too, even though Kraft never invited him. So the whole team straps in and charges off to grab the ores. This is also the first move in saving Kyle's life, so Radak shoots a wary look at Lifia and asks why she's watching Kraft so closely, but he brushes it off like it's nothing. With Radak's squad at their backs, the guys set off hunting rare metals, and Radak, as the squad's leader, steps forward to introduce his crew. He's the one who carries the swordsman's crest himself, and when he casually drops that he and Kraft once fought side by side on the same team, it hits the room like a sudden shock. There's another girl in the group, Salal, staring at everyone with a sinister glare, and yeah, she's a ranger. Kraft nods at her like they're just acquaintances. Yeah, they met in the village, but life never gave them a real moment to talk. They're throwing on their brightest smiles, telling each other, "Man, I'm so happy we finally met." Back when Kraft teamed up with a band of adventurers, he was totally smitten with her. Then reality hit, and he knew it just wouldn't last. With her heart locked onto Radak, he shoved those doubts aside. So yeah, it's wild they ended up crossing paths again. Radak swings the spotlight onto the others, then introduces Priest Bep, Magician Bardek, and Warrior Morda. So yeah, Kraft knows this too. Even without a coat of arms, the mess mage is still a magic powerhouse. And that mug packs a punch no ordinary person can touch. He's usually quiet, but when it counts, he lays out every essential detail without holding anything back. Then Jataro cuts in right there, blazes in front of everyone, and yells his name, "I'm Jataro, a young hunter." Radak snaps in at once, firing off, "Hey, are you a bandit?" He's seething because those are his best clothes. Radak tries to calm him down, insisting it looks like it belongs to some nameless bandit, just like the ones he likes, but Jataro won't back down and fires back. So the whole team pushes deeper into the forest, tearing into monsters with every step. Reddick leans in and asks if they'll be allowed to grab those amazing magical stones and other goodies packed inside the monsters' bodies. Lifea immediately nods yes. Kraft cheers the adventurers, amazed they're somehow even exceeding his already high expectations. It's all because of those stamina potions. Warrior and Rangers swear they swing battles in their favor, but the mage grumbles that he's got nothing like that, until Kraft steps in and says he's got a special something for the mage too. This is a mana potion, drink it, and watch your power come roaring back to life. Kraft hands it to Bardak, and the room erupts, because this isn't just pricey, it's the kind of legendary gear people dream about. Reddick claims this trick can take down even a Cyclops, and Lifey is terrified, because she's scared he'll curse it just by saying it. Suddenly, the travelers spot a cave right nearby. The heroes have no choice, they'll have to dive in, because that pendulum is screaming that the place is packed with ore. The magician and the alchemist fire up glowing light spheres at the exact same time, and the warriors snatch torches, because the heroes already cracked the lighting mystery, so they storm into the cave. The travelers push deeper into the cave, vanishing into the dark. Water drips from the ceiling while lizards skitter across the walls, until they reach a tight, narrow passage that pinches their path. But Lifea stares at the ground, and suddenly knows there's ore buried here. Kraft can't wrap his head around how she pulls it off. Even in pitch-black darkness, Lifea the dwarf can spot ore like it's glowing in her eyes. Right when the drops start, Lifea leans forward and checks the soil under her feet, because everyone is depending on her, praying this won't turn into some deadly dungeon. Reddick's like, don't expect some dungeon aura here, this is just a plain cave. Dungeons are packed with fearsome monsters in these weird otherworld realms, yet somehow, that's also where you'll stumble on tons of rare treasures. Meanwhile, the path widens fast. The heroes stumble on 3 stone lizard monsters, their tough hide practically built like armor. The adventurers snap into action, slamming into the monsters with a tight, organized assault right away. A snapping lizard drives its claw straight into the warrior's shield. The ranger yanks his bow into position, praying the next arrows are slicked with the oil of deadly precision. The arrow slams into the reptile's forehead, and it drops dead instantly. This sets the adventurers on fire. They lock in and plunge into the cave to search every inch. The fight against the lizards is still raging on. The ranger teams up with a warrior, and he shields her with his own body as they push forward. At last, the fight finally crashes to a stop, and Reddit's on it, shouting that the lizards are completely done. Now they just need to grab the materials, hit the road, and get moving. Kraft's impressed, because those guys are a solid crew. Crafter lets out a quiet, bittersweet sigh as he recalls the days when he was the one out adventuring. Reddick smirks and says those lizards were a walk in the park. His talent as a top-tier adventurer is impossible to deny. But both of them admit the heat oil had a hand in it, too. Radak beams because the craft finally got better, and the hero nods in full agreement. Right then, the priest from Reddick's crew steps up and says he wants to test his own powers too, so they push the challenge to another time. Right then, Lifa blurts out that the world has shifted, she's struck gold, and she's found ore. There's a little methyl in here, but it's barely there, its concentration stays low. The artifact yanks the girl deeper into the cave, and she insists she's dying to go. They spot an empty patch of space, and just like that, the girl erupts with a scream of pure delight. The massive cave roars with shimmering ore crystals everywhere. The girl bolts toward them, tossing caution to the wind. This is an insane mountain of mithril ore. Lifea could feel it the moment she stepped in, like she already knew she'd find it here. Everyone crowds around to congratulate the girl, then boom, a thunderous sound crashes through the air. A glowing eye slices through the dark, and Kraft yells at Lifea to come back right now. A cyclops roars at the girl, and she shrieks in pure terror. From the pitch-black shadows, the monster bursts out and towers over the heroes like a living nightmare. The boys yell at Lifea to come back, but the terror in their eyes says they're already one step away from losing her. The adventurers finally start to piece together who he really is. That's a cyclops, one giant, one-eyed monster with pure nightmare energy. The monster surges to its full height, and Lifea, fearless, tilts her gaze straight up at it. Reddick sprints in and throws himself between the monster and the girl, shielding her with his own body. He barks for Lifia and Sora to fall back, then turns to Morta and demands she back him up. Bardock insists he'll burn through every scrap of attack magic, and Bep backs them up every step of the way. Then the adventurers lock in and get to work in perfect sync. Morta's axe swings in bam, but the craft instantly senses it, something's deeply off. The Cyclops snapped out of the attack, then sprang backward like it was dodging a bullet. The monster erupts into yet another bone-rattling roar. He slams himself, and somehow the boys break free and bolt, while Morta steps in and eats the hit on his shield. The warrior, lifeless, gets launched backward, and Bep erupts, screaming his name, but a hand bearing a coat of arms slams onto his shoulder. This is an alchemist. He fires up the warriors to keep the fight going, then rushes to the wounded with his potions to turn the tide. He crouches over the fallen Morta, yanks a potion bottle from his chest, and then uses it. The warrior snaps back to his senses, and relief hits him like a wave. He feels way better now. He springs to his feet and charges straight into the fight, landing a hit right away. Everyone gapes in shock, because he bounces back faster than even the adventurers ever expected. Turns out the Cyclops is crazy quick. Reddick grabs Cyril and demands she shoots it straight in the eye. She raises her aim at the Cyclops as Morta pounds it, then snaps. This can't be, because the monster is moving way too fast. Cyclops springs back in again, straight out of nowhere. The monster's power is terrifying. Reddick even calls it a one-sided beating. Kraft's mind races. Can he do anything at all? Fire and wind are too risky underground. Earth magic still feels like a mystery, and the worst part, he can't even recall any area attacks. Suddenly, he locks onto an idea, and the alchemist shoots his hand up, blasting snowflakes swirling into the air. All eyes snap to the hero, and pure shock ripples through the crowd. Crafter molded an elongated shape, cradled in his hand like something dangerous. This is his brand new move, the Ice Fang Dart. He hurls the dart straight at the monster. A lethal magic bolt rips straight through the monster's chest. A Cyclops arches in agony, grimacing through the pain. Everyone's staring in disbelief. This kind of magic has never been seen before. Then the impact site starts freezing over. Reduc huddles his men, snaps orders to Sora to strike for the eye, and he and Mordor barrel into the Cyclops with doubled, ferocious momentum. The warrior unleashes everything, his storm sword and the wolf's crushing strike. The warriors pile onto the Cyclops and land crushing hits, blow after blow. Sorrel finally fires, and the arrow lands dead on target. The monster drops into a frozen halt, then starts to tilt, and Reddick's eyes snap wide as he realizes the giant is about to crash. He shouts for everyone to back off fast so nobody gets crushed. The Cyclops is wiped out, crumpled on the ground with a sorrel arrow jammed in his eye and a craft projectile buried in his chest. The guys finally crushed it. They break into joy, wrapping their arms around Kraft and thanking him for how much he's done for them. Lifia breaks into joy because the adventurers just wiped out that brutal monster. Kraft praises Reddick for a job well done and says he'd expect nothing less. Then Reddick pushes back hard. Reddick swears it was Kraft who struck down the monster. Reddick swears the alchemist has unlocked jaw-dropping magic, and Sorrel nods like, "Yep, this is exactly what we delivered," the finishing blow. The hero's face lights up the moment he hears it. Kraft was over the moon, finally, his magic, and he weren't just hanging around, they were actually helping the guys. With the cave finally safe, Lafayette couldn't wait to start digging for ore. She's the one they send in. Meanwhile, the other adventurers waste no time, hunting down materials stolen from monsters. They stop talking and dive straight into action. The adventurers huddle together, saying the supplies are stacked, but that monster reeks so bad it'll knock you out. Then someone yells, "Kraft." Lifia swung her pickaxe in the air, waving it like a signal, and yelled for the hero to come mine ore with her. Still fueled by that inspiration, she powers through and handles everything on her own. At last, there are 4 barrels of ore, but Lifia isn't satisfied and wants more. The girl swallows her disappointment as she realizes the stone needs more ore, but her pickaxe just can't bite through the rock. Kraft's fired up. He's about to test his brand new weapon. Lifia glares at him with pure indignation. When the girl asks what happened, the hero blurts that it was a magical explosion, and then it all goes out of his control as he unleashes raw magic that detonates everything around them. Lafayette swears this is going to go horribly wrong. Kraft insists the blast won't even start without his signal, but that's not the point. She's terrified of the explosion itself. Then Kraft flashes his charm and promises the girl, "I've never missed before, so I won't start now." And right as the adventurers close in to ask what new tricks the hero has cooked up, Lifia snaps, "Back up now." She panics for everyone's safety and barks orders for them to duck behind the rocks, but Kraft reassures her that there's nothing to fear. Meanwhile, Gitaro can't wait to get a look at the hero's brand new invention, and Leafy insists they shouldn't see it at all. Radak is baffled because Kraft's magic is insanely good, but Leifia can't help thinking the heroes got a totally unreasonable side. She finally won over only Sorrel. Everyone else just swarmed around Kraft and leaned in to inspect his brand new device. Kraft is seconds away from starting the countdown, and he tells Lifia straight up that she's insanely worried. He starts counting, clamps his ears shut, and peers from behind the rocks with pure suspicion at the girl's look. The explosion finally needs to go off, and the explosion roars like the sky just split open. A shockwave nips even the girls hiding behind their pile of stones. They spot the poor, unlucky adventurers, then the explosion rips them back, and the attackers flee through the air in a panic. Smoke swallows everything, and all you can hear is non-stop coughing. Lifia spots Kraft coughing hard in the smoke, and she rushes in to confront him. Kraft says he's thankful he didn't go trying it on the Cyclops, but she snaps back that the kid crossed the line. Kraft snaps Lifia's rage off her face by pointing behind her, and right there in the crevice crystals glitter like a jackpot, so they can pull out even more ore, and Kraft even gloats that it worked perfectly when they used his magical explosive. Lifia starts spilling the secret. If you use explosives the right way, they're crazy useful. Pack them into a rock hole, set them up just right, and watch them blast straight through rock. Kraft can't help but admire her. One explosion and she's already here, but she shuts the door on any attempt for Kraft to change the subject. She snaps that the jokes are done. Then, right as the words hit, the hero hears something lurking behind him. From the grit and dust, furious adventurers crawl back into the spotlight, because they've got to track down the hero and warn him about something huge. That night, Kraft dropped to his knees for 2 grueling hours, drinking in every safety lecture. Then the trust he'd just won got ripped to shreds. A few days later, they tore back into the village, and the whole place lit up with joy after wiping out the Cyclops. Then the kids practically bombarded them, begging, "Did you find Mafrel?" And for them, it felt like the world just turned into a holiday. The guy walked up and greeted Kraft, and Mena slid right in beside him. He shot back a greeting, and then the young man leaned in and demanded, "Where Esli Fawn?" The traveling merchants in the village refused to believe they'd really snagged Mithril, demanded a starting date for the sale, and Lafon tried to stop them. That's why it's running late. Those traders are practically clawing for Mithril, ready to pay any price. Kyle pushed for the report to wait until Lifon showed up, and the hero nodded immediately. Then the girl slid down beside him. Is it really okay that she's not around Kyle? She's normally glued to him, and now she can't even meet his eyes. After a while, Lifon finally showed up. She apologized for the delay, and the merchants nearly crushed her in their rush. Kraft couldn't help but notice her hair was a total mess. 9. Lafont leaned in and told them to ditch the talk and get right to the report. They trekked into the cave they'd pinpointed, and the moment they stepped inside, rock lizards skittered, will-o'-the-wisps drifted through the air, and giant pillbugs crawled like living nightmares. Kyle took one look at that cave and blurted out, "That place screams danger." The girl nodded hard and said they'd still manage to rip out a huge haul of ore fast, because there were 5 big reasons why. First comes the magic explosion, then the oil of sharpness, next that special storage, and last, an escort that never fails. Kraft wrapped up her tale and said the 5th reason was Liffen and her secret know-how with hands, plus thanks to the Redox group, they got it all done fast and nobody got hurt. And the stamina potion, this is the game changer. Without it, they never could have taken down the Cyclops on sheer endurance alone, and that's exactly why this monster gets a chilling name, the Adventurer's Killer. Cyclopes hunt people down with no mercy, and the unready pay with their lives, so Kyle was relieved they made it through, until Kraft brought up Mithril. He said it looked like someone had already swapped the pieces in, and the girl immediately broke into a cold sweat at the thought. Kyle urged everyone to keep him from leaving the village for now, and Lifon nodded, because lately there's been a revolution in mithril blacksmithing, where smiths who couldn't touch the metal before suddenly mastered it, and the moment that happened, the demand for mithril shot through the roof. So yeah, sell it when the price hits its peak. Kraft said it was just a personal request, but now the real question is, could they offload some of their equipment to the adventurers who just moved in? Kyle lit up and said it was the move, then pushed them to map out a plan, because with the money they were raking in, Reddick's team could upgrade their gear fast. So tomorrow, Lifon has to get to work forging the mithril ingots, because Kraft is already itching to ask that girl for a favor. A few days later, Leffin zeroed in on the guy. She told him the moment she was done with everything he asked for, then she called him over so he could come see it. She's banking on him liking her, and the hero's craving the exact same thing, impatiently waiting to see her, while she's absolutely certain it'll happen. Lafon shoved the alchemical crafting cauldron right in front of the guy. The young man stared at it, eyes lighting up, and declared it was absolutely brilliant, while the engravings were just breathtaking. It feels like a masterpiece. She's a real craftswoman through and through. The girl urged, move it to his alchemy room, no, keep it in his storage, and the hero grabbed the thing, and the world around him started to split and crack. Kraft couldn't even process it. 1 second he was fine, the next he crumpled to the ground. Leafin rushed over and demanded if he was okay, and Kraft gasped at the moment she touched him. His head started overflowing with information. When she forged her very first special anvil, the same shocking thing hit her again, like her heart got yanked by fate. Could this weird twist be a hidden special feature, tied to the artisan's coat of arms? His brain got slammed with so much information it felt like it was seconds from bursting, and it hit at the perfect moment, so he decided to fire up the boiler while the new info was still fresh. Kraft started slamming in different liquids and viciously stirring the cauldron until everything churned together. Everything inside it glittered like magic. Leaf thought it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. The young man unleashed magic and everything lit up like the heavens had opened. Then the girl rushed in asking, "Is it ready?" And he grinned, saying, "It worked. Everything's a success. Now we've got a hardening oil for mithril. Slather it on high-purity mithril, and it hardens into hard mithril, a metal that jumps one class higher." Lifan dove into the analysis and told them, "This way, the metal will come out top tier." So they didn't waste a second. They rushed to test it immediately. She stormed out, waited a bit, then came back screaming that she hit the jackpot. She decided to forge a brand new hammer and anvil, and she'd hauled back a flood of fresh intel on weapons and tools. Now she can pull off all kinds of things she couldn't do before, and even Kraft calls it incredible, but she fires back that he's the amazing one. 38. All he'd done was owe that guy a favor, and she turns around and genuinely thanks him. He was mortified, blurted that he'd done nothing, just some terrible accident. But if she was happy, then he was too, so Lafont pitched making new things, and the moment she got busy, the guy finally realized she hadn't listened to him at all. 2 months have rolled by without a single problem, nothing but calm. The knight told Kraft that he'd gone there, then personally shown the boy the ambrosia flower. Kyle leaned in and asked if this was the legendary flower. Kraft shot back that he'd asked Reddick straight up, because he needed to know, right then, if that flower was actually real and waiting there. The girls stared at the heroes posted by the wall, and they stared right back, locked onto that ragweed flower. The knight says they spent ages searching, then nailed down the exact spot. Go straight and you'll be on the road for days, but take the right path and you'll reach it in just 1 or 2. Kraft pressed them to admit they hadn't tried stamina potions yet, because those would have made them move faster than a horse could ever gallop at full speed. For a normal guy, this trek would have taken about a month, so he asked, "You been there?" And the knight nodded, admitting they pushed right up close without getting spotted. A dragon appeared, massive, roaring, and ready to burn everything in its path. Everyone in the room gasped. No feathers at all, just a slick green body, and it absolutely screamed, "This is a dragon." Kraft said they were lucky he couldn't fly, and now people are whispering that he's got a tank-like defense and raw power, because once you know your enemy, everything suddenly gets a whole lot easier. The boy couldn't rest until he figured it out for sure. Kyle fired the question, asking if they were already plotting how to take him down. Kraft shot back like, "Yeah, basically that." They huddle up to map out how to take down the dragon, and Kyle immediately snaps, "Nope, that's way too dangerous, because it's a dragon, so why are they even acting like it's something they'd have to fight?" The hero shot back that they needed a ton of these flowers, because they were the key ingredient to a medicine strong enough to cure Kyle on elixir. Kraft promised they'd de-wipe out the dragon, brew an elixir with this flower's power, and finally drive Kyle's illness away. The knight was over the moon, convinced they could finally cure Mr. Kyle's illness, until Kyle cut in and said the hero couldn't do it. He's not letting it happen. He won't throw himself into danger for him, and he sure as hell doesn't agree with that plan. Kraft figured he'd hit him with that kind of answer, and Kyle didn't even hesitate. "Of course," he said, "because they're risking their lives for this." Then the girl stepped up and swore she'd give her life for him. The young man understood exactly what that meant. But he refuses to play doctor with his sickness if it could endanger anyone else, and if disaster strikes them, he swears he'll never forgive himself. Kraft said he was an incredible, compassionate leader who truly cared. But this wasn't just for his own gain. He still didn't get what the hero meant, so he blurted, "Show me the map." The dragon's lair sits smack in the exact spot they're about to bulldoze for that road. This settlement's got a mountain of problems ahead, but the big one is building a road to the city, especially because the planned route could link them to 2 neighboring countries. The catch, they won't make it without first dealing with the dragon. But could they really take down that dragon? Even a whole army would rather dodge it than face it. Kraft just leaned in and said they still had a real shot. All these monster-slaying experts have crowded in here, and that's exactly why he founded the Adventurers Guild in the first place, the kind of fighting power you can't ignore. They've even got healing potions and tough mithril gear, so this should be smooth sailing. Alfred nodded along with the hero, and Kyle swore it wouldn't turn into a disaster. Then Kraft abruptly drops a new reason. If Kyle and the others brew up 2 elixirs and hand one straight to Margrave Vaylord, that would be an incredible win, right? Alfred and the girl echoed the hero's words about the ghostly medicine and the offering, and Kyle stared at them like something was about to go terribly wrong. Those words lit a fire in them, making it feel like landing this would be a legendary win for Mr. Kyle. The boy stood there drowning in despair, fists clenched so hard they shook, and he begged them to wait, because Kraft promised he could forge this elixir, cure Kyle, and pull off an achievement nobody's even heard of. Alfred and the girl nodded along with the guy's plan, promising they'd back him no matter what, and when Kyle asked them to wait, they agreed. He lunged right in front of them and barked that they couldn't say or do whatever they wanted. This isn't what he wants at all. He doesn't need merit or medicine, and he refuses to let everyone suffer because of him. He can't stand it. He begs them to stop risking their lives for him, and the boy breaks down, crying loudly. Kraft's servants watched the kid like hawks, panicking that he'd end up hurt, so Kraft marched straight to Kyle and swore he'd apologize for making him worry. He ruffled his hair and promised, "Don't worry, I'll show you our secret plan." They spilled outside, and the hero fired off a question about the preparations. Gitaro snapped back that everything was set, that with a space this huge there'd be no trouble, and he could start right away. Liffen instantly saw what the kid was about to do. He blocks her mid-sentence and tells her, "That's what you're thinking, but I've tested it again and again with Chitaro." Then he turns to calm Kyle, urging the girl to understand. Kraft demanded Kyle keep his eyes locked on Kyle, because the truth was going to blow his mind. Then Chitaro yanked the bowstring. And then boom, he let loose. A massive explosion ripped through the air, and everything shook. Everyone is stunned. He actually blasted off that massive explosion with nothing but a bow and arrow. The hero leans in and asks if the boy remembers that magical explosion. He does, says the boy mentioned it back in the report, and now they've strapped an upgraded version to an arrow so they can just fire it straight there, even if they can't land it perfectly themselves. And the mithril bow's Lifan crafted hit like a truck, powerful shots even with barely any force, so with both tricks working at once, the enemy can't close the distance, and your team can blast them away from far out. Kyle said it sounds like the kind of weapon that could change everything, and the knight swears they've got a real shot. Belzia shoots the master a fierce look and begs for permission to jump into the battle, straight up, 86. Alfred even begs for permission too, while the knights crowd the boy, desperate for an answer, and he can't shake his doubts. Kraft leans in and tells the child to give up, because he's acting like he loves them more than anything. And they're not the only ones. Hell, the whole village knows what's eating him up, and everyone scrambles for something that might save him, while nobody wants to say it out loud, terrified that if they can't pull it off, that hope will end in heartbreak. Every single person in this room has sworn to back him up. Kyle begged to be caught so they could use that moment to save him. The boy erupted into tears, saying he'd embarrassed himself, that he'd lost his grip because he loved them all so damn much, and that fear was eating him alive, because his choice would decide whether they lived or died. But since he's the one running the village, he'll grow even stronger too, and once he gives the nod, they're finally allowed to move. And if they want to walk away, they've got to swear they'll come back safe and sound. They sealed their promise, because right now, every last bit of prep was already done. Then the day finally arrived, and it was time to hunt that dragon down and tear it apart. The moment Kraft stepped outside, he spotted a crowd of people, so he demanded, did every adventurer show up for the quest to wipe out that dragon? The knight grinned and said, just taking part alone will shower you in glory. And honestly, they're thrilled to help both him and Kyle out. Then it hit Kraft all at once. Every single one of them was staring down their mission, dead set on pushing forward, and he finally understood what that resolve meant. The kind of joy that hits your chest when you save someone in trouble. Lafon tells the boy to step out from the safety of the village and trust them, and the boy fires back that he's counting on them. Suddenly, the guy snapped his head around. Maina grabbed him by the cloak, yanking him close as the young man demanded what went down. She promised she'd wait for him, then urged him to come back safe and sound. The young man gently stroked her head, swore everything was okay, and promised he'd definitely come back. The adventurers leaned in, locked eyes, and charged out on their quest. And with their courage blazing, the crew charged out to take down the dragon. The adventurer peered at the dragon through binoculars, and the moment they saw it, shock hit them like a punch. That green dragon towered over everything, absolutely massive. Even from this far, you can feel how unstoppable he is, because yeah, the knight has seen him before, and still, right now, he's downright terrifying. He snapped his head toward Kraft and demanded, "Tell me, everything's ready, right?" He flashed a confident nod and told them, "All right, let's start." The guy barked orders at every adventurer, "Listen up," and the crew kicked off the first phase of their plan. He warns them, "If you fail, you're out right away," and adds, "Don't fight if you feel your power can't cut it." They kicked off their attack on the dragon. The moment the adventurers stepped in, the dragon snapped its eyes on them. Redox blared, "We're starting right now." They bolted toward the attack, yelling at the top of their lungs. Then the knight shouted that they were coming too, and Velsia snapped back with only what she fully understood. The guy unleashed a soaring strike, and Belcia snapped back with a swift sky piercer. Other adventurers didn't just watch, they stormed in and attacked the dragon too. The moment that dragon showed up, every adventurer in the crowd bristled with hostility. The girl spotted it, streams of blood spilling from the dragon. The knight roars at them, demanding they keep going with the same unstoppable spirit. Suddenly, the dragon jerked its head up, and Kraft immediately realized it. This thing was about to unleash its breath. The protagonist lunged forward and planted himself right in front of the roaring fire. He dropped to the ground and called forth a massive earthen rampart. The creature burst in from behind the wall. Kraft never forgets the second he pitched their plan, right as the hero draws protective magic, his breath catching in the air. Once the dragons boxed in, the flames will ricochet off the walls and slam straight into the dragon, swallowing it whole. The walls split open, the horror shrieked through the silence, and it warned, "This won't hold for long." Under the cover of night, the call blasted across the town. "Everyone, scramble and get the explosives ready." They loosed arrow after arrow at the dragon, then fired everything they had. An explosion ripped through the air, and the dragon erupted into a blood-curdling scream. Pain slammed into him, then Belcia blared, "We're doing fine," as the creature's strength started to drain away. The knight felt like it was screaming back, as everyone kept piling pressure on him. They've got to go all in, no holding back, no mercy, every last one of them. Suddenly, the dragon jerked upright and unleashed a deafening scream, then a blinding burst of light flooded the adventurers. They're clueless, then the dragon's horn suddenly flares with a sick glow, and you just know this is his attack. Everyone, brace yourselves right now. Nothing moved at all, no attack, no roar, just a dragon standing tall with its head lifted straight to the sky. Kraft realizes nothing's happening at all, so why did they even bother drawing this magic circle in the first place? Someone brushed it off as an empty threat, then everyone panicked and went right back to getting ready to strike again. The arrow launched, but it never made it through, slamming to a stop against an invisible barrier. One of the other magicians lunged to attack too, but when his spell burst out, it fizzled and vanished. Even that spell failed, so Kraft clenched his focus and started picking the whole thing apart. He suddenly understood this wasn't just magic, it was protection magic, guarding him from danger. The hero yelled at Redoc that this light might wipe out every last bit of magic, including that magic explosion, so if that's real, nobody has any clue what else it can do. Redoc snapped that they had to fall back, right now. Suddenly, the dragon jolted awake, its chest rising as it starts to pull in breath. Kraft realizes the great earth and rampart won't stand a chance against something like this from that far away. He kept yelling, screaming at them to run, no stopping, not even for a second. He remembered every word those guys said, how they were betting their lives on him, and he swore he'd never let them die. The moment the plan shifts, Kraft whips the attention over to Redoc and Bep. He told them to wow him with their skills, no time for excuses or explanations. 150. A surge of speed slammed him from behind, and a brutal shoulder grab snapped the guy to attention. He let out a raw scream. Then he slammed onto the ground, and the dragon unleashed its scorching breath. Kraft slammed down and started blasting the great earth shaft all over again. A colossal wall shot up from the ground, slamming shut the dragon's flames like it never had a chance. The hero barely scraped it together in the nick of time. They just can't beat him. No matter what they try, it's totally hopeless. Belzia snaps her gaze to the hero as the truth hits hard. They can't beat that dragon, and if they run, losses are guaranteed. She pressed him for the dragon's weaknesses, like she couldn't wait another second. If we rip his horns off, he may lose the one thing that keeps his magic-steadying power working. The girl demanded the boy bend his head down to the ground, so the young man snapped with confusion, because he couldn't wrap his mind around what the knight was asking of him. She said she, Belsia Fomelhout, would go for it and try to make it happen. Belsia grabbed the boy's attention and ordered him to slam the dragon's head to the ground. She was going to slice off its horn. The kid figures she's trying to rope him into this, until the dragon smashes his magic to nothing, and she's already charging in to attack. He's totally lost, until he finally spots an arrow rigged with explosives. He still remembered the dragon getting hit, one clean arrow shot in, and somehow it landed without even a blast. Magic explosives was supposed to be a full-on magical explosion, the kind that should have been totally blocked. So punch through it with raw force, physical hits still land, and that's their shot. But the guy wouldn't trust it. Red Hat snapped his voice at the hero. He told me if there's even a single shot, you've got to grab it, because if you don't, everything's just going to spiral and get worse. From the start, he was already willing to throw his own life away, because taking down that dragon was worth every sacrifice. The young man stared at his fighting comrades, clenched his fist tight, and blurted out, "Forgive me." He screamed that it was only one breath, and they'd have to hold on to his breath all the way to the final second, or else. His comrades nodded and agreed. He's putting everything on them, because once the moment hits, he's going to unleash and pull all his magic together in one rush. Now that I think about it, Bartek and he can still cast magic, so that proves there's a crack in the way dragon magic gets shut down. It only fires up within a tight radius. So yeah, this is their opening. Raydoka screamed that the dragon was lining up to spit fire. The knights refuse to fall, they'll stand to the very end. And while Bartek and Kraft fight back with totally different tricks, one's all about sealing out fire and heat, and the other upgrades the defense to something even stronger than a shield. They back each other up, shoulder to shoulder, battling that dragon until the danger breaks. The creature spat flames, and it kept closing the distance on the heroes, faster and faster, until it was right on them. They fought to keep their fire under control, but even with the full might of the Redox group, the attack was brutally overpowering. Bardik barked the word Kraft and lunged right at him, then Kraft slammed into his guard and hit him hard. Then he shot them an apology, then immediately fired off a question: how were his comrades holding up? Adventure silhouettes burst out of the smoke screen. Kraft unleashed them. They still jump in and help out. One of the girls spotted the dragon loading up for another breath, and the hero snapped. It's over, too late. A massive stone floated above the dragon, hanging there like death on a string. Then he grinned and said this was the chance everyone had handed him. And he's not letting her slip away. He hurls that rock at the dragon. A massive boulder crashed down on the dragon like an executioner's hammer. If magic won't do the job, build a shepherd out of cobblestones, and the moment you do, the creature drops its head in a deep bow. Kraft barked at Belsia to slash it now and hurled a potion straight at her. She snatched it clean out of the air and gulped it down. This special potion lets you break past human limits for a brief, insane burst. This breakthrough potion is the real deal. Take it, and it should work for sure. The girl shot up into the sky, and in the very next instant, she hacked off the dragon's horns. He started roaring in agony, and white foam spilled from his mouth. The girl started to drop out of sight, so the boy screamed her name, but she gasped, "Don't worry about me, just finish it with the dragon." Kraft blurted that the defense was finally down, so now everyone can go all in and unleash everything they've got. The adventurers are back on the offensive. This is it. The final showdown is here. Kraft hurled Heavenly Thunderclap while Reddick crashed with Great Boulder Smash. Then the dragon realized with absolute certainty that this was it. The battle raged on without giving anyone a breath. A villager straightened up and held their breath, waiting for the heroes to come roaring back. When they saw those crumpled faces, they figured they'd lost, like the victory was already out of reach. Kraft reported that they'd come back. Kyle sprinted over to the guy, pulled him into a hug, and blurted that he was so relieved the hero was still alive, leaving the young man totally stunned. Then Lyphin lunged into his arms, wrapping him up like a promise, and whispered that he'd carried too much for too long, and now finally it was okay, because he made it back home. He set out to make his report, but those two suddenly broke down in tears and insisted, "None of it matters, you're alive, and that's all that counts." And somehow he didn't lose a single one, because retreat isn't defeat, it's guts. They battled with honor, and the hero just decided it'd be quicker to show them what's going on than to sit there and explain. He snatched the proof of their victory straight from the vaults. A dragon's head dropped out, and Kraft snapped that it was way too heavy, so the hero hauled it straight into his vault, and everyone watching went speechless. Lifan collapsed, frozen by pure horror. The hero snapped to the truth. It all hit far too hard and far too fast, so he swallowed his pride, apologized, and admitted he never saw this ending coming. When the dragon's head was shown in the square, rage hit Lifan like a punch. She doesn't want to admit it, but she pushes the guy to swap places with her, picture it from the outside, and Kraft, still kneeling, blurts out an apology. He never thought everyone would be this stunned. Right then, Mina slid up to him and dropped onto his knees, and the hero shot a panic plea for her to move before his legs went completely numb. But this guy's sweet-faced girl turns to him and asks if she can sit right on his lap, and the hero caves, letting her stay there. Kyle told him to slow down, grab his thoughts, and finally explain what happened. Kraft nodded and he jumped straight in. He decided to talk about the fight. You could clearly see it. They wiped out the dragon with 0 casualties. Sure, the gear got wrecked, but Liffen still couldn't believe it. They won clean, even against a dragon. They crushed the main mission too, snagging enough ambrosia flowers and rare herbs to spare. Because sure, the herbs mattered, but beating that dragon was the real prize. They also stumbled on a pile of valuable ores and magic treasures, and Kyle shot the idea straight to the guild. If it's that rare, adventurers are gonna come hunting, so he wanted to wrap this up and get going with everyone, but she just grinned and said she'd handle it. Kraft insisted Reddick spill every gritty detail of the fight, and as the hero kept talking, Mina curled up comfortably on his lap. In the evening, the hero stood there by the sign like he'd just conquered the world, victory over the dragon, right on display, yet the young man couldn't wrap his head around what kind of name that was. One of the adventurers snapped that everyone pitched in on the decorations, because right at the center, the dragon's head sat waiting, and Kraft immediately sensed a dark ritual forming. Kyle strode onto the stage, demanded everyone's attention, and declared that thanks to all their hard work, they'd finally driven out one of the horrors haunting these borders. Until now, this place was known as the Monster Lands. So many settlers tried and failed to carve out a home here. But after they finally crushed the dragon, everything changed. They could spread out and live on a much bigger territory. And to the adventurers and merchants who pulled off that legendary victory, plus every resident of Golden Dawn Village, he offers his deepest, heartfelt gratitude. The boy blurts out, "Let's celebrate our victory over the dragon. Right now, no delays." He lifted his glass and urged him to clink drinks. Every villager is cutting loose in their own way. Some are gulping drinks, hoping to get the hero smashed. Then, out of nowhere, a mystery voice calls him out. It was Rudoka. He grabbed his comrade and demanded if he'd already penned it. The reply came quick. He hadn't gotten drunk, and now everyone was hooked, dying to know why. They pulled it off this time because of one guy, him. Kraft tells them plain and simple, he just did what he could, while Rudoka claims he laid everything out ahead of time, prepping the case, the adventurers, and all the gear through pure careful planning. It all came down to one thing. He stared at his hand, where the mark she left was etched in, and Kraft couldn't thank her enough. Reddick agreed, but honestly, he could have found a way to handle it even without that cross. It's hard to pin down exactly how it went down, but picture this, an adventurer's gathering, buzzing with fate, and yeah, with him there, the outcome flips. The night was right. The hero stared at Kyle, laughing and drinking with the residents, and said, "You did all of this alone, no help, just you." So yeah, Reddick said it himself, and this time everything actually clicked because he made it happen. Kraft sat on the grass, staring up at the night sky, then out of nowhere, someone crept closer. It was Lee Fun. Then the hero blurted that he'd had one drink too many, and the girl snorted with laughter before plopping down right beside him. She stared into the distance and grilled the boy. Now that the dragon was gone, how would the village finally stay safe from attacks? The young man stared at the girl, stunned, then snapped, "You're right," confirming her words. Then he said, straight up, that at the very least they'd slashed the odds of this ever happening again. The girl lit up with pure joy, like the whole nightmare was finally over for good. After a while, the girl finally slumped into the guy's side and conked out, but her dreams turned ugly. She sobbed, crying for her mom and dad. The hero stayed put, refusing to wake his friends even as the night dragged on. A few days later, Kraft burst into the spotlight and declared the elixir was finally ready. A tiny jar sat right in front of Kyle and Mina, and the boy leaned in, asking if it was cream. Then Kyle gave him the answer, "Yep." Then he dropped the bombshell, "Eat it, put it in your mouth." All Fraud and Belcia froze, staring at him in pure shock. The hero snaps that Kyle's disease is congenital, so the cure hits from the inside. "My cross says so." Belcia warns the guy, spelling out what happens if it fails. Then Kyle grabs a spoonful of cream and shoves it into his mouth. Alfred and Belcia immediately swarmed him with frantic questions about how he was holding up, and the hero snapped at them to breathe and calm down. The boy tried to brush it off, saying nothing felt special anymore, until something hit him out of nowhere. His nights turned into pure dread, and he couldn't stop thinking, could this really get even worse? Tears burst from the boy's eyes, and nobody had a clue what was happening. Kyle said the pain and the winds in his heart hit like a sudden shock, like everything he'd fought for was gone in an instant. The boy erupted into loud sobs, and Belcio rushed over, scooped him into a tight hug, and tried to calm the shaking panic. She swore with every ounce of her soul that this day would finally arrive. Joy spilled through her like sunlight, and Alfred's eyes welled up with a tear too. The hero slipped out of the room so he wouldn't get in the way, and Alfred immediately trailed right after him. The man bowed deep, thanking the boy for saving Mr. Kyle, and then demanded to know how he could repay him, because charity wasn't going to cut it. The hero is finally breathing easy because the medicine worked, no hiccups at all. The knight praises it as truly wonderful, but his relief turns into a craving. If they could only get more of it, even just one more bottle, 256. Kraft said there's still a cure, and if it works out, then Mr. Kyle will finally be fully healthy, which would be the best possible ending. There's still plenty of elixir left, and the man's face is frozen in shock. The young man laid it all out for him, everything he'd built from the loot they pulled after slaying the dragon. 129 bottles of Sura, a legendary drink that spikes your abilities for a moment, and 73 bottles of Amrita, including one that can shave a whole year off your age. And to top it all off, he had 47 bottles of elixir. Kyle snapped, asking if he'd really done wrong, and it felt like his tears got swallowed for nothing. Belcia berated the hero, and he shrugged, admitting he'd gone a little overboard, but at least these potions were rare. If they sell even one batch in the city, they're walking away richer than ever. Kraft warned them they'd get burned either way, then pushed the idea, hand everything straight to His Excellency, Margrave Baylord. Alfred, Belcia, and Kyle stared in shock, completely stunned. Baylord Margrave, Kyle's father, slumped into his desk chair, scanning paperwork like it owed him money, when his oldest son finally turned to face him. The man flashed a grin at Zid and told him he'd just gotten a message from Kyle. Zaid caught himself thinking Kyle sounded way too grand, while he was probably drowning in settlement trouble already. Then he asked if his brother was already breaking down in tears, and Baylord shot back that he was. He told everyone that Kyle had sent something insane. Then the guy finally opened it, grabbed what his brother delivered, and his jaw dropped in total shock. They fought their way through and crushed the dragon, then handed over the legendary elixir brewed from those gathered herbs to the Margrave. They're about to crash into the Margrave's territory any moment. Kraft clapped Kyle on the shoulder to start the shift and told him to show everyone what they'd built, and the kid lit up and agreed right away. Kraft said the second they looked up, a breathtaking view unfolded in front of them. It had been ages since Kyle stepped foot in Gandhara, and that's when it hit him. His older brother had been there before, and everyone was shocked to learn the hero the boy praised was actually his own older brother. Kyle snapped to his senses, realized the mistake he'd made, and apologized to the hero, then blurted that he wouldn't say it to anyone else, but Belcia stared at him with a killer glare, and the young man immediately tried to talk his way out of it, insisting the girl had misunderstood everything. The hero still remembers the instant Kyle offered him a big brother spot. Right then, Belcia erupts, screams that he needs to recognize his limits, and orders the guy to drop that title. They rode toward the city where the Margrave lives, teeming with people, packed with secrets and knowledge. Kyle leaned in and said the capital is even more crowded than this place, and get this. The gates are always wide open, because the flow of travelers never stops, so there's no toll. The hunter mutters that if he'd known this, he'd have shown up way earlier, and the boy even offers to let him roam around while they're here. Kraft had been curious about that all along, but instead of asking first, he just barged in uninvited, plopped down beside the nobleman like he owned the place. And this guy still manages to surprise me every single time. Belcia told the hero, stay shamelessly fearless. Now you've got to learn to be just as impudent as you already are. The heroes spilled out of the carriage, like they were about to kick the world open. The guards demanded whether they were related to Margrave Baylord, so Kraft shot back, who are you? And the girls straight up said they were the gate guards, while Alfred confirmed it with a clear yes. The guard told them to ditch the main street because it was packed, so Alfred shot back his thanks. Then, boom, Kyle popped out of the carriage and thanked the same men right after. Everyone's jaws dropped when this happened. The guards clocked Mr. Kyle instantly and lit up as they greeted him. They clocked that the gentleman looked healthy again, and he breathed that, luckily, he was finally okay, so the men cheered him on, saying the country air must have done him real good. Alfred told them it was just a quick return, and the guards nodded, promising they'd keep every single detail locked down as a strict secret. The hero's carriage rolled ahead, and the hunter couldn't stop smiling at every breathtaking view. They rolled up to Kyle's house, and the kid admitted he hardly ever went inside. Back when he was small, he'd been shuffled off to a country estate. The hunter figured nobles never really came back home, and right then, Liffen snapped at the boy. Kyle told them to ignore everything and not look back, because with everyone here, he'd deliver a solid report to his father, and he was truly thankful for it. The hunter gushed that the boy was adorable. Belzia nodded along, and Kraft couldn't help thinking Belzia's inner thoughts were spilling out in real time. Liffen pushed for them to go in, and the hero insisted they shouldn't have rolled into the ruler's territory in a carriage in the first place. Then the young man demanded Mina stand up from her knees, but she refused. Leifun admitted she was starting to like that guy, and the young man couldn't wrap his head around why she'd been so stubborn before. The gates snapped open, and the crew burst into the territory like they owned the place. The heroes grinned at their newfound loot, and then, right from a window somewhere nearby, someone stared down at them. Zed and Fretten right there, taking over the moment. The heroes were trapped inside the mansion, holding their breath as they waited for the next move. Margrave Baylord sat right there with Zed, the second son, and Fratten the eldest, and then the man leaned in and greeted them. The Margrave said Kyle's answer was fascinating, so tell me, did he really come all this way just to clear his name? The young man nodded, craving a straight-up meeting because he had a mountain of things to say. Baylord insisted they start with potions, and Kyle snapped his head to Kraft like, show me the potions first. The hero asked why he just ditched them, then instantly realized his own words were a total wreck, because now he's standing right in front of a nobleman, and nerves are crashing through him. The hero emptied 44 elixir bottles, grabbed 129 suras, and stocked 73 amrita. Kyle's family stared in shock. He hauled in unfathomable stuff, in unfathomable amounts. Kyle's eyes went wide like, I can't handle this alone, so he decided the only move was to hand it straight to his father. Kyle's father knew this wouldn't be easy to swallow, because he'd just pulled off something huge, so he turned that pride into action and thanked Kyle back. The Margraves insisted, hand some of this straight to His Majesty. If we dump everything on the market, the whole economy will crash. Now about killing the dragon, sure, those potions are just scraps of proof, but does he actually have any hard, direct evidence? Kyle said they grabbed the dragon's head and hauled it off. Then the man's face lit up in shock, because they didn't even have a cart with them. All because it's locked away in Kraft's special storage, right as the boy jabbed a finger at the hero, scratching his head in full-on embarrassment, while the second son stared, doubting every word. Zaid swore everything finally made sense. Turns out dragon was just a lizard, and somehow Kyle ended up bragging like he belonged to an aristocracy. Kraft snapped back that this special storage usually can't swallow anything that big, so Margrave pushed them to try the back garden, only for Kyle to shoot it down and say it wouldn't fit. One of the sons pitched it, use the front garden everyone keeps walking past, because if it's truly that grand, it'll totally wow the ordinary folks. Zed always knows exactly how to piss people off. Alfraud and Belcia would have cut him down already if he wasn't Kyle's brother, and Kraft finally begged permission to speak to the Margrave. He shrugged it off like it wouldn't matter, then said they'd smash every last flower bed, and Zed burst into laughter. Then he said there'd be no trouble with it. Baylord even cleared the way for them to do it there, and the young man bowed his thanks. Kraft stormed out to the front garden, ready to tear the dragon's head free. The Count's family peered from the window, and the young man clocked it fast, then let out a tired breath. The guy snapped his fingers and unleashed a special kind of magic. It sounded like a loudspeaker. Then the young man blared for everyone passing by to look his way, and Liffen was shocked she could hear his voice crystal clear. The hero leans in and tells you about the wild feat that the Margrave's third son, Lord Kyle Baylord, just pulled off. He didn't just muscle his way into the monster lands, he welded the whole group into a single force, and together they tore down a terrifying monster, crushing it with their unity and his leadership. Still, nobody was going to buy his promises on faith, so he pushed them to witness the proof for themselves. And right there they had to hail Kyle, the young, bright ruler. Then, in the very next breath, he ripped the dragon's head out with his own hands. That head was so massive it barely squeezed into the front garden, and everyone around was left stunned. People started chanting praises for Mr. Kyle. This is the biggest monster I've ever seen, and he couldn't help but grin, thrilled that he had their side, realizing they were all buzzing with excitement. He snapped his gaze toward Kyle's friends and family, and Zed's jaw dropped in total shock, while Belcier and Lafon wore that exact, he totally overdid it again look. The young man suddenly realized he'd screwed up again, big time. Crowds surged toward the dragon's head, desperate for a glimpse, while the guards shoved people into a line and yelled, "You can look, just don't lose your footing." The butler hustled the hero to the right spot, and right away Kraft caught the guards whispering that they couldn't rein this mess in. Thadev wanted a heads up. Tough luck, more work for them, and the guy looked genuinely, painfully sorry. The Margraves were halfway through dinner when the hero slid in with them, and one of the sons blurts out an idea to charge a fee for tourists to see the dragon's head. Baylord snapped back that jumping in without prep would turn it into a powder keg, and even then, he wasn't about to blast this achievement all over, so he left the fallout to Fomalhaut. Kraft finally caught which Fomalhaut they meant, and right then Belcia snapped her gaze away, plainly furious. Kyle's father beamed and told him he'd done an amazing job caring for the dragon, then thanked everyone who'd backed Kyle, revealed that the settlement already hit 1,000 people, and Kyle immediately shot back that they still didn't have enough housing. They're out of room, no more new arrivals can get in. The man swore he'd topped every single expectation, and then, out of nowhere, screams shattered the air. The dining room door burst open, and every single person in the room snapped their heads toward it. Two girls burst into the room, cheeks burning, and immediately apologized for barging in. The Margrave snapped his head toward Vela and Rayla and told them they had to talk. This was huge. Then Vela smirked, giggled, and acted like she'd already figured it out. Even if she doesn't belong in this conversation, that woman won't stay silent. She barrels in with her opinion as Kyle calls out Kraft. He told the guy, "This is my old second lover, now my first wife, Vela, and that's her daughter, Rayla, and yes, she's Zaid's mom." The woman shrugged like nothing was off, and the man nodded right along. Vela praised Kyle's achievements as absolutely incredible, and the second the words hit, Kyle blushed hard and stared at her like he couldn't believe it. He thanked the woman, and Kraft couldn't figure out why that boy looked way happier than the moment his father had praised him. But this brand new generation grew up at lightning speed, so isn't it too much for Kyle? Sure, there's truth in that, but the woman refuses to say it out loud. The good news. The new village sits just a short distance from Zaid's territory. Seeing how he could run things, Vela offered to hand the whole settlement to Zed. The whole room went quiet because nobody could believe what they just heard. On paper, his territory sits right there, but between them stretches this massive land that makes no sense at all. Vela went on, crediting the medicine for saving Kyle, curing his illness and stripping away his inborn weakness, and then she leaned in like, "So tell me, wouldn't it be smarter if Kyle helped me out here in Gandhara?" Her claims sound fair at first, but Zid knows the truth. She's just twisting her power to shield her own son, plain and simple. Zid confirmed her words. Kraft finally clocked it. Zid and the others were setting up to cash in on Kyle. Zid even swore he'd vouch for Kyle's settlement, and now that the illness had vanished, there was nothing left to fear. He told himself he could hand the rest to his brother and be done with it. The young man erupted in laughter, and Fratton seized the moment to throw out an idea. Since Mom suggested it, why not hand this whole settlement over to Zed and give Kyle a brand new start too? The Margrave snapped his orders at the butler to fetch the map, and when he spread it on the table, the whole thing unfurled in front of them. Lifon stared in shock at how detailed the map was, while Kraft muttered, "Wait, is this supposed to be a secret weapon of the aristocrats?" And Fratton immediately started hunting for a better spot to move Kyle. He jabbed his finger at a spot right near the dragon, right there by the Dubatin Empire, with the Zevius Federation sitting on this side of the mountain range, and a handful of small nations scattered nearby, making the whole area perfect for development. Kyle's got a knack for building settlements, so why not send him there and let the town take off? Vela snapped her head toward Fratton. She pressed him, asking if her son was truly incapable of pulling it off. Then he snapped back that even Zaid couldn't do it, not without juggling a new settlement on top of everything else. Kyle will head there just like before, to plant roots and set up a brand new settlement, and Rayla's already praising it, saying her brother's proposal is nothing short of excellent. If they both kick off at the exact same time, won't it finally prove who's truly the best? The room fell silent, then the Margrave's face went stone serious. Vela said this could be Kyle's moment to prove it wasn't all luck, and Kraft immediately blew up. He was furious that they dared doubt Kyle. Then the boy nodded and agreed to the plan. Alfred, Dulcia, and Lafon are left reeling, while Zid bursts into laughter and tells them his brother is finally getting so smart. Kyle drops two requests. First, he insists they keep the name Golden Dawn, and his brother just snickers. Then their father asks about the second condition, because starting with Kraft, he's fought through more than enough with the people in this village. So Kyle decides he'll take anyone who's ready to roll with him. Most peasants can't leave the patch of land they're born into, but towns like theirs are the rare exception. Vela snapped that no one was taking a single scrap of resources or property out of the village, and Kyle exploded with rage. He snapped that it was too much, no new area without resources, and the woman shot back that if that was the deal, then she wouldn't grant permission for either one. The boy got the whole picture, then shot back a bold question: can guilds and regular people haul their own supplies with them? Baylord shot Kyle a quick question: is this really okay? And Kyle nodded, confirming it was. Zed told him it was all decided, and Kyle finally swallowed his pride and started acting like a real aristocrat. Kraft leaned in and whispered to Kyle why he said yes, then he flashed a slick wink. And just like that, the meeting slammed shut and everyone scattered. The Margrave summoned Kraft and demanded he come talk, alone, in this very room later, and Kraft just stood there stunned. After a while, Kraft finally showed up at the meetup spot, trembling with nerves. Baylord snapped at him to sit down. The boy sipped tea beneath the Margrave's unblinking stare, and pure nerves shook his insides. Panic slammed into him. He couldn't handle the pressure, so he begged the Margrave to speak, and then, out of nowhere, he blurted a line about being a twilight alchemist. Baylord told the kid he'd heard the boy was a walking encyclopedia of medicine, and sure enough, he could back it up. The young man thanked him, and then Baylord leaned in and demanded, "So, have you ever heard of Jarvel Galen?" Javril is the top alchemist in the country. She's blasted a revolution in fertilizers, and even became a legendary doctor, and the hero swore she's a name everyone knows, then proved it by devouring book after book she wrote. He couldn't stop picturing her face in his mind. Margrave told him Jarvel was working for Zaid, and it sounded like she was dying to talk to him, but the hero still couldn't wrap his head around why he'd even evolve people in the first place. Baylord could pinpoint where her mansion sat, and Kraft wasted no time. He decided to leave right then. He couldn't stop spiraling in his own nerves. Then the Margrave snapped, demanding the boy look after Kyle. The young man froze in shock, whipped around, and nodded his agreement. After what felt like forever, they finally reached the Jarvel mansion, and the place just dripped with darkness and dread. Suddenly, the statue beside him sprang to life and pointed the way for him. Kraft stared in shock. This was no ordinary monster. It was a man-made monster. To pull this off, you'd need top-tier alchemy in Jarvel. He's got the power to do anything. The statue buzzed the news to the mistress. She'd finally brought Mr. Kraft, then snapped, saying he was late and ordering her to take him here. He said hello, and the second he looked up, Jarvel left him absolutely stunned. She spun around and claimed she was the one and only Javril, and the moment her name landed, the young man couldn't believe she was just a little girl. The tiny girl marched up and declared, "I'm Javril," then pointed at him and asked, "Are you Kraft?" And the boy nodded, confirming it. His name is Kraft Walken, and he knows all about her, because her reputation precedes her everywhere he goes. He started studying every word she said, and when he finally met her, joy lit him up, then he grabbed her hands. The young man snapped back to reality and rushed out an apology, insisting he'd only gone so far because pure happiness had taken over, and Javril nodded. There were things he understood, even with that young age. Out of nowhere, the boy spotted it, Master Jarvel's latest creation, the thing that purifies river water called Ranbeck. Kraft had never laid eyes on him before, but the girl said he looked like he'd been studying hard, real talent, the kind she could spot instantly, and when he thanked her, she just smiled. Those book-learned tips were priceless for mixing medicines, and she swore he'd be over the moon the day she let him become her apprentice. The girl paused for one heartbeat, then blurted his name, and he jolted with a full-body shudder. Javril leaned in and promised, as a special favor, that she'd take him on as her apprentice. But there's one catch. She'd been told by His Excellencies that he'd pulled off a miracle cure that saved Mr. Kyle. To prove he was worthy of her apprentice, she demanded one thing: she had to see how to make it herself. Kraft swore he'd always carried the secret, then shoved the recipe into the girl's hands. Her eyes went wide. She couldn't believe it. He just strolled around with it sitting in his pocket, no big deal, and she snapped, "All right, I'm reading it right now." She dove into the recipe, then blurted out that they'd take him on as their student, and Kraft shot a heartfelt thank you at the teacher. He'd love to live close by and study with her, but he's forced to stay inside the settlement. Javril snapped back to his guild contract, then remembered she'd been working under Mr. Zed under strict terms and was even living on his territory, so he asked, "Wait, does that mean she's moving too?" Kraft laid it all out for the girl, and the moment it landed, she clutched her head and blurted that Mr. Z had to be taken straight to the Golden Dawn settlement. That was all she needed, because the hero snapped to it. Even the teacher was struggling too. He'd signed on with the guild, not Mr. Kyle, so he probably couldn't just move, but the hero still refused to let him go alone and chose to follow anyway. Javril pushed them to hash it out with the guild. If the talks blew up, she'd still step in and vouch for him. The boy felt it pure inspiration, because the way that girl cared for her student hit him like a punch, and at the same time, Javril couldn't stop thinking about how far he'd already helped her with her research, and it still didn't even come close to what she was giving. She stared back at his recipe and fired off a quick question: why hadn't he published it yet? He just blinked at her, like he didn't get what she meant. Then he demanded to know what it meant, and she nearly gasped that he'd never even heard of academies. HE shares what he knows, spreads it across the world, and she's been right there helping build that system. So he's totally stuck on how to even shape or present his work. Yeah, the young man admitted it, and she hit back with one suggestion: write about him. But then she'd have to slap her name down as a co-author too, because even if rage boiled in his veins at being forced to share credit on his paper, he pushed it anyway for humanity. Kraft closed in and asked if she was truly ready to be his co-author, because he believed she deserved to receive that incredible honor. Javril didn't shut him down. She said she was okay with it. Then the young man erupted into non-stop thanks and urged her to go ahead and do it. The alchemist couldn't stop wondering if he'd never been able to trust his own instincts, like he was cursed to misread everyone, and she just felt worse and worse about it. 40. R.I.P. The very next day, LaFawn wakes up the guy like it's already go time. He shot up, apologized to her, and admitted he hadn't slept a wink all night. He'd been locked in all that time, devouring the book the teacher gave him. Without warning, the girl froze, cheeks burning red, and blurted, "Why are you naked?" He told her, "Don't panic, this is just the top part," and then snapped, "And those panties, they go too," because he wasn't about to sleep in his clothes on a bed like this. The boy demanded she turn around so he could get dressed, and LaFawn snapped at him to hurry. Mina sat down in the chair where his clothes were scattered. He told her to move, but she just froze, so he scooped her up and snapped that she had no business sitting on his clothes. Freshly dressed, the young man turned to Liffen and demanded why she was here. Then she snapped his cloak in her hands and yanked him off into the unknown. Suddenly, a stranger stepped right in front of them and demanded, "Are you headed to the guild?" Belcia, her stepped in and said she'd go with them, and the hero instantly felt like she was just bored, until her indignation lit up the air. Then the young man pressed her about Kyle's protection, and she snapped back that anyone foolish enough to attack His Excellency's mansion would regret it. Liffen insisted the girl was clearly shielding him, if only he'd realize how important he is, but the hero still doesn't get it, because he's the one who brewed all 43 bottles of the legendary potion. If that's the case, the three of them could finally steal a sweet date, flowers in hand, fingers locked, all that cute stuff, and Belcia came in shouting, "This is not a date," like he wasn't even joking one bit. When he finally hit the city streets, the young man spotted it instantly. Almost no demi-humans in sight, those intelligent, non-human folk. The knight grabbed his attention and pressed him. What did he know about demi-humans? He told me he grew up in an orphanage packed with half-human kids. And Liffen's a halfling too, even if Belcia keeps forgetting, because he looks so normal. But discrimination follows them everywhere, and in the barracks, most people can't stand the fur. She thinks it's all about old ideas colliding with new ones, and Liffen even drops that he knows plenty of demi-humans, while the young man nods and says she can click with anyone, like she's basically their mascot. She froze at how the guy called her by name, and when the hero sensed danger, he snapped her focus to a meat skewer sitting right there. He promised he'd treat them, and LaFawn snapped that she could feel he was dodging the real, looming problem. Then the hero said, "Yeah, I think you're right," and sprinted off to grab a meat skewer. He handed Belcia a kebab, then tossed Liffen two of them. She demanded to know why only she had two, while he held one in his hands, and he snapped back that she'd have to eat a ton, unlike Belcia. The girl burst into tears, snapping that he had absolutely zero delicacy. Just like this morning, she reminded him, no, she wasn't a kid anymore. Then the guy offered to grab her second skewer if she skipped eating it. She declared she'd eat first, because she's a total glutton, and Belcia snapped at the guy that he'd never be popular before they headed for the Gandar Adventurers Guild. Lifan and Kraft froze in shock when the guild leader showed up, then it shouted their names. He told them it was a relief to see everyone still standing strong, then Lafan admitted they hadn't crossed paths in ages, and the hero shot back, "So why are you here?" "Because of that guy," he said, giving all the credit. They promoted him and handed him the keys as the city's new guildmaster, right at the center of the guild and the regional adventurer headquarters. He barely understood what was happening, but he still stepped up and congratulated his boss. So the report said the medicines got handed over to the authorities, and the hero confirmed it. He fully believed that was the right call. The man nodded along and made it crystal clear. If he tried to misuse them, it would blow up into serious trouble. He even took down that dragon, pure legend stuff, and after the dust settled, the man dropped 2 bags of coins right in front of them and declared it was a special reward for the both of them. He froze at the huge sum and demanded, "Are you sure you can give me that much?" Then the man snapped back that he wasn't even worried about the payment. He was worried he'd have to sit there and swallow it, because what he'd done for them deserved more than such a measly amount. This wasn't enough for an alchemist that's skilled. If he can do something, anything at all, he just has to ask, and he'll throw everything he has into making it happen. Kraft said, "All right, one request, just one." And it sounded wild, but he demanded a change to his contract anyway. His contract locks him down to the border village, so there's no way he can reach the new settlement. He's desperate to go with Kyle. Kraft straight up tells Kyle, I'm coming with you. He knows it's totally unreasonable, but he still wants it, because the guild leader just told him he could stay with Kyle. And Kyle, he was confused out of his mind, like, wait, why would he be the only one staying? The kid says his contract lays it out. Since he's in the guild, he has to stay inside the exact area they assigned him, and then he tells the guy, ask Lifon, make him explain it. Because of the contract, he's locked into the settlement for a long time, and that chains him to its name, the Golden Dawn. Even if he wants out, he still has to drag himself along and follow Mr. Kyle for the sake of both him and the village. Lefon swore that Mr. Kyle would never, ever leave him behind. He suddenly remembered what he'd said just a minute ago, and his face went red. This was exactly the subject he'd been dying to get into. Kraft pointed out the kid was still pretty young, and then, sharp as a command, told him to shut up. The guild leader leaned in and told the boy, don't you worry, nobody's going to rip you away from Mr. Kyle. And with that, his last worries just melted away. After the guild, the heroes headed straight for the orphanage, because that young man remembered it wasn't just a place for strangers, it was where he grew up. After all this time, the church was still yanking the strings, so he decided to slip out just to see what was going on. Out of nowhere, he caught kids spitting vile hate about half-humans, and then they decided to hurl stones at them. The half-humans fought to shield their own, and just in time, Kraft slammed up his rainbow barrier. Rocks blasted off the brand new wall as it surged up from the ground, and they nailed every target who dared to throw them. The kids suddenly realized it was a magical barrier, and that realization crushed the fun right out of the moment. Right then, Kraft caught their attention, staring at them like a threat, his expression daring them to feel brave, because the kids had totally wiped out their fear. The kids scattered, and the young man stood there stunned, clueless what kind of life this was supposed to be, because no matter where he went, trouble like this kept finding him. He marched up to the half-humans, demanded to know how they were doing, and honestly, he couldn't help but grin at the fact that he'd accidentally wound up here. But the kids barely looked his way. They were glued to the shiny wall, calling it super cool, and the boy couldn't help blushing in embarrassment. The kids asked if that old man was a magician, and the hero nearly choked, because the old man turned out to be just 20 years old. Then bam, a girl showed up and demanded the guys explain what that noise was. Then she locked eyes with the boy, instantly realizing he was Kraft, and the boy shot back, realizing she was Azul. Belcia leaned in and asked, do you two know each other? And he shot back, yeah, we grew up together. He shot her a question, what was she doing here? She snapped back that his face had turned a little more furious, and that she hadn't changed at all, but the girl still didn't get it. Kraft realized she'd completely misunderstood what he meant. He clocked her clothes and realized she'd been forced into the priest's apprentice life, and the hero's jaw dropped in shock. Lafont muttered that, for half-humans, it's unbelievably brutal. Azul demanded to know who was with you. Lafont stepped in and introduced herself, and you learned Belzia was his bodyguard. Then they all rode with him to make that donation. Azul beamed and ordered them to follow her. She promised tea, then the heroes flat-out refused. The shelter was a total disaster, so beat up it looked like it might fall apart any second. It's less a shelter and more a real ending. Azul even apologized for the view, because the whole building is ancient and falling apart. The whole place is falling apart so badly that even his money can't stitch it back together, and the kids immediately begged Kraft to show his magic again. Leifen leaned in toward the kids and asked their ages. Then they fired back that she was just a bit older than them, told her she shouldn't try to act grown, and even teased her for being short. The girl snapped with rage and started screaming that maybe she looked like that, but she was way older than them, so the kids bolted in every direction, and Belzia couldn't even figure out what was going on. Then one of the girls rushed up to the knight. She spotted a real sword, squealed that it was cute, and immediately blushed hard. Kraft realized the girl was already old enough for people to start noticing her, and the knight itself warned the kids to stay away from grown-up business. Azul showed up with food and told him the young man was thriving with the kids. The girl told them she got promoted because she busted her butt, throwing everything she had into helping the parish priest. Crafter even calls it childhood, but to her, she was a born tomboy. He was ready to bounce right after the donation, but then he couldn't sit still. He had to help somehow. Lafon stepped up and offered to lend a hand with the repairs right here. Azul flat-out refused, saying the shelter would shut down any minute. Then the heroes were left staring in shock. Yep, that's the whole sad truth. Everyone calls the church compassionate, but orphanages cost a fortune, and they don't last if the money doesn't come in, so they shut their doors, and the girls swore they'd found new homes for the children. But once it starts, every single one of them gets torn apart. The kids started yelling they weren't going anywhere. They wanted to stay right there with Azul, and the girl snapped at them. begging them to stop being selfish. But they just can't bear to leave, because being with Azu feels like home, and the moment separation hits, they break down and cry. They're totally clueless why they can't stay with Azul. She's trembling, then she begs them for forgiveness. She wants nothing more than to stay by their side, but she can't shield them all. Half human and a priest's apprentice, she can only chase new homes for them one by one. She fought to keep her voice steady, swallowed her tears, and kept apologizing to the kids. Kraft paused for a beat, then leaned in and asked the kids if they were ready to chase distant lands, so they could build a new home and keep Azu close. They promised they'd hunt her down anywhere she ran and do whatever it took, and that's exactly the reply the guy had been waiting for. Lifan demanded to know if the guy's plan was real, and when he nodded, he swore he'd never let them split up. He'd shield them with everything he had. On the day they were finally set to leave for Golden Dawn Village, the kids rushed up to the estate where Kyle and Kraft were waiting, and the girl blurted out an apology for the holdup, because packing had dragged on way too long. One kid blurts out that he never saw this coming, then turns to the girl and tells her to stand taller and act prouder. She's the chief priest of the new settlement and the orphanage's biggest leader, no less. Then the boy grabbed the hero and asked, "So how in the world did you pull that off?" He told them Kyle was the one who first pitched the church and the orphanage to their settlement. There wasn't even a church yet, so they snapped up the offer. Then Kyle wrote Azul a recommendation letter, and with that push, the church went all in and decided to promote Azul. The cardinal stepped in and declared, "This isn't just luck. Azul's grind has carried her this far." Even though the church had already stamped out discrimination against demi-humans, society's deep-rooted bias was still yanking the brakes on her climb. And yeah, this moment hits home for them too. They're finally ready to praise Azula's priest for his devotion, and the cardinal himself just sends her off with a heartfelt wish for good luck in her new home. Kraft and the kids stared at the chaos. Then a hunter burst in on the hero and demanded, "So who is this adorable priest?" The young man spilled every detail to him, no secrets left behind, and he couldn't believe she agreed to head out with them to the new settlement. The girl stared at him and he instantly blushed and grinned. Then he sprinted up, introduced himself as Gerardo, and declared he was her bodyguard, like he'd already fallen head over heels for her. Kyle shot back an apology for the wait, then told everyone he'd said goodbye to his father. The boy knows he won't be back in Gandar anytime soon, and Baylor just watches it all from the window, stunned. Kraft still remembers when Father Ultros told the hero to protect Kyle, so in his head he keeps hearing that promise, "Don't worry, I'll keep Kyle safe." And then that half-human girl leans in, warning her friend not to do anything that could shove Azu into an awkward spot. Kyle finally clocked who those people were, and Azu poured out her gratitude to the boy with all her heart for his unreal kindness. The kids started jabbering about how they might not have much experience, but they lit up the moment they met him. Then they asked him to look after them. Kyle clocked how polite they were, and Kraft realized he'd totally fallen for their act. Azul can't stop worrying about what this long trip might do to the kids, until Gerardo, Alfred, and Belcia shut that fear down fast, saying the road won't drag on because they're gripping stamina potions right in their hands. Carriages tear forward at breakneck speed. Alfred unleashes Stormstrike, Gerardo slams out never-ending Onslaught, and Belcia keeps hammering with non-stop attacks. If this keeps up, it'll all run perfectly, and nobody's getting hurt. Azu blurts out that this kind of power and speed are completely off the charts, and she can't make sense of it at all. Liffen just thanks her, since she'd already forgotten how abnormal it really was, and sure enough, they were there only a few days later. Zed marched into the settlement called Golden Dawn, and he couldn't wrap his head around it. Why was the place so empty, like not a single soul was left alive? The guild boss claims he's been waiting on the master, then slams for answers. Where the hell did the entire 1000th settlement vanish to? Kyle said he'd fork over 5 gold coins every month for a full year to whoever stayed, didn't he? The leader snapped back that Mr. Yakyo had shouted it in public and posted the whole announcement. Still, when Mr. Kyle finally left, not a single person stayed behind. Zed brushed it off as a joke, like Kyle and them couldn't possibly be serious about charging straight into that same deadly frontier. 2 weeks before Zaid even showed up, Kyle gathered the villagers and announced, "Zaid will rule this place, and I'm heading out for new lands." Shock hit hard, anger flared in every chest, and the people seethed, but the boy stepped in and begged them to calm down. He told them to look ahead and chase the future. If anyone wanted to follow him and start fresh in the new lands, just say the word. But before the young man could even finish, every single person shot their hands up and shouted, "Of course we're coming. We're not staying here." Kraft demanded they confirm their choice, stay, and Mr. Zed would cough up every last coin, no shortcuts, so the villagers erupted, swearing they'd turn their new home even greater than the last, and leave that stuck-up aristocrat reeling for how he rides so high. Kyle wastes no time. He tells everyone to pack up and get ready for relocation. Kraft figured most people would rather stay put, so he mentally cheered for Kyle and thought, yeah, he knows exactly how to bring people together. But Kyle doesn't even realize what that look on Kraft's face really means, and honestly, it's probably because Kraft's popularity does all the talking. The heroes huddle up by the boxes, and Kraft quickly lays out exactly what they're grabbing before they move on. They're forced to ditch almost half the stamina potions, because they're not allowed to carry the village's supplies. At least Keeler's shop snapped up half the stock, so they're not totally out of options. Kyle had already hauled in the blacksmithing and alchemy materials from Gandhara. Now they had everything they needed to forge and brew again, anytime they wanted. The guild contract traps him here, no exceptions. But once things finally get better, they'll open a whole new branch and pull the head of the Adventurers Guild over to it. They tore themselves away from the village and kicked off their journey. Their target was the patch where the district people lived, the kind of territory that screamed danger, still barely mapped by anyone, and this trip, the way it was supposed to go, would normally take months. With potions, they're straight-up invincible. Rayduka even reported the pests were already dealt with, and the other guy grabbed some extra energy to build a road they could use later. They tore down the road at full speed, and nothing went wrong. And they were there in the blink of an eye. Kyle thanked Leifin and Alfred for hanging around, and the girls shot back that the monsters nearby were finally wiped out. Then they mapped out exactly where the houses would go. Kyle grinned and called it a great job, because now it was time to start building temporary housing. Everyone in the settlements threw themselves into the work, and no one sat idle. Everyone pitched in to build. Kraft realized on the road that they were still wildly abnormal, yet they'd already fought through all that time, and were grinding through hard work anyway. Sure, it's just a theory, but to crank out muscle, you strain, then you crash into rest, and you loop that cycle again and again. And thanks to those potions, you can move non-stop without burning out. So after all that work with zero fatigue, they end up forging these absolutely insane muscles. Reddick takes down the Cyclops solo, and Leifon realizes it's all thanks to that legendary potion, so she begs him to stop handing it out. Kraft had already warned Kyle, if the fallout got too brutal, the military would come sniffing around and try to recruit them, so they should cut down the potions that ordinary people are getting. He's thrilled they've got all those strong arms, so he leans in and tells LaFan to break everything down for them. LaFan agrees, and the girl jumps straight to the potions sold to adventurers, asking for the strongest ones they can make. He tells her to sell them the usual way. No muscle gets in the way of their power. A few days later, Merchant Akindo can't believe his eyes as the construction rockets into place at breakneck speed. Kraft shot them a grateful nod, and Akindo once again scored a sweet deal, just like that, after all that time away. He delivered a storm of volcanic ash and lime like it was mission critical, then lined in and demanded, so why do you need it? As long as they pay, he's all smiles to do the deal. Then Kraft snaps back that their mission is kind of weird, because this stuff is usually a lifesaver when heavy rains hit, which is why it's so dirt cheap, and getting it in bulk isn't a problem at all. You can't make that special building block without ash and limestone. Mix limestone, alchemical reagents, fine gravel, and water with volcanic ash, and watch it slam into a rock-hard boulder, then shape it fast, and it'll lock into a solid building block. Akindo leaned in and demanded to know just how strong it would end up being, and Kraft told him, come on, take a look for yourself. They built this one like a test run, and right away, there's already a dent sitting on the side. That block refused every sword strike, and Radok's fury ignited. He slammed into it with everything he had. Still getting slammed by Radok, and somehow staying upright, this thing is insanely tough, so what on earth are they planning to forge from blocks like these? Kraft shot back that they'd raised the biggest fortress city the world had ever seen, and Akindo didn't even flinch. He'd heard promises like that 100 times. Kyle's plan originally said it would take 20 years, but as the hero flipped through Teacher Jarvel's books, his cross suddenly unlocked a brand new power, and that alchemically tempered stone was put under the microscope. If they can crank out boulders like that, then forget hauling them around. Construction gets way cheaper and way faster. And yeah, it all clicks now. They're gonna need a ton of ash to forge these rocks. For them, this is an open and shut win. There's no better deal. So does Kraft agree to keep working with them? Yep, he says yes, and he puts his trust in them to bring top-tier goods every time. He begged them to keep it locked up until they were done, because if word got out, prices would explode. A kingdom that trusts Kraft vouched for him, and safety is their rule. They'll shove everything through and deliver it as fast as humanly possible. The traders storm out, and one of them leans back and blurts, that Kraft is seriously interesting. He's thinking on a whole different level, but for them it's pure profit, so yeah, they're ready to celebrate, until the boss shuts it down and says, "Not a deal until you finish the next case." The guild leader spun around and locked eyes with Mr. Zed. He said a caravan was barreling toward here from the direction of Mr. Kyle's settlement, and then the guy flashed a sly smile. Akindo lit up when he finally met Mr. Zade. He clocked all those leashes and instantly knew this guy was a major player in trade. Zed grilled the question like, "So you're really leaving Kayla village now?" And you could feel how grim it all was there. The merchant stood stunned, because who in their right mind thinks they're coming back after a trip that ended in failure? Akendo tells them that if he can, he wants to finally settle down here, but it's obvious nothing's kicked off yet. Zed adds that no new settlers have arrived, and the moment he hears that, he offers to buy the merchant's goods. Inside that barn sit 4 barrels of mithril and 9 barrels packed with stamina potion, special treasures forged by an alchemist named Kraft. Akindo caught the spark, and Zide figured he could flip Kyle's leftover gifts for a massive price hike, then double the settlement's starting funds. The merchant knows there's zero chance of dragging him down to a bargain, but he can't stop wondering if this price will finally be enough. Meanwhile, Zed's eyes go wide, because a kingdom could drop that kind of money in one shot. Wait, does he really lug around that huge pile of money wherever he goes? The merchant said he'd heard mithril had been found here in massive amounts, so he wanted to swoop in and buy up every last bit of it. Nothing hit like the settlement money at the start. Z signed off on that huge sum. The merchant bowed, thanked the guy, then spun around and demanded an even bigger request, 5 times the PN. He admits it might look a bit reckless after everything he just did for him, so now the big question is, will he really let an in-guild get founded right here? If he hands his company's hotel exclusive rights here, they'll gladly fork over a full 10% more in taxes. He'll probably only earn a little from it, but if he's set on trying, then fine, taxes will hit either way, so at least he's gaining more than he's losing. He decides to squeeze every last drop from it, snapping that 10% isn't close to enough for a monopoly. Then he swings the deal to 20%, and the dealer nods along before the exclusive agreement is finally locked in. Zid didn't expect Kyle's stuff to rake in this kind of money, but it was pure genius. He flipped everything and sold it for way more than he ever planned, and now he's ready to rub that difference in Kyle's face. The assistant questioned whether this was the right move, but Zed's smile said it was exactly what he wanted. Akindo snaps that since he sold those potions without ever using them, he never saw the hidden vein they were tied to. Jarvel rolled into the city, then spun around and stared at everything like it was all about to blow his mind. She couldn't figure out why this place was packed with hotels, and Zid snapped that she was late, like the whole mess happened because she wasn't here. No matter how hard he pushes, all they ever build here are hotels, nothing else but a bar, a store, and a cart repair shop, so adventurers won't stick around and settlers just hurry through. He gets exactly what's going on, and he's not letting them ruin the village like this. The girl snaps that she doesn't need anyone explaining it to her, she just showed up and already knows. The merchant's assistant leans in and swears that once every tax is paid off, they still rake in a massive profit. He can't believe he pulled it off at all. Akindo slams him with a request to take a look, because it's all written down, a document detailing the potions he bought from Mr. Zed. He undercut him and sold those potions for way less than $1,010 off the market price, like he had no clue what they were really worth, because the profit was absolutely massive, and Kraft didn't even release them in large numbers, so these things were basically worth a fortune. But Zide missed one huge thing. Any adventurer or settler who passes through this place isn't staying put. They're rushing to the new village of Golden Dawn after hearing about Mr. Kale, and they never plan to settle here. A normal person would need several days in the wild to reach the new settlement without crafting potions, but if there's a village to stop in along the way, that place would be perfect for an inn. The assistant finally got it. Akindo was right. Even now, travelers were still slipping through, and these hotels were booming. Zid snapped at Jarvel to dig up what was really going on here and why nobody wanted to live in this place. Then the girl looked at him and asked, "Wait, I'm not supposed to be an alchemist, am I?" A merchant's nose is his lifeline. If he can't sniff out the easy prey, he doesn't eat. Tonight, they finally raise a cup and celebrate, and then Zid erupts, screaming that it all should have turned out differently. In a tiny town, a bunch of girls huddle close, eyes locked on whatever's happening, and one of them leans in, asking the main character, "Are you really sure about that decision?" They're staring in awe at how he built them a gorgeous church, and the girls can't stop counting its sheer size, until the young man grins and tells them they're about to raise a massive city, so they'll need a church big enough to match. He asks if she's truly worthy of something like this, and the protagonist tells her to throw everything she's got into it, because the little boy is ready to help too, and when the young man glances at him, he's completely stunned. The kid asks the young guy to teach them magic, but the hero freezes. then his memory hits hard, the promise he made to those boys, and he nods, agreeing. The protagonist promises to show them the basics once a week, and the heroes swing their attention to Kraft, shocked to find he's totally cool with it, only for Kraft to grin and admit he'd been planning to teach them all along. He grins and tells his new students, "Listen up and remember everything." The girl watches him with pure admiration, realizing he's become wildly dependable, and one of the guys blurts, "So we're calling you Azula, right?" The Golden Dawn Castle City is shooting up fast, and the plan is wild. It's going to grow to a size 3 times bigger than the capital. People from everywhere are sprinting toward this place on rumors alone, because everyone's bringing their own special skills and stacking them together with words that hit like a combo. His girlfriend leans in and asks how things are going, and he flashes a grin. Everything's fine. They're perched on a towering wall, and the protagonist stares out like, this view is unreal, because their progress is exploding, and even water supply mastery is already happening. The protagonist blurts, "What kind of giant building is this?" And the girl answers, "It's a home for immigrants, built with a brand new building block." He can't believe she supervised the whole construction, and she admits it's a lot harder than it sounds with so many people already packed in. Then she leans in and asks if he even knows what privileges come with trying to earn permanent citizenship. They're handed a choice: get support or get housing, and once people heard it, a bunch of masters rushed in from everywhere. She turns to the room and thanks everyone for making the trek all the way out here to this remote place. The hero leans in and begs the craftsmen for their best life advice, then immediately asks, "Will you give us housing?" The hero grins back, "Relax, we've already set up homes for you, and if you do the job right, the city's got top-tier, high-class housing waiting too." The girl whirls to Mr. Kailu and says, "Tell the craftsmen this." And the moment they hear it, their faces light up in shock, because if they do a truly top-notch job, they'll be rewarded with a high-class house. Everyone shoots to their feet and grabs their specialty. One dives into plumbing to pipe every house with top-notch water, while someone else races in to repair the high spots and tighten up all the scaffolding. The girl beams because she can see everyone still has that fighting spirit, and Mr. Kyle fired up the workers so hard it's obvious even to the naked eye. The hero throws out a good luck wish for all of them. The heroine claims that, as a rule, craftsmen can't possibly live in fancy high-class houses, so everyone practically cheers when they score a great home, and the young man beams at the idea, until Kyle proves he knows all about it far too well. Day by day, Kyle keeps stealing hearts faster and faster, then his prospects go full nightmare mode. Suddenly, one of the heroes screams that the stamina potions' effects have shifted, and the girl confirms it. Now she can't sell anything stronger to ordinary people. And even though they're still crafted, they won't spoil, so the effects keep going for a whole day, so the protagonist says it still sounds like a great deal, and the man promises that for that amount of gold, he'll buy everything. The protagonist leans in, greets Silera, and asks how she's doing. She beams with pure joy. Then he wonders if she really bought the place, and she admits it cost a fortune, until he reveals it was worth it because thanks to Mr. Kalu, she got to pay it off in interest-free installments. She's raking in huge orders too, so everything's flying, and it's all because the protagonist teamed up with the Craftsman's Guild to handle the wholesale potion shipments. The girl turns to him with shining eyes and blurts out, "Thank you so much." The young man grins and says he's thrilled he could help, telling the girl not to hold back if anything comes up, then she should contact him. Right on cue, another guy rolls up and introduces himself to the craft. It's Radak. He nods and says Radak is right on time, and he's got something he needs to tell him. The young man slams his friend on the shoulder, congratulating him for leveling up into a B-rank adventurer, then proudly says, "You earned it, no doubt." The hero boasts that he's the one who brought down the dragon, and that he can take on a cyclops all by himself. Then his buddy credits it to the potions and his tempered mithril. The hero finally asks about his reward, but the warrior just turns away, leaving the sword hanging there like, "Is this what you meant?" The young man grins and says the reward couldn't be any sweeter, and admits he's never used a ball that fit him this perfectly. Now he can drop a cyclops with a single blow, crafted by fusing a dragon tooth into timbered mithril, and the hero's grinning because his friend actually loves it, while the girl who forged the blade stands tall, confident he'll rise to the challenge. Reddick swears he wants to swing it and cut down a cyclops every single day, and the protagonist's like, "Go ahead, keep swinging that sword," but deep down he knows you'll regret it the moment you play with it too long. A kid storms into the protagonist's room and blurts, "You going hunting?" Again and again, like it's urgent, and the young man just can't wrap his head around it. He's not refusing, he just has stuff to handle. Then the kid drops the real reason. A massive herd of wild boars has been spotted out in the forest. He tells them once they're done, he won't be able to haul everyone off all at once, so he decides to rope the main character into helping because the young man knows it. His buddy just needs a spatial storage assist. He rises and jokes that he could use some exercise anyway. Then the protagonist suddenly freezes and demands, again, which herd of boars they're talking about. He's baffled why won't his friend just grab them and bring them along. He presses again, then finally, everyone's here. The man claims they're brand new hunters, then asks if the protagonist can help them hunt and guide them deep into the forest. So he replies, "Nice to meet you," and everyone on the team practically buzzes with excitement to work with him together today. The hunters demanded to know why their team had kids running around with them. The young man fires back that they're with the church, then he pushes, asking how their magic training is coming along. The posies say they can't wait to team up with veteran hunters, but the hunters aren't convinced this is a smart move. Still, the little ones are buzzing with excitement, and the head hunter starts weighing it all over. The protagonist grills him about what he found, and the man answers that he uncovered tracks just like orcs. Then the hunters freeze, horrified, and demand what it all means. The hero says there are plenty of them, and points to the exact kind of group they're dealing with. The hunters cut him off, insisting, "This is actually not bad, but it's crazy dangerous here. We've gotta head back." The main hero whips around to the kids and declares, "Then we hunt orcs together from now on." The adults are furious at that. They can't believe you talk to kids like that, then bark reminders that they're here for the boars. So the hero slices the tension with a single gesture, saying, "Everything's fine, don't panic." He hasn't forgotten the boars at all. He just figures they can handle the orcs too, and of course the other heroes are left scratching their heads, calling him careless. After a short while they were crouched in the bushes, breath held tight, scanning for their opponents. The hunters start grilling each other, so how many are there? And they land on about 6 orcs, which sounds almost manageable, until the main character shrugs that it's not many adults, and the hunters still can't help trembling like pure terror hit him. Just a bit ago, fear was eating him alive. Then one of the kids whips around to the main character and blurts out, "Can we really handle all these enemies?" The young man grins and tells him, "Don't worry, everything's gonna be fine." He leans in and tells the kids, "With a bit of practice, based on what you've got right now, this won't be a problem." He's certain the girl will be stunned when they haul those supplies back from the orcs, and those words light a fire under the kids. They swear they'll do it, and the heroes are already geared up, ready to crash into battle. The adult hunters freak out. Are they really throwing kids into the battlefield? Because this is pure madness, and before anyone can stop them, the main character's students snap into action, rush in to hit first, and crank up their agility with special powers. The men stare at it in pure horror, like they can't believe what they're seeing. Kids unleash the icicle and storm shot skill. Thanks to that brutal combo, they finally drop one orc, and the hunter's jaws hit the floor over how fast these kids move. Then one of them barrels straight into a whole crowd of enemies and yells that it's his. With that brutal cutting technique, he carves through a whole crowd and wipes them out. Then lightning crashes down like a streaking sword across the sky. After just a few seconds, the opponents are basically gone, and the kids come barreling back to their teacher, screaming, "We did it." They're thrilled they handled those opponents on their own, while the hunters stare at each other like, "Is this a prank?" And the kids wipe out every last orc in the blink of an eye. The main character claims, "I'm fine," and they immediately press him again, horrified. The man swears he's totally abnormal, because yeah, even grown adults risk their lives battling orcs, and only a handful of special kids can handle them that easily, and then the hunters fire back. So who are they? The young man spins around and tells him straight up, these kids chug mana and stamina potions every single day, and he whipped them into brutal training for it. The hunters gape, then blurt the same question again. "Wait, they really take your potions every day?" He tells them, "Yeah, I've been telling them about that mage once a week," and then drops the real bomb. The Rayadok group backed their training every step of the way, pushing harder than anyone else, and that relentless grind made them grow up fast. And their gear is forged from tempered mithril, armor, gloves, boots, even the alchemy-reinforced fabric is all wrapped in that special material. The hunters stare in shock at the kids' gear, and the protagonist mutters that it might be over the top for children. Still, he's not about to let a single one of them get hurt. The kids rush up to their teacher, practically bursting with pride, and brag that they crushed it. Then the young man nods and says they really did awesome. But the truth is they still have a long road ahead, recognizing their mistakes and fixing them won't be easy. The kids blurt out, "Didn't we work as a team?" The young man shakes his head and snaps back, "No, that's not it. You didn't judge the situation right." A battered orc slips out from behind the bushes, and before anyone can react, the hunter looses an arrow that drops him. Then the kids whirl around, faces twisted in pure horror. The man snaps that they missed yet another chance that could have put their lives on the line. Then the young warriors slump with bitter disappointment. The The protagonist tells them straight up, the kids who survived those orcs have already blown him away. Because they crushed it, they've earned their reward materials. The herald nods and vows to tear the orcs apart for parts, because they're dying to see how much coin he'll rake in, and the kids beam like they've just won the world. The hunter even calls it a sweet sight, but Golden Dawn Village is still a chilling place to be. The maid beams at him, greets him with a bright good morning, and sweetly calls him master. Before he even makes Ryuko, the girl fires off a question about that dragon material doll, what she wants to hear. He answers with his own dream. Yeah, I want it to look kind of like this. Then he admits it'll be his first time doing this kind of work, and asks to get her advice. Klyushka snatches the blueprint from him and fires back. Why do you need a doll like that? So he sets to work, crafting a toy stuffed with materials meant for the deadliest skeletons, golems, and gargoyles, packed with power that crushes even the bosses of ancient dungeons. The main character straight up says he needs someone who can keep secrets, move around the house on command, and keep people safe. So yeah, he's basically asking for an assistant maid. The girl snaps that he almost scared her to death, and then the real question hits. If he only needs one maid, why not bind that maid as his familiar? Make it familiar, then the maid gets the knowledge she needs right away, so she understands him even better. The girl admits something still gnaws at her, and then, almost like a promise, she decides it's time to fix it, so she crafts a gift for the main character. The girl cracks open a box, and out spills a massive, priceless gem that blazes and sparkles like pure magic. The protagonist asks what it is, and the girl fires back. It's a personality stone. It's the thing that gives the doll his character and how he acts, basically the brain of the whole doll, and it's unbelievably rare, like it doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. And inside this stone hides the personality of the kingdom's finest creation, so when the protagonist lays eyes on it, shock slams into her face. The girl asks if he's happy about it, and she reminds him she did everything she could for his future doll with that stone, because it won't be turned into a deadly killing machine. He's moved to the core that she even bothered to hand him something this important. He pulls her into a tight hug and pours out his gratitude to his teacher. He says the girl is the best teacher because not everyone can really put everything on the line for their students. Then the heroine shoves him off, telling me so calmly to just hug her, and the young man panics, apologizing fast, insisting he never realized she was a girl since she looks like a kid. She shoves the doll into his hands and tells him, straight up, not to cook up any weird tricks with it, and warns that the main character better not dare teach her even a single combat move. The young man grins and blurts that he can't wait to have Lifun craft him a body, dreaming of building the best one this world has ever seen, while the teacher can't help thinking, with a shake of his head, how sweetly clueless he is. She whips her head toward the main character and drops a bombshell. There's something else she has to tell him. She insists they talk about the research, and the young man shoots back that he hasn't even considered it. Then he quickly promises to hand over every result. They settle it. She'll be his co-author again for this one, and that offer hits him right in the heart. The girl starts nagging him nonstop. He shoots her an apology, and just like that, he scores the stone from the teacher. Because of that, he finally crafts his very first doll familiar. Then the doll greets him with a bright good morning. The maid bursts into the main character's bedroom and yanks the curtains aside, ripping open the window to the outside world. She leans in and asks where he wants breakfast, and he shoots back that he wants it brought right into the living room. He's over the moon that Ryuko created it. She nails everything on the first try, so he can hand her any job with total trust and zero stress, because this is straight-up divine luck. The young man thanks his teacher, then practically gushes that breakfast today is downright delicious. The maid laughs and says the day kicks off with dinner at the company, right alongside Mr. Kyle, and the protagonist's mind snaps to one thing. Today's the day he's supposed to review the intermediate results from the dry individual fields, so yeah, they'll have to talk about it. The young man works the fields, and everyone cheers that it's actually paying off. Then the hero grabs his food, thanks them, and says he's heading out, asking what that doll will do while he's away. She tells him she's got plans to clean up, and the hero begs her, don't let him down, while the doll waves goodbye and wishes him the best on his journey. The young man can't stop pondering what cleaning even means, because the house is already spotless, so why talk like she'll be scrubbing places he can't even see? And the hero, he's absolutely thrilled with his maid. Two people are eyeing him from the house roof, and once the hero slips away, they're ready to snag their legendary potions. They're plotting to snatch him as a hostage and squeeze cash out of it. Then they start sizing up his physical condition and arguing how much he can still bring to the raid on the dragon. Suddenly, a creepy doll pops up behind the robber and calls out to the dear guests. But then they press the men for help. So was this all really by official appointment, or did they just show up without warning? The men charge straight into the fight, but their brains screech. How the hell did those dolls slip in from behind without a single sound? One of the guys swings his hand down to hit Togo, right over her head, but his plan instantly falls apart. Of course, she whips around at the last second, and that sword plunge just barely misses its mark. She pinches the blade with 2 fingers, and the maid blurts out, "Now it's clear. These aren't just intruders, they're thieves." The maid snaps the ball apart in one savage sweep with her blades. Then the man just stares, stunned, like he can't even process how she's gripping that steel so tight. And before he can react, the doll barrels in to attack. She lunges in and smacks the second robber across the face. The robber snaps sideways and slips out in a flash, and the girl and his partner can only stare after him. Lafon and her master started building something so tough to crack that anyone trying to break in would've been sorely mistaken. Trying to pull this off in those shoes is a nightmare, because the maid won't ever forgive them, and the robber can't believe what he's seeing. He bolted to escape, but right when he turned to run, something slammed right into his path. The man snaps his head up and spots the maid right in front of him. Then he whirls toward her, scrambling to talk his way out of it, begging for mercy, but the girl just stares back with a hollow, empty gaze. The craft had no clue the girl was already dumping tons of dragon materials, because this best world maid, built for her own personality, was quietly a little different than they expected. She shot to the top as the strongest maid, too strong to be anyone's puppet, with a personality all her own. I still hadn't clocked a thing, and then the girl casually drops, the cleanup's done. A voice suddenly snaps to life and calls out to the main character. The boy on horseback calls out good morning, and the young man fires back asking if he can actually ride, only for the kid to grin and admit he never really could until this moment. Thanks to the main character, his health bounced back fast, so now he's taking writing lessons, and Mr. Kyle is a non-stop hard worker. Sure, he can't gallop yet, but he's already mastered walking. The girl blurted out, "Let's go check out the fields." The protagonist demands to know what's wrong with their animals, and the heroine snaps, stunned. "I literally asked the merchant for 2 super-functional racehorses, and this is what we got." When they call out to the bird, she admits it's strangely affectionate, and the hero's thrown off by the racer's weird name. Thank goodness she didn't name the village too. Then the heroine snaps, "What's with your face?" Like she's clocking it, did he really mean to steal her wing? Suddenly, the hero gets yanked into a hug by a little girl, and he immediately asks if Mina's coming too. The girl grins and says, if he's worried Mina will get in the way, they can just ask to have her returned. Tears instantly brim in the little girl's eyes. Men charge up to the heroes and start blasting the young man with insults for making his mistress cry, but he snaps, "Stop, I didn't do anything." Then the truth hits. Kyle painted him as the villain, and the boy finally chokes out an apology. The protagonist leans in close, dares the girl not to break down, and pitches, "Let's go somewhere together." He's totally wiped the knight's cruelty from his mind, because if he crosses them, they'll cut him down right there on the spot. So the protagonist blurts, "What happened out there in the fields?" And the boy answers, "It's about those freshly sown fields." Something unreal just smashed into the fields, and the protagonist can't hold it in, blurting, "Wait, what the heck just happened?" He thanks the women because those heroes weren't just scorned, they were slammed with filth, and still somehow managed to come straight back to them. The young guy claims he heard something brutal went down in the bedrooms. She shrugs and says it's way easier to see it firsthand than to talk it out, and then the woman shows them exactly what happened. The hero freezes, totally lost, staring in disbelief. The young man stares and blurts, "So what is this?" The woman smiles and says, "It's all wheat." The heroes can't wrap their heads around it. This wheat they sowed to the max somehow sprouted into a full-blown forest overnight, and the woman just shrugs. Real wheat really does ripen like this. But then it hit her, something that could seriously change how their wheat grows. Anna remembered the special fertilizer the main character gave them, and how just last month they'd planted wheat with his stuff. The first green shoots shot up fast, and they were absolutely thrilled. Before they could even blink, the wheat had already transformed into what they were staring at now, and the young man just couldn't make himself believe it. Yeah, his fertilizer sounded awesome, but was it really that powerful? He wonders if their fertilizer, plus the soil they planted the wheat in, is the reason everything's growing so wildly, because the land is packed with nutrients. He can't believe his ears. This kid demands to know whether the wheat has been tested for safety. She says to test it, we cooked up tons of different dishes, and guess what? No hiccups at all. Then she grins and adds, every single one got top marks. She points out the pastry made from that wheat, then throws the invite out like a challenge. Come on, try it yourself. The hero takes a bite, his eyes light up, and he blurts out that it's insanely tasty. At first glance, that stale bread looks like nothing, but when it hits his hands, it feels soft and alive, stretches beautifully as he bites, and for a split second you forget the taste, then warm magic rushes through his whole body. This bread is art. The boy blurts that he wants a try too, and the guard snaps at him to stop right there. He says everyone can judge for themselves. This wheat is totally off, and tells them to stick around a little longer. Then out of nowhere the girl snatches a piece of bread and tastes it. Scary doesn't rush to Mrs. Mena, and the main character leans in, asking if the bread tastes good. Mrs. Mena just chomps it down and nods like it's amazing. The kid asks, so I ca. The guard slams him down and says no, and the boy immediately breaks into tearful begging, pleading like it's the only chance left. The protagonist tells him nothing bad is going to happen, says the child can at least try a little, but the guard snaps at him to stop these baseless claims. Then the protagonist fires back that there's nothing to fear and insists the workers should be trusted with the child. He claims he gets it, every man has to say that, but if he blocks the boy from eating bread, what's he really expecting? The kid could just turn around and start hating him, so in the end, the man relents to the boy's push. He decides that no matter what hits them, they'll still be ready to react. Then the kid grabs a bite of that bread, lights up, and declares it ridiculously tasty, because with wheat this good, they can seriously boost their sowing area. The workers swear they can replant it if they use Mr. Krath's fertilizer, because the land is still strong and doesn't need to lie fallow, so they can keep sowing wheat several more times this month, and the hero can't help but go, this is amazing. Pushing for a bigger field and a full-on harvest of the crop they already have. The kid straight up asks if the hero can crank out the exact fertilizer amount they need, and the young man just nods, saying the harvest will feed everyone and still leave plenty to ship overseas, which is why the Golden Dawn's power kept ballooning as the field spread wider. Wheat fed with special fertilizers is flying off the shelves like wildfire, yet because of the main character, you've got traders nonstop trying to snatch it, and now the hero's even mulling over changing the name. Days later, the action finally erupts in the adventurer's quarters, and the cat girl leans in with a bright, "Have a great day," to the main character. The protagonist insists it's not some simple turning for her. Then the girl laughs and tells her that gentlemen and adventurers, once they've heard the rumors, keep flocking in one after another, and that lately she's been working as an employee for the Adventurers Guild. In the Golden Dawn, everyone finally lives in peace, our protagonist included, and he can't help but feel thrilled that things are running so smoothly now. Then the girl steps in and asks what he wants most today, because they've got plenty of rare specimens to choose from. The hero gets hit with a question, could they really pull off just one top-tier stone here? And the heroine snaps back, wondering if the rest are somehow low quality too. He confirms it. Most of the stones in their collection are barely ordinary, not even close to top grade. The girl just stares, saying she never even suspected a thing. The cat girl tells him this city is packed with weird materials, so her detection magic won't work on them. Then she's thrilled he agreed to help, but he snaps back that he didn't agree, and just because he can use detection magic doesn't mean he has permission to do it. She sighs and says if they want an official order, it'll cost a pretty penny. She insists everything's fine, and if anyone learns Kraft himself picked those materials, they'll believe her. Then the protagonist snaps back, asking if his opinion is just a punchline to her, because what's his to trust when Kraft's orders were made by someone who didn't have permission? The girl just smirks and says he clearly doesn't know who he's truly dealing with. The hero decides she'll do whatever she wants and makes it crystal clear that he won't own the fallout. Meanwhile, the protagonist's student is grinding through brutal training, pushing harder every single day. He's already mastered the art of sword strikes. Those hits land like pure power. Skilled hunters throw themselves into battle against kids. The girl knocks an arrow and lets it fly. The hunters swear they've got everyone boxed in, and the adults start whispering, are the protagonist's students really nothing but kids? Meanwhile, the young man freezes in shock, eyes locked on whatever's right in front of him. He greets his acquaintance, and the young man shoots back. Why are the kids training with the adventurers? Reddick smirks and says he just wanted to test their strength, because the legendary stamina potion hits like a truck, so only a weaker version gets sold to the villagers. Yet somehow, these kids still smash the same legendary potions every adventurer gets. The protagonist had no idea how this would end, so he grabbed Radok and ordered him to watch over the children. They're completely baffled. Why are the kids wiped out when the potion's supposed to be controlling them? The protagonist tells them, I sent you to train today without that legendary potion. And then, boom, 2 of the adventurers who went toe-to-toe with the kids are C rank, while the other 2 are D rank. So yeah, these kids, real power, can spark chaos, even for foreign tourists who thought they were safe. Because of some mysterious incident from way back, the top 3 spots only go to whoever survives a brutal, careful inspection, and the protagonist bluntly admits that for a ton of adventurers, even cracking that ranking is already a lifelong dream. He went a little too hard on his students' training, and that's why they can pull off feats like this, even with the absolute best Golden Dawn crew backing every step. The hero tells himself he'll just have to adapt to this place's wild pace and its weird, everyday logic. Then his comrade slams in and says he needs to forget the fact that those kids grew that fast because they trained nonstop, thanks to his legendary potions, because his alchemy is straight up incredible. A man bursts up to them, grinning like he finally cracked the mystery, and the protagonist instantly recognizes him as the head of the Adventurers Guild. Then the man invites the young hero to walk with him. The protagonist blurted that the city had struck. Look at how frantic everyone's moving, and the man nodded hard, saying, then we'd better hurry right now. The chaos is happening inside the Adventurers Guild, and the hero leans in, demanding what urgent bomb of a problem that man was talking about. He tells you plain and straight that he'll speak directly. Right now, they've uncovered massive pockets of cockatrice lurking across these lands. The youth fires the question again, and this royal Tamil beast, stitched from dragon and serpent with a rooster's head, starts to lock up mid-breath, its living body slowly crystallizing until it hardens into stone. Their territory stretches so far that nobody knows the exact number of where they've shown up. The protagonist snaps his head to his comrade and asks how bad his crystallization resistance really is. His buddy grins and says that with light breathing he can tough it out, because even adventurers of their level can't fully stop crystallization. The protagonist blurts out the approximate number of corallusks, and the man shrugs. There's no exact count, just an estimate that could easily top several thousand individuals. The main character is absolutely horrified, because nobody has ever seen that many people show up in one place. The hero realizes one brutal truth. If a horde that huge hits the city, there won't be anything left standing. They raised a special fortress to shield themselves from those raids, because the real nightmare is crystallization. If they can hold it off, then that alone is a massive victory. They have to defend every soul inside the Golden Dawn, no excuses, no hesitation, no matter the cost. The protagonist tells Kyle they need answers, and the man promises, I'll dig up everything I can and bring it back. Right after they uncovered the cockatrices, they busted their tails for days, scrambling to figure out how to defend themselves. The main character pitched a twisted idea, summon the Antichrist by licking it and peeling off the crystallization. The maid snaps her gaze to him and tells him straight up, the main character needs rest. So yeah, he barely did a thing. The Antichrist's licking potion just isn't fit for mass production, which means one more dose could still yank the creature back from death, and only he can make that happen. No rest for the protagonist, his clock is ticking. A cat girl suddenly slams into the room, crashing straight into his world. She shrieks that a whole flock of cockatrices is swooping in to attack them. They're charging straight toward their city, closing in with unstoppable force. The main character blurts out, "Where's the flock?" They keep flashing his view of where the enemy's coming from, and right then, the young man unleashes farsightedness. Meanwhile, on the other side, a massive horde of mythical creatures is charging toward them. If nobody acts now, every last soul will vanish gone. The protagonist demands whether everything has been handed to Kayla, and they tell him the messengers are already sprinting toward her. On the defense side, Mr. Kyle is still drilling his troops, because right now they can only spare Alfred and Belcia, and the contract count is stuck at about 20 adventurers. Nobody dares to push back against this raid, and someone grabs the protagonist and begs him to calm down. One of the adventurers flat out says, if you're willing to fight when trouble hits, you're ready to step up and defend this city. Working in tourism means you're always dodging danger, so they stay razor cautious, and for them, money is never worth their life, meaning even if you try to pay them big for something deadly, they'll shut that deal down in a heartbeat. Jera says their teams didn't sign that deal with the city, and the man fires back that some folks are still thankful for everything this place has given us. Then he adds that they want to stay on the main characters and Mr. Kyle's side for as long as they can. They brag that they aren't here to chase glory anymore. They're here to guard their home and every one of their friends. They turn to him and demand, do we really have to pay anything just to save our friend? The protagonist thanks them, and one of the adventurers grins, there are only a couple hundred of us. Then he quickly adds, don't worry, we're not the kind who's used to battling in a big army. First, the main character hatches a ruthless plan to take down the devil of those foreign tourists. Then, if anything changes with the cockatrice's behavior, he tells someone to report it to him. Inside the Adventurers Guild, Kyle steps up to the main character and demands, so how did you end up here? Kraft hunts down his comrade, Radok, only to find out one of the men tells him Radok is out of town, on an accepted mission, and won't be back anytime soon. Alfredo's missing presence hits like losing a whole army, so he's hauling people out, rushing them into blocks packed with reinforced materials. When things get serious, you don't mess around, you put residents' safety first, even though this situation hits completely different. The main character flat out says the walls aren't done being built, there's still work left to finish. They've got exactly 3 of those points, period. One camp sits in the north, one pushes into the west, and another grips the south. This land was begging for fortresses, but none stood there. The protagonist claims their army is just 300 strong, then demands the best adventurers be shipped to the west, so the man shoots back. Do you really need to shove more than half of them into one spot at once? Because if they do, there won't be enough left to cover the other 2 fronts. From the tower, the hero says he watched the cockatrices go wild, pure aggression in every step, and with people in their sights, there's no way they'll spread their forces. So they all charge the people standing in the west right now. The hero snaps his attention to the phone, apologizes, and then warns that every anti-crystallization potion has to be rushed to the west, while the man demands what happens to the rest. The protagonist blurts out, "We've only got 200 anti-crystallization potions. There's no way that'll cover both north and south." And the man snaps back, "So what are the rest supposed to do?" Because now it sounds like they're about to throw the remaining people straight into cannon fodder. The young man slumps on the chair, pivots toward the file, and wrestles with decisions so brutal they feel almost impossible. He tells Belcia to take the north, Alfred to take the south, and with them in place, even a tiny squad of warriors can somehow hold off the cockatrices. The hero snaps that they've got no more land to lick the Antichrist, but they've still got potions that erase crystallization, and he's just started making them, so there's not much yet, but they'll be the lifeline they need by the time it matters. Belcia and Alfred roll out their squads, those things that can uncrystallize petrified people. The man snaps back that they're way too crazy to be trusted with this rabble, and they'll need time to prepare. The hero grins and fires back that while they prep, he'll keep brewing potions. Everyone's baffled. Why would he send warriors to hell when their training is this weak? It's reckless, say the others, but Balsh snaps back that for her, it's no big deal. She insists they're built for the job. While they keep watch over the city, someone has to stand guard over Kyle. The Kurds fire questions at the benches. What happens if the Kuroyski suddenly burst through? And he can't stop thinking about Kale and Mama while the chaos explodes. The girl snaps that she's the bodyguard, and she has to protect Kyle no matter what. Meanwhile, the boy fires back that he values every life in the Golden Dawn, and he refuses to watch their city fall. He even asks the girl, "Can you go and defend the walls?" It's a job so dangerous it'll chew you up, but only she can pull it off, because if she starts thinking of him, she has to think about the people he loves and the ones he's desperate to shield. The boy begs her to promise she'll come back, and Kyle snaps that if she doesn't rush to his defense, he'll never forgive her. He lines in and asks the girl, "Will you do this for me?" She snaps a sharp salute and tells her master, "If this is what you want, I'll carry out my duty, and I'll make sure you don't regret it." She tells her friends, "Don't worry," and swears her powers make the cockatrices look like a joke, but Kraft pulls a wild move you can't ignore. He has to face his limits now, because everything hinges on just how fast he can move. She steps up and tells him to trust her, then promises she'll hand over the Antichrist potion for his transformation without fail. And with those words, the fight against time kicked off. The protagonist strides back home, and the maid rushes in to greet her master with a bow. The young man whips around to her and snaps that they've got to hurry. This is go time, and the adventurers have to help him, because the potion is already set to start brewing. To make the anti-crystallizing potion work, he needs a full bottle, so if it's the north of south route, it's a whole barrel or nothing. With his current brewing method, there's no way he finishes before Togo, and to get enough potion for 100 people, he'll have to burn through his magical power until he's completely spent. Even if it fails, the slaughter won't be stopped. Great casualties are coming no matter what. The young man snaps out of daydreaming and demands they start right now, then barks orders for everyone to obey the maid's instructions. The workshop is blazing with non-stop work, and everyone's hands are moving like crazy. The main character goes all in, using every ounce of strength and every tool in his arsenal, just to make it there on time. Finally, he cracks a grin and declares that 1 barrel of the anti-crystallizing potion is ready to go. He orders them to haul him straight to the north and the south, no delays, not 1 second. Now he starts brewing a potion to wipe away the crystallization. When loud stomping erupts in the street, the protagonist shoots. Is it really this noisy out there? A terrifying thought hits him out of nowhere, so he bolts into the yard, desperate to see what just happened. A young man spots smoke blasting up into the sky from the western wall. He watches the guns get primed, and the moment he sees the cockatrices already chewing through the barrier, realization hits like a punch. I can tell you this, luck wasn't on everyone's side, but only a few got through and slipped into the city. 3 sections of the defensive wall are still being built, though they're barely at the first stage, and the hero can't stop asking if those fragile walls can really hold. The maid leans in and asks if he minds, and then pushes him to scout the wall defenses to see what they're really packing. She warns that if they don't raise the walls right now, his whole procession gets cut off, so they demand an instant answer on what's happening. He fires back that she's just a maid, and he can't simply let her walk away, but the girl insists she can handle it. The protagonist nods and agrees, then leans in, begging her to check out what's happening with the main pack of foreign tourists, the Mabels. The heroes jump back into their work, then it hits them. He can't leave. His battlefield is the workshop, and they've got to brew potions right now, before it's too late. If he'd only had that one missing ingredient, he would have had the whole meal done ages ago. The hero's pacing like crazy, asking himself where on earth he can get a cockatrice egg. Just a few days before the attack tore everything apart, one of the main character's classmates pulls her friends aside and dares them to go kick the orc's ass. Her friend blurts that she still doesn't get why they were dragged here, so she rushes off to find the hunter. Then the cat girl grins and insists they're going solo, just like old times, for a simple picnic. She asks if you're not strong enough, then what are we supposed to fail? And then she shuts it down fast, saying they can handle everything on their own, especially with potions, because Kraft's brother proves they've got it. She reminds them they were promised they could grab as much as they wanted, but her friend fires back that it still doesn't make any of it safer, so the girl just proposes they walk over to that huge boulder. With no adults around, their whole world turns into an adventure, and their mission is crystal clear. Smash the orc, grab the magic stone, and race it back to their sister, Azu. The girls daydream about the way their little sister will shower them with praise. She demands, is the stamina potion ready? And the answer hits with a confident yes. Then the girl snaps, we're ready, and the heroine fires off the order to set out immediately. She pitches a race straight to the mountains, and it sounds like the only way out. Meanwhile, brutal battles rage right up against the city walls. The commander roars at his soldiers, ordering them to stop sprinting into retreat. A monstrous beast streaks through the sky and charges straight at him. A man snaps off his own head in one brutal, horrifying move. The monster crashes to the ground, smashing into several soldiers and knocking them down hard. The knights beg their comrades to trust them, while the commanders bark that nobody can just stand still. Battle is coming, but most adventurers can't seem to move as one, and he knew it would be tough, just not this brutal. Still, the truth lands hard. He has to take control of the situation. They can barely hold it together with their current strength, but if those enemies swarm them all at once, there's no way they're making it out alive. Tiger the fighter blurts, should I follow you? But the commander snaps back, no, I don't think they'll ever stop, even like this, and Tiger just stands there, totally lost on what to do next. A stranger steps up to him and demands, tell me, are you really Commander Degard? The man snapped around so fast he stopped dead. Horror hit him like a punch. The maid sprints straight toward him, legs pumping at full speed. She claims she's carrying messages straight to the commander, and the man snaps, so what are you doing here? The girl swears the whole idea is that the cockatrices can't bring down an entire wall, so their protection isn't needed anymore. Meanwhile, I can still leap ridiculously high thanks to my wings. The enemy won't get to soar over those walls, so breathe, lock in, and fight till your last breath. Then the commander hears the update, grateful, and declares that the breach has to be held at all costs. He snaps his head toward the nearby group and barks for them to hold back, drop everything, and form a defensive line instead. The maid clocks that things don't look good, and the man nods, confirming it. He says we should at least slap real numbers on these groups, then reaching them would be way easier. The maid leans in and asks if she should hand the adventurers the numbers of their squads. He stares in shock and blurts out that she's just a maid, then refuses to let her slip into the vanguard. The girl smirks and tells you you're no trouble, then she grabs their axes like she's about to borrow them. The commander grabs her attention and demands she stop, because she snatched his spare axes. The heroine's gone, no trace of her anywhere. One of the fighters blurted out, wait, when did this commander's support turn into a one-handed thing? Then the truth hit hard. It's actually a two-handed heavy axe, and most people can't even lift a single one. But the maid grabbed two at once like it was nothing. The commander snaps, so who's this mate anyway? Right now, while the leader is still standing and hasn't been taken down, the fight is raging nonstop in that zone. The soldiers charge in head first, fighting with fearless grit as the Karalisks bear down on them. The cockatrice slinks behind the little enemies, using them like cover. The soldiers spot him instantly, and slam him with the full, brutal weight of the enemy's massive force. A colossal monster yanks its jaw wide open. Soldiers scrambled to protect themselves, but deep down they knew this was a disaster. Then the monster's eyes rolled back, and it started to sag, slowly collapsing to the ground. The soldiers snap upright, totally lost, like, what in the world is going on? A maid's silhouette rockets through the air at breakneck speed, slashing her opponent into a brutal spray of pieces while everyone below stares, frozen in shock. The girl drops down, crossing the two axes in one daring leap. She glares at everyone with burning, war-ready eyes. In a blink, the hero snaps to it. This is what the main characters were really made out of. Once again, she bursts into incredible speed and rockets straight at her opponents. She smoothly snaps the supports into place and drops monster after monster until the whole area is cleared. The girl snaps around to the stunned soldiers and tells them, "You can finally talk in peace now." She whips around to Mr. Lactone and snaps that his group is behind this, just as the cockatrices start smashing through the defense line. She warns them that if they keep tearing away from Mr. Degard, they'll eventually splinter into tiny groups, easy pickings for anyone hunting them, only to realize they still can't take out the cockatrices' leader. The man drops to an apology, insisting they really did separate. Then the whole squad snaps into action. They've got to rush back to the defense line. The girl declares from now on Lacton's crew comes first, Edzifir is number 2, and then orders the squad to obey every command without question. The hero is stunned and blurts out, "Wait, how do you even know my name?" The girl smirks and says she knows every single name of everyone living in the city. The soldiers stare in awe, and the heroine just shrugs it off. It's the maid's job. She begs for forgiveness, then says she's got more messages to deliver, praying the battle ends in victory. And just like that, the girl lifts off, rises into the sky, and vanishes. The squad leader snaps, asking the soldiers whether they saw it, yet not a single drop of blood stains her, not after everything she pulled off. Lacton wants to know, was that the only thing he noticed? Meanwhile, the girl pushes on with her mission. She throws herself into the fight, helps the squad take down the Karlusks, and gives them the numbers they need. The messages stop, the line snaps back to normal, and the girl freezes up, shoulders set, instincts screaming, because she finally decides this is the moment for the real fight. The hairline stares down a long, pitch-dark corridor like it's daring something to step out. Meanwhile, the city erupts into evacuation mode. People are urging everyone not to swarm the exits, stay calm, and keep the streets under control. Inside the hospital walls, they rush to give first aid right away. Azula tightens the girl's bandage, snaps to her and demands, "Is it really hurting that badly?" Then she kneels close, smooths the child's panic and swears everything's okay now, while the protagonist gets a steaming cup, told to sip it slow and carefully. The girl whips around to the boys and tells them, "When we're done, check the street, find out if anyone's hurt." The kids nod and agree. A voice calls out to her, and the heroine bolts right toward it to help. The girls lock eyes, then start trading questions fast. "So what are we gonna do next?" The cat girl urges her friend to go bring it back, but Dush shuts her down, too late now. She had wanted to talk to her sister, Azu, but Azu's swamped with something and won't have time. One of them says, "Then we go straight to the guild," but Kaggle fires back that Azur's sister is going to flip out on them, and that's before you even think about everyone else. She warns that they, and maybe even their little sister, could get kicked out of the city, and the moment she says it, the girl drops to her knees, panicked, clutching her head, while the kid blurt out that he only wanted to make his little sister happy, and then everything spirals off a cliff. They should quit adventuring for good, before it ruins everything. The kids whip their heads back to the cabinet, because only they know what secret's hiding inside. If they hadn't let their wild thirst for adventure yank them along, they never would have hauled that egg all the way to Ural City, and that single egg became the spark that ignited the whole catastrophe. The scene slams into the main character's home, right as a man bursts in, running up and demanding, "Is the petrification cure ready?" The young man whips around and yells back, "Not yet, but it's happening right now, and we'll have it ready." He demands to know what unit those men belong to, and they shoot back that they're from the right-wing group, Alfred's crew. The second he hears it, the truth hits hard. The warriors are already starting to abandon their positions. The center has already shown up. Most of the cockatrices are swarming in, and they won't stop demanding fresh potion supplies. No breaks, no mercy, while the main character clings to the only slim relief. The left wing is finally holding together. He asks if their commander can't wait just a bit longer, and the man presses him. How does he even picture it? Then their opponents explode forward, like pure rage has possessed them, and Alfred can't hold on, he's overwhelmed. The protagonist shudders and yells that they can't have really punched through to the city, but the warriors snap back that they're still keeping everyone at bay for now. while the adventurers who sprinted into the fight freeze up, petrified by the cockatrice's deadly breath. And the Carillions smashed them so viciously that all that was left of those warriors was nothing but dust. The protagonist blurts out that he just brewed a potion to stop petrification, then his face crumples with despair, until the man gasps, "You actually did," and orders him to hand it over right now. The young man snaps, saying he won't give them the full share. He'll hand over only a tiny portion of what's ready, and the rest gets shoved straight to the center. The man fumes in sheer outrage. He demands to know how that tiny part even helps, then erupts in curses, screaming that they'll all die there because of the main character, until his comrade yanks him back and stops him. He snaps that the kid needs to use his head, because no matter how you angle it, Soul's center matters most, and if they punch through there, an unstoppable horde of enemies will flood the city and it'll be game over for good. The main character pours their heart and soul into it, and if they have to sit around waiting for the next game, there's no way they last. The man admits that at first they were tempted to grab everything for themselves, but he insists it's not that simple and pleads for them to understand, while the protagonist pants hard and doubles over near the barrels. One thought burned in his head. He had to churn out as many potions as fast as he could, then wait, was someone calling his name. A girl bursts into the room and blurts out that she's here to help, and the young man's eyes go wide at Liffin's sudden appearance. He shoots back, asking if the fence is finally done. She smirks and says the last touch is already finished. They hit us with one question: how's the petrification medicine going? Then the guys start pouring it straight into the hero's sadi. She reads the young man's mood like a storm rolling in and tries to lift him up, telling him the main character can't afford to fall apart right now. He's got to push through everything and squeeze every last drop out of himself. He's stuck with nothing he needs, and in a moment like this, every single person has a breaking point. She asks to let someone else lend him a hand, and the girl blinks like, "Why are you pushing this? Aren't we all right here?" Her words hit him right in the heart. He tells them if that's the case, then the medicine has to reach the right wing. He points out the girl will be way faster than the rest, so she should do it. Before anyone can argue, the heroine yanks the barrel straight from the men's hands and snaps. This should have been handled way earlier. She leans in and demands he trust her, swearing she'll get that barrel there ASAP. Then the protagonist pops open the mana elixir. He locks in, gives it everything he's got, and pushes all the way until he finally gets his hands on that medicine. The spotlight snaps back to the defensive line as the next battle kicks off. The fighting spills into the left wing, and the commander stares at the horizon as he shouts that the enemy has finally arrived. She fires off orders to her warrior: stick to the plan, use the tactics, and get ready to strike. The girl vaults onto her steed, spins toward the wing, and tells him she's got dreams riding on him. The opponents barrel straight at the wall, smashing forward at full speed. The squad barrels into battle, and up at the front, the heroine charges on her steed, screaming a war cry that rallies everyone to fight until the very last breath. The cockatrices surge forward nonstop, then he slams himself in their path and blocks them cold. The girl snapped her steed forward, wings flared as they reared up, yet her ruthless opponents refused to back down. The heroine lunges straight into the fight and starts hacking at the cockatrices with every ounce of strength she has. They shriek out these nasty, ear-splitting sounds. Then the girl snaps her sword up, jabbing it at one of them, and declares, "This is your dead end." The opponents hesitate just for a beat, then start breathing hard like they're bracing for impact. The squad's warriors stare at her like she's unreal, because Belzia-san doesn't just fight, she unleashes every trick the wing has, and the cockatrices just get worn out. As the left wing laid out their plan, the team leaders slammed the enemy into one crushing pile, while the rest picked them off from a safe distance with arrows, warriors roaring as they backed their commander and yelled at the girl to drive them back and stop anyone from breaking through. The heroine keeps slamming her sword in relentless arcs, pinning her opponents deeper and deeper into a corner. When they all slam together into one brutal pile, the girls scream, "Now attack," and the archers snap their bows up, arrows nocked and ready. They unleash an entire storm of arrows on their opponents. Explosions rip through the battlefield, and the squad starts cheering like it's over, until the heroine snaps in front of them and orders, "Right there, don't you dare drop your guard." A cockatrice materializes inches from her, right at her side. The monster yanks its mouth wide open, and the commander slips out, only to realize he's staring at the finish line. Then an arrow suddenly slams into the enemy. She blasts a punch straight into his head, spins around and spots the hunter. Then he asks if she's okay. The heroine bursts into joyful cheers and spills her thanks to the young man who saved her. The young man backs the warriors and urges them to lay the second wave flat just like the first. Then the squad leader smirks and says she might introduce him to one of those night girls next time. The young man lights up, erupts in a shout that he'll give it everything he's got, and the heroine freezes, shocked he actually heard every word. The young man screams that he'll take out every single opponent, and the girl clings to the hope that they'll survive, right as a brand new wave of enemies comes pounding up to the wall. With pressure like that, the defense won't last a heartbeat. Right wing right now, Commander barks orders to her subordinates. He tells them the boys haven't swallowed the potion of fortitude yet, so they should stop forcing the pace, at least for now. They've burned through every last petrification cure potion, and now they can't afford even a single more loss. So tell me, who's crazy enough to back a guy like that? The warriors press him, so he's really stuck fighting solo. The commander nods and says, yeah, that's how it usually goes. He'll be alone, but he'll still have to wipe out every wounded enemy. The man declares that his fighting style is about to be something just a little special. He dug his heels into his horse and rode straight for the front. With a sudden burst of insane speed, he hammers his spear forward, and as his signature cry rips through the air, he charges straight at the cockatrices. The enemy squad doesn't even hesitate. They streak straight at the commander like a nightmare that won't miss. Right up in the enemy's faces, the man whips his spear into a spinning strike. Then he rips through the chaos, knocking down those colossal monsters with every beat. He lands the move and takes them all down, one after another. His subordinates lean in, locked on the clash, cheering their commander as he casually rips through every opponent with brutal precision. And trust me, you do not want to get within striking distance of him while he's wielding that spear. And he grins, swings around to his mount, and praises his steed like it just pulled off the perfect job. But he didn't factor in one brutal truth: his enemies could fly, and that's when a massive bird swooped right over his head. She charges straight at the defenseless warriors, and the young ones scramble, bolting in every direction. The commander barks orders, then turns the blame on himself, furious for that moment of inattention. He clocks the cockatrice towering over the rest, and the man realizes trouble's here. He might not reach it in time. So tell me, where's that voice booming from above, yelling that he'll handle it? The girl bolts over to her friend, ready to help the second trouble hits. Using the rock-crushing technique, she hammers the opponent's head with a brutal, bone-rattling strike. Everyone stares, shocked and stunned. The monster crashes to the ground, then the heroine slams down right beside him. She whips around to the driver, then tells the boys, I brought a cure for petrification. Warriors can barely hold back their tears. Pure happiness hits them like a tidal wave. The commander strides up to the girl and speaks to her, then the heroine snaps back that she'll fight alongside them. The girl who's assigned to the jacket has to be a hammer master. She'll be their ace, giving the heroes enough time to push back, but even then, that man can't shake the worry gnawing at him. Everything has a breaking point, and now it all boils down to how fast they can brew those potions. The scene rockets to a church, where a girl frantically bandages a bleeding man, until a maid slips up behind her and calls her by name. She leans in and asks if the heroine has a minute, then the girl spins around in shock. The girl stares at her guest in stunned disbelief. It scans the maid's face, spots the resemblance, and bluntly asks if she's really Ryuko-san, while the heroine is stunned by the sudden arrival, and Water jumps in, asking what he's supposed to do for the main character's maid. The maid glides in with her signature grace and asks the heroine if she can finally meet the 4 kids being raised at the church. They pound on the door and the girls snap around, asking if they need help. The girl stumbles over to the maid and blurts out an apology for being so exhausted, but promises, I need you to know I'm counting on the kids, they'll help you, and they'll get things done. Then she forces herself back to work, slips out of the room, and the maid watches her go before turning to the children and saying, all right, I'll handle the name from here. She scoots in close to the girls and demands, so, will you hand over what you've got hidden behind you? Behind it sits a cabinet where the egg's been stashed, and when the heroines spot that maid, horror hits them like a punch. The girl leans in and tells him, you need this, right now. She tells them the girls are coming with her straight to the main character, and the little ones start to argue, until the maid slams in and cuts them off. The girls start sobbing on the spot, blurt out apologies, and swear they're extremely sorry this happened. The maid freezes in shock at that reaction, then snaps back and rushes to apologize to the kids too, while the girl swears she was only caught mid-battle and never even had time to adjust to what was going on. She flashes a sweet smile and beams right at the children. She snaps, saying she's got a grim look on her face, and the chores will crush her even harder than last time, because once again, they toss her out for being confused, and honestly, she just wanted to tell the girls what to do. She swears things will be okay, and the main character proves just how kind-hearted he really is. She breaks into a smile and swears that the young man will forgive them for sure. The maid reaches out wide, beckoning the kids into a big group hug, then urges them all to go to him together. Meanwhile, inside the main character's house, potion making keeps roaring on heaving breaths and all as the young man clenches his teeth and pushes through, whipping up yet another barrel of medicine. He demands it's time to deliver, and the man nods in agreement. The hero knows there's no time to slow down, so he scrambles to prepare the medicine. Then his head starts spinning out of nowhere. He snaps around and calls the young man by name. Horror hits the man's face as he stares at the protagonist, too late to react, because the young man is already dropping, and before he can hit the ground, the maid shoots in and snatches him into her arms, asking if he's hurt. The young man just beams, glad she made it, and says the girl saved him. The main character flashes a grin and tells her, "You're tougher than you look," even though she seems fragile. Then he adds that his maid's power has to be counted too, and the girl bows low, thanking the young man. She tells the protagonist, nothing's wrong past the walls, no enemy chaos, no damage yet. And the moment he hears it, his face lights up, because that news feels insanely encouraging. He gasps for breath and realizes the truth hits hard now. No matter how much the protagonist chugs that mana potion, fatigue and wild magical burnout slam in anyway, because this is the cost of brewing legendary potions in bulk. The girl realizes they need something that can flip this whole situation on its head, locks eyes with the main character, and tells him she's got one more piece of news. The young man blurts out, "What are you talking about?" And the heroine whips around to the kids, telling them to stand tall and stay brave. The boys can't bring themselves to look their teacher in the eye. Pure shame and embarrassment burns in their chests as they struggle to admit they messed up. The maid gently taps the cat girl and tells her she can go at her own pace. The little girl shuts her eyes tight, begs for forgiveness, and admits the monster's attack might have been their fault. Then she trembles so hard with fear she can't even meet her teacher's gaze. The main character freezes in pure shock, staring at the object the little girl holds out like it's something that shouldn't exist. The girl, clutching a cockatrice egg in her hands, has the man staring, stunned, and absolutely hooked on what happens next. The kid keeps the egg out in front of them, shouting that they came for an adventure, thinking they'd use it as a trophy, not a mess. But one of the men snarls, calls the girl a cat, and yanks the egg right from her hands, saying she has no idea what she just did. The kids are terrified out of their minds, begging for forgiveness with everything they've got. The main character lunges in and yanks the enraged man by the arm, stopping him from slamming a child. He orders the kid to wait, snaps that he's wrong, and the protagonist KNOWS. This isn't the children's fault, not even close. He keeps crushing the man's hand to stop him from hurting the girls, while the maid throws herself in front of the kids to keep them safe. Then the protagonist drops the bomb. There are different kinds of monsters. For example, there are some creatures that hatch right out of eggs. Rumor says the Viasilisks and Karalusks lay eggs that are ridiculously tasty and insanely expensive, so if you sell them, you pocket a nice little fortune. At one of the lectures, the main character tossed out that info, and the girls' eyes practically sparkled, because they decided they were getting that egg. They all chased after him, and the main character only laughed. Maybe one day they'd find him. That's when his wide-eyed, kid-level curiosity lit the whole thing up, because he straight up admitted he didn't even know stealing eggs was banned, and then he shrugged that he was to blame too, since he never told them. The young man snaps, "It's all my fault," right as the other guy tries to cut in and object. His friend suddenly stumbles, gives out from sheer exhaustion, and crumples to the ground. The young man drops to his knees before everyone and begs for forgiveness, insisting the blame for what happened falls only on me, and please don't punish anyone. The kids whip their heads toward the teacher, and the man pauses, then finally admits he's guilty too, because how in the world could he ever think about attacking a little child? The trembling kid tiptoes up again, begs for forgiveness one more time, then the protagonist ruffles his hair and asks, "Will you take an egg from me?" The main character flashes a confident grin and tells everyone, "I've got this, everything's fine, just let me handle the rest." The kid thrusts the egg into the young man's hands, and he fires back, asking what the hero plans to do with it. Kraft just grins and says, "You'll see it all right now." He blurts out, "So what are you doing?" And before they can answer, he snaps into action. It's time to start preparing. He whips around to his assistant, who explains they need to brew the 6th and 9th potions. The protagonist grins and says, "Perfect, then we can get started." He shoves an egg into the barrel and starts blasting it with wild magic spells. With this egg in his hands, he'll pull off the impossible. The entire room explodes with blazing light, pouring out in bright rays from the egg like it's alive. The main character clamps down on the magic, trying to keep it from spilling out. At last, he bursts out, grinning from ear to ear, shouting that he finally pulled off exactly what he set out to do. The protagonist blurts that the cockatrice panacea is ready, and the man freezes, then demands, again, which panacea he means. The protagonist snaps, calling everyone to listen to him carefully. He swears this potion is magic, shine it, and every nasty effect meant for his enemies gets reversed. Breath comes back like a miracle, and even the ones already turned to stone snap back to their old selves. Every head in the room snaps to the main character, and their mouths fall open like they can't believe what they're seeing. The man clamps down on the young man's hand and squeezes it with everything he's got. He asks if they finally don't have to fear breathing anymore, and his eyes brim with tears. While the man can't bring himself to believe they can save everyone already turned to stone. But the protagonist swears it's true and insists they spread that potion right now. Everyone breaks into happy agreement right away. Good news, those cockatrice effects won't mess with us anymore, but the real nightmare is still out there. A whole herd of them, just waiting to ambush us, and I swear I wish they'd show up already. The story slams into the Golden Dawn's strongest squad, and if the Redox group showed up here, they'd flip the entire situation in an instant. The main character snaps a curse, then declares, right now, the only thing that matters is figuring out how to reach this group. The girl blurts out that she thinks she knows where the man's group might be, and the young guy stares at her, totally stunned. He yanks the heroine by the shoulders and demands, tell me, is it true? She blurts out, yes. He pushes again, where are we? You tell me, he says, forcing her to spell it out, and she reveals that when they didn't find the egg downriver near the forest, they stumbled on a camp. The protagonist nods, like it all clicks in his head. It was the calm moment right before the monster hunt exploded into chaos. Between rest and quick prep breaks, something every adventurer swears by, our protagonist studies the map like it's a puzzle made for them, then locks in and decides they've got to be close by. He barks at his friends to follow him to the guild, right now. The protagonist jabs a finger at the map and declares that this spot has to stay the top priority, at least in his eyes, while the Celts scramble everywhere, clutching documents and sprinting like crazy. The cat girl stares at the map, shocked. She fires a question at the young protagonist, what happened? He nods, tells her he's about to explain everything, but first he needs to round up everyone. The protagonist walks up to Kyle and fires off, how's it going? They tell him all the panacea potions are already handed out and the formation is back in place, but then they cut the moment short. There's one nasty snag. The healing potion is nearly gone, and the protagonist snaps in shock. I made so many. Then he chokes out an apology. The ingredients are completely wiped out. Kyle slams a confident grin on it and says they'll figure something out for sure, and the protagonist finally starts telling his story. He says he's got a plan right now to flip the whole situation around, and every hero freezes, staring at him like, wait, what? The young man unfurls the map, declares the odds of hitting the Redox group here are sky high, and jabs a finger at a specific spot. Then the protagonist snaps, I've got to find a way to reach him. So how's he supposed to believe this? These men are really here. The young man shoots back, yeah. Then he whips his hand toward the kids and adds, they told us because they saw our camp with their own eyes. The young man snaps that if it's not true there, they'll still have time to get it done before evening, and on top of that, the Reds could spring a surprise, hitting from both sides. If they move right now, they might finally haul them back, but the protagonist fires off one desperate question. Can they slip past these enemies without drawing a single eye? The other guy shakes his head and admits he fears there's no way to escape unnoticed. Suddenly, he snaps up an idea and tells everyone to hang tight right here. He taps the map and swears that this path is safe to take. The protagonist stunned, wait, can I really do this? And the young man grins and says, yeah, the hero can slip through the sewer network. The protagonist is thrown into shock, then snaps his eyes to the sewer diagram. Yeah, then it's the sewer system. If you cut the water supply, and that part's not even hard, you can slip out fast, just a short distance from the camp where that guy and his squad are posted. The young man swears that if you slip through the sewer network, you'll slip under the enemy unseen, and end up meeting the Redox squad. But the sewer network is a maze, and if they can't find LaFontaine by asking her, they'll get swallowed up and lose their way. So the protagonist snaps around to everyone and demands they urgently call for her, and the maid immediately carries out his order. She burst out of the room and he almost asked his foreign tourists, then he realized this works for him too. Still, one thing gnawed at him, the heroine's crazy speed, because racing through the city like that could get her hurt. The protagonist insists that with LaFontaine they'll never get lost, so he pushes the girl to head straight past the city limits. Then a kid blurts, take me with you, and the young man freezes, staring down in shock. Edo stares up at him with those huge, tear-soaked eyes, and every inch of him pleads, begging, take me with you. The main character charges up the stairs like his life depends on it. A young man grips the two of them tight, making sure neither slips off his horse, and as the girl swivels toward the main character, she blurts that there's a street up the stairs. The young man nods like he gets it, then drives his horse forward. While the child strains to say something, the man snaps, "SHH, don't bite your tongue," and keeps him quiet. In the meantime, he can count on him. He insists the kid can help. The protagonist fires back, asking if it's really true the child will show him how to reach their allies. The kid just grins. He's saying, "Of course, I'll show you, no doubt about it." The moment is here. Our heroes are ready to come back, and this time they're bringing reinforcements with them. While all that's going on, deep in the forest, a monster hunt is raging. Then one man fires on a massive beast, warning that its screams can mess with their mission. He chops off his head, then orders him to leave this life in silence. A stunning warrior leaps off it like a comet. With a special magical tool in hand, Seal and the hero hoist the monster's severed body up into the sky. The young man tells them to drop down a bit, then asks one of his coworkers if they're finished here. The girl says she'll climb higher to double-check, and the other two carefully lower the monster down, step by step, like they can't afford a single mistake. Battling monsters in silence isn't easy, but it keeps them from running into a single cockatrice. Today, they've got 3 missions: grab ingredients for a potion, wipe out the monsters whose rampage threatens the city, and scout how far the cockatrice has pushed forward. They tried slipping into the fight without drawing the enemy's eye, and somehow it backfired, leaving them with 0 intel, so the team leader mutters that they need to press deeper into the forest. The scout hesitates, then says she can't be sure, but she's pretty sure a huge pack of cockatrices is moving in one direction. The boy asks if they're not headed for the city, and the girl snaps back, no. She insists they're cutting off from the city, even though in the chaos they were meant to charge straight in and smash it. So tell me, what's supposed to be more tempting than the city? The man snaps that their route is about to change, and the heroes waste no time, tailing their opponents straight into it. Right now, the only thing we can bank on is this: they might not hold the city back, but if they stay one step ahead of the enemy, they'll finally read the situation more clearly, because no one knows what's coming next, and still, a brutal surprise attack feels almost guaranteed. Hero, they all nod and swear that if their leader commands it, they'll obey without hesitation, so let them regret walking out of here, because the young man already knows they'd fall in line. The man gratefully thanks them for their understanding, and at the same time the forest is crawling with monster traces. The hero slams into these giant tracks, then spots the truth. A ton of opponents already tore through here. He and the others fire off questions, demanding to know where they're going and what's really happening, but the answers stay foggy. And that's what scares him. These tracks don't just scream panic, they whisper it loud. If it were true, the tracks should have looked all over the place, but they're perfectly lined up, coordinated like someone planned it. And while they're walking, the path is still in normal condition. His partner gapes at him, then fires back, asking if it all went back to normal already when they passed through here. The hero jabs his hand to the side and snaps. It's already close right there. It hits him one more step, and they'll finally crack the truth behind the cockatrices' terrifying madness. The girl snaps, asking why everyone's terrified right now, and reminds them it's literally their job to dig into why the opponents acted like this. Then she shouts that they have to hurry. But just as she does, the girl suddenly freezes in place. All the heroes lock eyes at the same moment, completely stunned, because none of them have any clue what's going on. A colossal, weirdly twisted tree jutted up in front of them, towering like it didn't belong in this world. The hero freezes, tilts his head up, and stares hard at the mystery, while the squad leader starts sweating and blurts, "Wait, is this really the same tree?" One of the expedition members swears his teacher once told him about plants that can drive animals into a total frenzy, but the worst part is he has 0 details to back it up. Right out of the dark forest, a colossal monster lunges into view. The heroes yank on their masks in sheer terror, praying they don't get hit by his foul breath. Then a massive cockatrice charges at full speed straight for that mysterious tree, while their squad leader stares, grim and focused. As the moment the plant comes into range, he topples onto the ground and starts rolling right over it. The hero stares in shock, totally lost as the monster digs its claws into the tree's roots, like it's trying to tear the whole world apart. The squad's leader locks onto the chaos, dread gripping him, because he's about to witness a phenomenon like this for the very first time, and right in front of his eyes, the monsters start to surge up. The giant bird's eyes bulge to the brink, and a horrifying, unstoppable liquid spills from its mouth. Eventually, the bird drops hard to the ground, its eyes rolling wildly in their sockets. The bird keeps fighting for its life, thrashing wildly as white foam pours out of its mouth. The heroes freeze in place, terrified they'll spook the strange creature. Then someone blurts out that Bardak was right after all, and it hits like a prophecy coming true. The heroes finally figure it out. The monster isn't running from them at all, it's fleeing because of the tree. The heroes keep standing there, staring up at the sky, until the leader snaps out of his stupor first. He orders everyone to study these plants right away, tells his assistants to search the area, and then the girl drops to the ground, eyes widening as she spots something shiny glinting in the grass. She slips one of the scales into her grip and holds it to the sunlight. Then the heroes gasp, realizing it's a real dragon scale. The young man studies every detail, then breaks into a grin and says, "Now I finally see what everything was really like." One of the soldiers snaps to attention and pushes the captain to get a closer look at the tree roots, and there it is. Deep in the wood are claw marks carved into the roots, sharp and undeniable. The size screams only one thing. Those belong to a huge dragon. The man insists that tree was probably dragon chow, like that whole thing they just wiped out had to eat it, while everyone else screams in horror because they know that can't be true. The young man proves it by slaying the dragon, and with the threat gone, they finally make the forest's tree safe again, only for the madness it breeds to slam into them in overwhelming waves. One of the young guys blurts that they changed the whole ecosystem of the tree zone, and his teammates shoot back that they didn't slaughter the dragon just to make everything worse. Then the machine shuts them down, saying nobody really knows for sure, but right now, this panicked escape is at least the best explanation they've got. That tree is a ticking bomb, dangerous as hell, so they have to burn it ASAP, and the hero nods in full agreement. The squad fires up the tree and stares as flames creep across it, but it refuses to go down, so the young man snaps, "We've got to hit it harder than that." They've got to torch it before every enemy comes flooding back, and the moment it clicks, the girl spots something shocking. She senses something massive creeping in, and the heroine warns it's going to be huge, so the man assumes you're a monster, then panics and wriggles free, insisting they need more time. He barks orders for his comrades to keep torching the tree, then he sprints straight toward the monster, because he knows the panic can't keep spreading or they'll never stop it. He plants himself in front of the massive monster and screams, "You're not getting past me." Then the hero's eyes widen, people start spilling off him like they'd been stuck there the whole time. The protagonist breaks into praise for the black dragon, raving that he nailed it, and when the squad leader stares at the young man in pure shock, he blurts, "Wait, so it's really you." Before the young man smiles and says, "We finally found you." The baby rockets onto the man and clamps him in a hug, and the squad's leader can't believe the shock of them showing up out of nowhere. The protagonist admits they never found the camp where the detachment last saw food, so they followed the smoke instead, and he's practically bursting with relief because he honestly thought he'd fall apart even with this. Then he praises the child and tells him, "You tried hard," but the heroes can't waste time talking, so the young man promises he'll explain everything on the way and asks the warriors to name their comrades. But all he could think was that the tree would somehow make the trouble vanish. But the stampede is still roaring, and it's only getting uglier. Vaughn says he heard the potions needed to counteract the nuts would take weeks to brew, so he pushes the protagonist. "How's it going?" He just grins and says he found a solution, and now he's got to go ask his friends for help. He tells them he needs their help to survive the rampaging opponents. He tells them, of course, this request is tied to the risk of death, so the heroes can refuse, and before that lands, the young man cuts the protagonist off. He leans in and asks the kid, "So tell me, how well do you know me, and how long have you really been in my life?" The protagonist pauses to think, then the warriors snap back that he's a little late for the slaughter, so they'll make him give the opponents the full treatment, and the young man can't help but beam with sincere gratitude toward his friend. The knight was stunned. The kid actually knew where their camp was, even though it wasn't exactly well hidden since it sat pretty close to the city. The protagonist then insisted it all happened because of his own blunder, and said that if anyone had that kind of power at that age, they'd be chasing adventures too. The brave writer snaps that in moments like this, they shoulder responsibility too. They got carried away and pushed the training too hard. The team girl nods, saying they should have taught more than brute strength. They needed to hammer in responsibility as well. Even if adventurers call their own shots, they're still just kids. Now the protagonist finally gets why Kyle wouldn't stop preaching how education shapes a kid's upbringing. And man, raising children is anything but easy, so he turns and asks why everyone looks so crushed. The girl beside him bursts out, yelling that they'll toss their opponents out, then slams the room with one command, "Get your spirits up." She shrieks that they'll never take over her house again, then vows she'll make the whole city remember who's really in charge. The knight just laughs and calls it exactly the right spirit for the guild's head. Then the protagonist whips around to the kid and tells him, "Don't worry." He vows they'll protect the city for sure, then asks the girl if he's still upset. She snaps at him to keep his chin up, and the young man even jokes that maybe the kid isn't weak at all, just scared of the enemy. Right there, he blurts out screaming denials, insisting he's not scared of anyone, while the main character snaps that this is a whole different situation and urges him to go back home like this. The comrades charge back home, fired up and ready to keep the fight alive. And now the moment they've been chasing, this is it, their absolute finest hour. The hero rockets toward the house, tearing down the road at full speed, and the young man snaps at Edo to duck low and grip on tight. Then they both lock in and agree to follow the plan. The main character storms to the front of the pack, shouts a war cry, and drags everyone into the attack. He shoots his hand forward, and a burst of blinding light pours out from his fingertips. Your opponents have one fatal weakness, and the knights figured it out the hard way through years of spying, but it only pays off when the sky goes dark, right when their plan kicks in, light. Under that harsh night glow, they'll blind and throw them off balance, so badly for so long. They lock in the plan, and all but bet their lives that the protagonist can pull it off. Now it's go time for that secret plan. He has to aim the light straight at his enemies, and the hero nails it by tapping into the sun's power. The monsters snap to a stop, stare up, and gasp, where on earth is that light coming from? The knight steps in and hypes the main character up, praising him for a job done perfectly, because somehow, after all that, they finally scramble the enemy's focus and throw them off. Now the monsters have morphed into plain old chickens, and the moment is theirs. Friends sprint in and unleash the attack. He cranks his speed up, toughens his body with heat resistance, and then one clean strike. He screams a battle cry and charges straight into the fight. The hero smashes forward with a brutal strike, summons a roaring hurricane storm, and chops down mountains like they're nothing. They clobber the enemy with one brutal combo attack, praying their combined force finally breaks through. The main character rockets forward, going straight for the last remaining opponents. He hurls blazing light projectiles that blind him, then drops gifts on his helpless target. From the outside, that fight looks absolutely epic. The knight bellows that they've smashed through the formation, and he swears the heart of it has to be right around here. He barks orders at everyone to clear a path, make room for the craft. The young man whips around to the protagonist and flashes a sharp signal, do it now, right now. No hero should burn every ounce of magic in a fight, because once it's gone, he's totally defenseless. But right now, he's seconds away from casting magic that demands every last bit. No potion will refill him. All he has left is time. Still, he doesn't flinch at being totally defenseless on this battlefield, because his comrades are rock solid, and with their backing, he can cast magic without a shred of fear, while the hero hypes the young man on. The main character unleashes the fiery hell technique, the inferno gust crashing down like living flames. Flames swallowed everything around him, turning the world into a blazing inferno. Flames devour every opponent, scorching them into ash while the heroes stare in stunned amazement, because even they never saw the main character's power coming. The young man flashes a grin, then crumples down, utterly drained. His friends rush in, hauling him up as they shower him with praise for smashing the fight, because he really gave everything, and now the heroes get it, back off and leave him be. He's burned through every last drop of energy. The warriors fire off the question, was it your magic? Then they push the protagonist to rest and swear they'll wipe out the rest of the enemies themselves. The knight pulls the protagonist aside and asks for a few glorious feats, and the protagonist flashes a fist to seal the friendship, then thanks him for the help. The warriors surge into the enemy's last remnants in a tight, friendly pack, and one of the main character's comrades slams into him, holding him back, yelling that if he can't fight right now, he'll stay right beside him as the next target. The young man snaps back, asking if it'd be better if he ran off to help the others, and then questions whether he's really forgotten who's standing next to him. The main character flashes a grin and blurts out, "No way, I totally forgot." Warriors clash with pure joy, cheering each other on and needling their opponents like it's part of the game. Did the enemy really think they could mess with them? Tonight, they're celebrating with rotisserie chicken for dinner. They break down step by step exactly what they can prepare from the catch and how to do it. Even the ordinary warriors rush into the fight, knowing those shell-shocked foes can't hurt them, and yeah, they've taken down dragons before. So with everyone pitching in, the Golden Dawn got saved. Every enemy got wiped out, no one survived, and the warriors who fell in battle were brought back, resurrected and thawed from their frozen fate. The hero hauls every monster corpse into one giant pile, then dashes to scatter them into the earth and torch them with a flammable potion the main hero brewed, fast, because once the rot kicks in, it's all over. Right ahead, a whole stretch of magical stones sprawls before the heroes, and they don't even think about burning them, they grab them for themselves. The kid shoves empty vials of a flammable potion into the main character's hands, chattering and fussing like crazy, trying everything he can to make up for his guilt, then scrambling to help the main character who forgave him so nobly and with real understanding. The girl yanks him to a stop and flashes a sign quiet. The kid stares at her, stunned, then snaps his eyes to the young man. Exhausted, the protagonist crashes asleep right in the middle of the room, and even he can't fight on when he's wiped out, so the girl hands over the baby and lets him finally rest. He earned it big time, and with that, the whole battle plot against the opponents gets shut down.